What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 8 Astronomical Units. Chapter 191 Open the Dimensional Breaker. After spending 2 days in Kokoyashi Village, Nami and Nuouchigao also packed up and left Kokoyashi Village with Ronan. Although the villagers were a little bit reluctant, they also lined up to send everyone away. The villagers have been exploited by the Arlong group over the years, but this time they took back all the money they had previously exploited. The property left by the Arlong group was distributed to the villagers by Nami. Of course Chi Gao greeted her with a smile. After leaving Kokoyashi village, he headed directly to Upside Down Mountain. After arriving at the Grand Line, he saw Laboon who was still waiting. Ronan remembered that he had promised Laboon to find Brook before, but after so long, he didn't care. I've looked for it. I'm a bit sorry about this simple whale when I think of it. Fortunately, Laboon may be sleeping. I didn't bump into Ronan and the others. Ronan passed the Upside Down Mountain smoothly, past Sabodi Archipelago, and entered the Fishman Island. After picking up Shirahoshi, he returned to New World, Aran Island. After arriving at Aran Island, Ronan called the red-haired Shanks and asked him to help find Brook's traces. He said that Mihawk likes to play around and might meet Brook, so he called Mihawk again. He paid attention to Brook's trail and brought the news of the whale Laboon to Brook. Ronan didn't personally go to deliberately find Brook, and the ghost ship this guy was riding on was floating in a ghostly place. When Ronan arranged these things, the newly joined Shirahoshi Vivi and Nami Nuouchigao also got acquainted with other girls, and they went shopping, playing, and even playing cards together very happily every day, get along very well everywhere. After Ronan arranged these things, he came to a quiet room alone and took out the thing that the system had previously rewarded for the 1000th sign-in, the Dimensional Wallbreaker. System, what should I pay attention to when turning on the Dimensional Wallbreaker? Will there be energy bursts when it is turned on, destroying the surrounding environment and other things? Before turning on the Dimensional Wallbreaker, these important things still need to be asked clearly. Otherwise, if you don't say, you may be in danger, even if your demigod power can resist it, but the island of Aran can't hold it outside. Robin, Vivi, Nami, and others can't hold it. Host, opening the Dimensional Wallbreaker is not as dangerous as you said, and there is no danger at all. The system said. The dangerous place is after opening, after entering other dimensions. If the dimensional world has a higher level, you will encounter with the existence of strong individual strength. Host may encounter a life crisis. Advertisement. That's it, that's okay. Ronan mainly asked whether it is dangerous to turn on the Dimensional Wallbreaker. Since it is not dangerous to turn on the Dimensional Wallbreaker, it is fine. As for the opening, you may encounter encounters in the open dimensional world. It's a very normal thing, just like when Ronan first came to Pirate World, his strength was not as strong as he is now. If he encounters Yimu and Uranus at the beginning, he will definitely be killed. After Ronan quickly passed the early developmental period, until now, he is invincible vertically and horizontally. Naturally, there is no accident. After all, he is also a systematic person. There is such a cheat that is unparalleled in the world and suppresses the world. What a big problem. Speaking back, after asking the system to open the Dimensional Wallbreaker, Ronan took a deep breath and was ready to open the Dimensional Wallbreaker. System, receive the Dimensional Breaker. As Ronan spoke, he began to receive the Dimensional Breaker that had been stored in the system space. The light in front of him flashed, and the Dimensional Wallbreaker appeared in front of Ronan. It was a disc-like object, the size of a pod lid, but it was extremely round, exuding a mild milky white halo, like a jade plate. This thing does not look like a technological product, but more like a magic weapon from the world of Shenxia. But it is actually a high-tech product from the civilization of Transcendence. Transcendence civilization is an immortal civilization for everyone. Through the questioning system, it is a technological civilization, not a cultivator civilization. Perhaps it is the reason that different paths lead to the same goal, or Ronan's current vision is too low and his vision is too low, so distinguish it is not clear whether this Yuan Wallbreaker is a technological creation or a magic weapon of Shenxia. Follow him. What if I don't understand it? This thing is also an immortal technological creation. If it can be seen by a demigod like me, then the Transcendence civilization is too inferior. Ronan shook his head, did not entangle with such things, but carefully checked the use of the Dimensional Wallbreaker. After reading it, he settled down and fixed his gaze on the Dimensional Wallbreaker. Concentrating calmly, a peculiar power in his mind radiated. This is the release of mental power. Ronan's mental power was directly covered on the Dimensional Wallbreaker, and according to the method in the instruction manual, he began to adjust the frequency of mental power. This is a way to open it by relying on mental power. It has been spent about 10 minutes, after changing 63 different frequencies. Finally, the Dimensional Wallbreaker clicked and opened. After the click, a dark blue mysterious gem suddenly appeared at the center of the jade plate like Dimensional Wallbreaker. The halo on the jade plate continued to converge on the deep sapphire, and then under Ronan's control, the deep sapphire turned towards in the empty room. A blue light was shot, and the light condensed into a door with a dark blue frame. This door is the gateway to another dimensional world opened by the Dimensional Wallbreaker. Advertisement. At the same time, a piece of information emerged from the Dimensional Wallbreaker. Ronan read this information for the first time through the link between his spiritual power and the Dimensional Wallbreaker. This is about the level judgment of the world behind the open portal. The lower level Gaowu world has an Earth-like background and has extraordinary powers. Ronan suddenly, this is a world similar to the background of the Earth, and it should also be a dimensional world under the projection of the real world. I don't know what kind of world it is. The Marvel world is unlikely, it can even be said to be almost impossible, if it is the Earth of the Marvel world, and at least it has to be of a prehistoric level, and the level must be determined according to the universe or multiverse. And now the information given by this dimensional wall-breaking machine. The world level behind this portal is not so high, of course, it is also possible that the judgment range is not large enough. For the specifics, Ronan needs to go to check it in person. He used the dimensional breaker for the first time. Although he carefully checked the instructions for use, he also asked about system-related information many times, to know. It's finally turned on, Ronan exhaled, and then looked at the portal calmly. The past must be past, but before the real danger level is determined, Robin and the others can't be brought there. I have to go over and check it out. Well, in order to prevent accidents, let Robin and the others arrange it first. Ronan shook his head, and instead of breaking in at the first time, he turned and left the room. Ronan walked out of the room, called Robin and Orovia, and did not tell the other girls. It was not that he did not believe in other people, but that he felt that going to another dimensional world this time should not be dangerous and unnecessary. Being so serious, arranging things with Orovia and Robin, was just in case, such as to prevent the impact of the difference in time flow between the two worlds. Hearing Ronan's arrangement and some of the items that Ronan left behind, even Ronan left the sky ring, Orovia didn't speak and was a little silent, while Robin was a little anxious, because it looked like Ronan looked like after arranging the funeral. How could she not worry about it? Chapter 192. Where is this? The Blade of Ghost Slayer. Haha, Robin, don't worry. Actually, the level of that world is about the same as ours, maybe even lower. Think about it, I'm invincible in this world. What is the danger if I go to another world? Ronan laughed and comforted Robin. Although Robin is mature, stable and elegant, he and Orovia are like sisters, but when facing Ronan, he is still as dependent as when he was a child. No, Ronan, you are not only alone, but also my mother, me and other sisters. What if something happens to you? As Robin spoke, he turned around and said, why don't I go with you? Anyway, you also said that the world is not dangerous? No, I have to go and explore the path first. Don't worry, I will come back as soon as I figure out the situation. With the dimensional wall breaker in hand, the world coordinates have been locked. Don't worry about the situation where you can't come back. If it happens, I can come back through the dimensional breaker at any time. Although it takes 100 years to recharge the dimensional wall breaker once it is turned on, once the dimensional world is opened this time, the dimensional wall breaker will lock the coordinates. It can be opened almost unlimitedly at the same time, only to open a new world. You need to cool down for 100 years of charging, because that requires world source energy to search for the world coordinates. Of course, the world that already has coordinates does not have to be so troublesome. It can be opened at a small price. This requires a price. It's just a little bit of Ronan's mental power, which shouldn't be a concern. So in the end, Ronan rejected Robin's plan to go with him, and then he made the decision like this, ignoring Robin's objection. Okay Robin, Ronan makes a lot of sense in doing this, so stop messing around. Orovia held the sky ring left by Ronan in his hand, took a deep breath and looked at Ronan, and said seriously, Ronan, you must be careful when you arrive in that world, as you said, first find out the situation, and then return immediately. If it is not dangerous, you can also take us to sea. If it is dangerous, don't pass it again. I understand, don't worry. Ronan smiled slightly, feeling that he was thinking about the matter seriously. He was obviously just a low-ranking world of martial arts, similar to the pirate world, and even worse, he was so safe, and a little too careful. After everything was arranged, Ronan left with the two worried expressions, returned to the previous room, looked at the dark blue portal in front of him, and then took a deep breath and raised his leg and walked in towards the portal. After a feeling of rippling water, Ronan came to a new dimension world, a new dimension different from the pirate world. Ronan looked up and looked around, feeling that the environment here was a bit inexplicable. Advertisement, what kind of world is this? It seems a bit like the Earth. Ronan murmured, and then flew directly into the air to observe the surrounding situation. This is a somewhat dilapidated small city. When Ronan flew up to the sky and looked down, he could find that this small city had a very old appearance. Right below was the place where he came in, and there was also a shadowy jade plate floating. Needless to say, it was the dimensional wall breaker, and there was a dark blue portal in front of the dimensional wall breaker, which was the portal from which he came through. After the dimensional wall breaker is turned on, a virtual shadow clone will be formed in another world. The host can be transformed into a real dimensional wall breaker through this virtual shadow clone. After the conversion is completed, the dimensional wall breaker on the pirate world will turn into a virtual shadow state, and the dimensional wall breaker on the host side will become the main body, which can only be controlled by the main body. Any existence that passes through the dark blue portal requires the consent of the host to shuttle. The system explained at this time. I didn't understand when I read the manual before, but now I understand it. Ronan nodded, and understood some of the operation methods of the dimensional breaker. After that, he landed directly and began to transform the dimensional wall breaker, which was soon completed. The dimensional wall breaker was bound to Ronan's mental power, and he only needed to consume some mental power to complete the transformation. After the transformation of the dimensional wall breaker was completed, he collected the other storage equipment he had previously signed in, a storage necklace, and then he did not fly into the sky. This is an Earth-like world, even if it is extraordinary. Power. Maybe ordinary people don't know. If he flies into the sky and is discovered by ordinary people, it may cause some unnecessary effects on the ordinary world of this world, and he can't attract the attention of this world too early. The main reason is that he still doesn't understand what kind of world this is. If you say it is a completely Earth-like environment, why is a small city so dilapidated? But this didn't make it difficult for Ronan in the slightest. He stepped straight out and walked towards the center of the small city. There are more information available in places with a lot of people. First, think of a way to see what kind of world this is. Just as Ronan saw in the sky, this is a dilapidated small city. As Ronan went deeper, he found that some plaques and curtains in this small city were hung with Japanese characters, and Ronan was a little surprised. I guess it's another day comic dimension, just don't know which anime or movie TV series it is. With the passage of time, Ronan spent several hours in this small broken city and finally figured out some things. Although he still couldn't figure out which movie or anime it was, he figured out the time, and other issues. The timeline is in the Taisho period. The First World War seems to have just ended, and the whole world is recuperating. The timeline is clear, but Ronan is still confused about what Ronan wants to know. This timeline does not represent anything. Could it be an anime movie about World War II? Advertisement? No, according to the information from the Dimensional Breaker, this is a world with extraordinary powers. Isn't it possible that World War II will have a magical battle? Ronan turned Byakugan over, and it seemed a bit too big to think about it. Then he stopped thinking about these things. Even the weapons of World War II did not threaten him, who is now a demigod, without fear. Would you like to go back and talk to Orovia and the others? Well, let's wait, at least we have to figure out what the extraordinary power of this world is about. Ronan thought for a while before he decided, and then he remembered an important thing. Yes, sign in, this can't be forgotten. Maybe you can guess about the extraordinary power of this world from the sign-in reward. System. Sign into this city. Ronan directly communicated with the system in his mind and directly asked to sign into this city. Ding. Sign in successfully, congratulations to host. Get a reward, the breathing method of inflammation. Yan's breathing method. One of the world's methods, a kind of cultivation method, one of the basic 5 schools of breathing methods, derived from the Purgatory family inheritance breathing method. When he saw this, Ronan suddenly understood that he had finally figured out which world this was. The Blade of Ghost Slayer. This turned out to be the world of Demon Slayer Blade. The time is indeed right. In the Taisho period, the First World War has just ended, and the Second World War has not yet begun. Ronan rubbed his chin and thought, however, to say that this world is a low-level high arms world, is this a bit overestimated? The pirate world is also a low-level high arms world, but the height of the combat power of the pirate world obviously requires isn't it better than the Demon Slayer Blade? Even this Demon Slayer Blade can also be called the high martial world? Are you kidding me? Thinking of this, Ronan couldn't help but shook his head, and at this moment, the system responded. Hearing the system's explanation, Ronan was a little surprised. He seemed to underestimate the world. Chapter 193. Encounter. The Crisis of the Ghost Killing Team. Host. The world of pirates has been promoted to the world of Gawu, mainly relying on the ability of Devil Fruit, and this world of Devil's Blade relies on the power of ghosts and breathing methods. The breathing method here has great potential, and the sea in the world of thieves, the method of cultivation is worse. Even the 3 Hakis are not the method of cultivation. The systematic explanation made Ronan a little bit astonished. The transcendent level of a world is mainly distinguished from the climbing of transcendent power. The height of a kind of exercise can be raised, which has a great influence on the world ranking, of course. Some worlds don't have a cultivation method, but if the world level is very high in such a world, you must pay attention to it. Maybe there are some extraordinary creatures with terrible bloodlines in that world. Just like the Sea Kings in the pirate world, those Sea Kings have no cultivation method, and their wisdom is very low, and they are not much higher than ordinary marine creatures, but the destructive power of Sea Kings is unparalleled. Therefore, even though the strength of the combat power in the Blade of Demon Slayer is not high in Ronan's eyes, it still belongs to the same level as the One Piece world in the world rating. Well, I didn't expect that you have a high evaluation of breathing techniques like this. Ronan smiled indifferently, but no matter how good this breathing method is, it is only a lower-level high-level martial arts technique. Some of the techniques that I am practicing now, and that I have previously signed in from the higher-level world, are still incomparable. Of course. The system said, the potential of the breathing method is only good in the lower-level high-level martial arts, but it is still not comparable to those of the immortal martial world. After all, the world-level gap is there, the system said. However, host, this is the first dimensional world you have opened. If you sign in some famous places in this world, the rewards won will not be bad, and it will even be better than in the pirate world. Oh, is there such a good thing? Ronan's eyes lit up when he heard the words. Will you get the Phoenix Power Rule Fragment? Or come with a technique that goes directly to the Saint Realm? Whether you can get such a reward, you will know after you sign in, the system answered truthfully. When Ronan heard the words, he lowered his head and thought, then there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. The world of Demon Slayer Blade, not to mention that this is the background of the Earth, can be signed by all countries in the world. Just say that there are several comparisons in the original plot. You can sign in at famous places, such as Gyu Suji's lair Infinite City, the headquarters of the Ghost Killing Team, or Fujiakiyama. However, before going to check in, I have to go back first, otherwise Robin and the others will definitely be worried. Now Ronan is not alone. There are a group of girls in the family to take care of. Ronan promised Robin and the others. If there is no danger in this world, he will go back and bring them together. Now I know that this world turns out to be the plot world of the Blade of Ghost Slayer, then there is not much to worry about. All the girls are not weak, like Dana who owns Thunderfruit, they can be the king in the world of Demon Slayer, and coming together in this world is not alone, but everyone is together, let alone encounter it is too dangerous, even if you encounter a ghost Dan Suji, you are not afraid. Ronan thought about this, so he prepared to take out the dimensional wall breaker to open the portal, and go back to Aran Island to bring the girls to play here. Well, for Ronan, it was true that he signed in everywhere in the world of Demon Slayer. It can only be said to be relaxing when playing. Advertisement: this world is in the 19th century, and it is still very different from the pirate world. If you want to come here, the ladies must be very curious about it. Just when Ronan was about to open the portal, in a dark corner of the small city where he was, a hideous humanoid monster was having saliva flowing in his mouth, and he was holding a child in his hand and preparing to take a bite. Audacious evil spirit, who has been chasing you for a long time, can't help but do it. A crisp voice sounded, startling the evil spirit. Damn it, you guys are really lingering on the ghost killing team. You still don't give up after chasing here? This evil ghost shouted angrily and hid in the dark and did not dare to come out. The time is now in the evening, and the sun outside then sets in the west, but there are still some afterglows. He is not a ghost at the level of 12 ghosts, even if the sun's rays are weak. Don't dare to be exposed rashly. Hey, these ghost-killing teams are really fooled. The great master Yuoza is as expected. This time, we must kill all the ghost-killing teams. Looking forward to it. I don't know how good these ghost killers are. This seems to be just an ordinary evil spirit, even quite embarrassed in the pursuit of the ghost-killing team. The guy who fled everywhere turned out to be the subordinate of Yuoza, and this is a plot against the ghost-killing team. On the dilapidated house, a few figures quickly approached, stood still, and the head of the man was plump, young, and very beautiful with pink hair. This woman is not someone else, she is the love pillar of the ghost-killing team, Nectar. See Millie, behind her is an ordinary ghost killer. The ghost she led the team to kill this time is a very cruel ghost with dozens of kills. After chasing it all the way, she finally caught it in such a small city. The other party, I can't let him run away anymore. Get ready to die, Lianju snorted, then waved. Kill him, solve it early, and return to the headquarters early. Understood, Lord Lianju. The several ghost-killing team swordsmen behind him glanced at each other, nodded their heads, and then drew out the sunwheel knife around his waist, jumped off the roof, and killed the ghost in the shadows. Hey. Suddenly, the ghost that looked like meat on the chopping board in the eyes of the ghost-killing team sneered, making the ghost-killing team swordsman a little strange, but Koyanju suddenly changed his face and turned his head to look a little ugly. In one direction, over there, a man with a faceless face full of weird tattoos appeared. Advertisement: Yuozo. It turned out to be you. Could it be that? Koyanju's face was sullen, and he looked at the man who appeared suddenly and said unwillingly, when, as the first quarter of December, did you use this method? It's no problem to be able to kill a pillar rank with a little trick, Yuozo said coldly. Damn it. Lianju cursed secretly, and ignored the ghost underneath. It was obviously a bait, the bait to lure himself here. Is 12 Ghost Moon so impatient to kill the column-level swordsman? Koyanju is thinking about countermeasures while watching the surroundings. Yuoza is the third of the first quarter of the moon, and his strength is very terrifying. Among the pillars of the ghost-killing team, his strength is low, and he is definitely not the opponent, so the opponent should be one. People come, so if you want to escape, you also have a chance. Are you thinking about how to escape? Yuozao looked at Ganlu Temple Millie coldly. Don't waste your time. A low sound of Pippa sounded, and when Shienju heard it, his face became even more ugly. Naruto is here too? It takes so much work to deal with me? Naming girl didn't come here in person, just to deal with you this time. She used some blood ghosts. Yuozo said calmly. Well, after all that nonsense, it's time to send you on the road. At this critical juncture, a few people suddenly changed their expressions. Even the originally nervous ghost-killing team swordsmen turned their heads in amazement, looking down, and saw that the streets of the ruined town were originally deserted. On the street, a handsome young man in white came unexpectedly. Hey, get out of here. Seeing this, Lianju suddenly shouted, wanting to remind this ordinary person who broke into the ghost-killing team to fight the ghost. On the street below, the handsome young man in white is an ordinary person, not someone else, but Ronan, raised his head and looked towards the roof with a smile. Chapter 194 Kill Ghosts in Seconds. The audience was shocked. Ha, I didn't expect human beings to enter our battlefield. The decoy ghost suddenly laughed fiercely. He couldn't get involved in the battle between Yuozao and Lianju, even the ghost-killer swordsman of Lianju's team, a few people added up. He was not a ghost that could fight against him. He was already prepared to hide, and waited for Yuozao to solve the ghost-killing team swordsman like Lianju before he came out to ask for a reward. But now, an ordinary human has rushed over. You must know that this broken city was originally a battlefield with few people. It was a deliberately chosen battlefield. It was not easy to attract human attention, but now I don't know why. An ordinary human came here. Of course this ghost can't let him go. Therefore, just after Lianju yelled, he started to move. Even the Yuozao didn't have any expressions. It was just an ordinary human being. At this moment, the sun in the western sky had completely set, and the sky gradually dimmed, and the ghost was able to move out normally. Seeing this, Lianju is even more anxious, but Yuoza is right in front of him. Once he reveals a flaw, he will definitely be caught by the other party. You must know that Yuoza is the third winder, and the strength is very powerful, even if Lianju there are a group of ghost-killing team swordsman helpers nearby. It is very difficult or even impossible to defeat the opponent, so there is no way to take care of him at all. Here, Ronan smiled, as if he didn't care at all, but looked at Lianju with interest. This woman is really beautiful and kind-hearted. She has to be overwhelmed and remind herself to hurry, run. The situation in front of me is obviously a trap set by a ghost. If I didn't encounter it myself, would Lianju want to explain it here? It's not right, Koiju didn't die at this time in the original plot. Could it be that the plot has changed? Ronan raised his brows and saw a ghost rushing towards him with an evil bloody aura, so he stopped thinking about these things. He would naturally know how to do it in the future. Ha ha ha, kid, die for me. The ghost laughed triumphantly. His hands had changed shape, turned into a pair of sharp claws. Each finger was like a sharp blade, cutting through the air, with a bit of a bitter voice, towards Ronan's grabbed the head. If Ronan was really just an ordinary person, with the speed and sharp claws of the opponent's ghost, he would inevitably be scratched by the opponent's head without any response, and his brain would crack. However, it is a pity that the opponent encountered Ronan, a demigod-level powerhouse, and an existence far beyond the power level of this world. To put it bluntly, even the ancestor of ghosts, Giwu Suji, did not face the misery. Ronan was able to stop the opponent at will, not to mention this little ghost in front of him. Advertisement then. Ronan just raised a hand lightly, even with a flick of his finger. Boom. After a crisp sound, this seemingly majestic, terrifying ghost, unexpectedly exploded out of thin air, turned into blood and scattered on the ground. This scene stunned everyone in the field. The few ghost-killing team swordsmen were dumbfounded, and they didn't understand why the ghost that was so arrogant before was suddenly gone. And Lianju was not much different. She thought that the other party was just an ordinary person. Seeing the ghost's claws, she was about to burst Ronan's head. She couldn't bear to sigh in her heart, but the next moment, it turned out to be the other party. A finger exploded that ghost. What's happening here? Isn't this person an ordinary person? What happened at this moment really shows that this person is absolutely impossible to be an ordinary person. The indifferent expression that Yuazo has always maintained is incomparably stunned. He stared at this scene with his eyes widened, and his mind went blank. This person, who on Earth, actually exploded a ghost with a single finger. The most important thing is that he didn't see that ghost resurrected. Yes. You must know that ghosts in this world, as long as the neck is not chopped off, and the neck is chopped off by the sunblade, no other means can kill a ghost. Even if it is chopped up, it can be resurrected, and now, in front of you this man actually killed a ghost without using the sunwheel. How could this not let him be astonished? He would not be astonished when a ghost was killed. What he cared about was that the other party could kill a ghost without a heliostat. If there were such a method, wouldn't all ghosts be dangerous? NS? Ghost. That ghost was not resurrected. At this moment, one of the swordsmen of the ghost-killing team who had been in a daze next to him exclaimed. They clearly saw that Ronan did not use the sunshade, but the ghost in front of him had not been resurrected, just like the Yuazo. Again, they were horrified. Really, is it another special method? Ganlu Temple Millie also discovered this, and immediately turned her curiosity and inquisitive gaze to Ronan. As for the confrontation with Yuazo, she and her at this moment Yuazo didn't care anymore. The man who suddenly appeared in front of him was the most important focus right now. Advertisement. Dare to ask, this gentleman, who are you? Lianju thought for a while and asked directly. On the other side, Yuazo was silent for a while, and also said, you don't have the aura of ghosts on your body. You are indeed a human being, but you don't have the aura of those from the ghost-killing team. People are no different. Who are you? Who am I? When Ronan heard the words, he smiled indifferently and glanced at the two of them. It seems that both of you want to know this question? Actually, I'm just an ordinary person passing by here. Hearing these words, everyone in the field turned their hearts over by Kugan. You can kill a ghost in seconds with one finger. Do you still dare to say that you are an ordinary person? Ghosts believe it. No, Yuazo himself is a ghost. He doesn't believe Ronan's words. If this is an ordinary person, he would not believe it. But you want to say that this is a top swordsman, but he can't feel any strong breath from Ronan. He is really just like an ordinary person. If it is not for his handsome face and outstanding temperament, he will be thrown into the crowd. No one will notice that it is special. Where did Yuazo know that Ronan's own power level is too high? As a semi-god powerhouse, he can certainly achieve the ability to converge his own power and breath. The presence of Ronan was fully revealed by the half-kamui pressure, and it was no less than turning on Conqueror's Haki around the clock. In such a low-ranking martial arts world, basically few people could resist the coercion directly. It can be said that this is a gap in the level of life, just like how humans feel when facing ants, and even greater. Although demigods are demigods, they are still in the stage of being promoted to true gods. Humans and gods are two different existences. The lifespan of gods is almost immortal, while humans, like summer flowers, can only bloom for a short time. The true god is forever. Ganlu Temple Millie also didn't believe it, and the other ghost-killing team swordsmen also didn't believe it. They were also wondering who Ronan was. Could it be that this person in front of him is a hidden swordsman master? There is no guessing in everyone's hearts. Chapter 195, Auto-generated chapter title. The 195th chapter kills Yuazo in seconds, Koyanju's invitation. Several ghost killers were prepared to die because of the ambush of Yuazo. Even the Lianju Ganlu Temple Millie is no exception. In such a remote place, the Yuazo when he catches the opportunity, does he really have the possibility of escape? The possibility is very small, and it is impossible for the reinforcements of the ghost-killing team to arrive so quickly, but now, because of Ronan's appearance, things have taken a turn for the better. This gentleman, you are so powerful, can you help us kill this ghost? A swordsman from the ghost-killing team asked Ronan. If he could not die, no one wanted to die by himself. Hearing this ghost killing team swordsman's words, other swordsmen and even Koyanju's eyes lit up, looking at Ronan, looking forward to Ronan's answer. And Ronan hadn't answered yet, but the Yuazao on the other side frowned and spoke. Huh, Koyanju, do you think this guy who suddenly appeared can really save you? I admit that he may be very powerful. Killed a ghost with a method I didn't know, and didn't use the sunwheel, but what about this? I am the third of the first series. Do you think he can be my opponent? Hearing what Yuazo said, Ronan smiled slightly. Oh, it seems that Mr. Ghost is very confident in his own strength. This gentleman, don't underestimate him. He is the Yuazo, the third winding of the 12 Ghost Moon, a very powerful ghost. Lianju quickly explained the identity of Yuoza to Ronan. He thought that Ronan did not know Yuoza, because Ronan did not look like a native of China, especially his clothes, which looked the same as the current one. Personality is out of place. My name is Ronan. Since you are so confident, I will let you know whose hands you died before you die. Ronan said indifferently, his right hand has been slowly raised. How ridiculous, a human who didn't know where it came out, dared to speak up. Yuazo spoke in a cold voice, but unfortunately, before he finished speaking, he saw a red flame shining from Ronan's finger. He was shocked, a terrible breath that almost frozen his soul, killing him. They were shocked. Advertisement: this is the breath of death. How long has it been since he became a ghost? How many years have he not felt such a terrible breath of suffocation? He can't remember it, but now, he really feels the breath of death that is almost mortal. Too late to react. The red firelight on Ronan's finger was fleeting, and a sword aura condensed with the power of Mera-mera Fruit's flames had already hit the pit seat. The powerful third of the first wind had no time to react and was caught the sword chi hits. Instantly, with a slap, the sword chi burst open, forcibly shattering Yuazao's whole person, unable to recover. Even if he is the third of the first in the 12 Ghost Moon, he is powerful and has the ability to heal himself. Defying, still unable to recover under Ronan's attack, was killed by Ronan with a single blow. Yes, one hit kills. This powerful force that makes people unable to breathe was not only unpredictable by Yuoza, but also by everyone in the ghost killing team. They thought that Luo Nanchang was strong, but facing the 12 Ghost Moon, the most at least they have to use a few tricks, but the scene before them stunned them. Second, it's a second kill. How is it possible? This is a scorpion seat. Yes, this is 12 Ghost Moon's Yuo seat, the third one. How could it be killed in seconds like this? I didn't use the sunwheel knife at all, just so empty-handed. A red light killed Yuazao? The swordsmen of the ghost killing team murmured to themselves, their faces dull, all with an unbelievable look. Koyanju was also stunned. No one understood the strength of Yuazao better than her. It can be said that none of the top 3 ghosts in the wind are weak, they are all top strong. If no one prevents them, no one can stop them. All have the ability to kill humans in a city within a short period of time. This is the strength of the top 3 ghosts. However, even such a powerful ghost, in front of this man who appeared suddenly, was so vulnerable to a single blow, with a single finger, and instantly killed, and also did not use the sunwheel. Well, who is this man named Ronan? Why is he so powerful? Lianju thought in amazement. Ahem, is this the so-called ghost? But so? Ronan clapped his hands, coughed, and awakened the sluggish people, and said, since the ghost has been solved, then you are already safe, right? Goodbye everyone. Advertisement having said that, Ronan continued to walk towards the end of the road. He planned to find a quiet place to turn on the dimensional wall breaker. Well, the forest outside the city in front is good. You can open the dimensional gate over there and wait for Robin. People brought over here to play, sign in and receive rewards by the way. Wait, is your name Ronan? Thank you very much for your help. Koyanju was awakened by Ronan's words, and then he hurriedly spoke. While grateful for Ronan's rescue, he also sent out an invitation. I'm Koyanju from the ghost killing team. My name is Ganlu Temple Millie. I'm very happy to meet you today. A powerful person like you, if you are free, can you come to our ghost killing team as a guest? Koyanju looked at Ronan expectantly. If such a strong man can win over the ghost killing team, then the ghost killing team's long-term dream, the dream of killing all ghosts in the world, can definitely be realized, right? With the strength of this Mr. Ronan, who can kill Yuazao in a second, even if he faces Giwu Suji, he can still defeat it, right? Ronan, this gentleman's name is Ronan, and he sounds like someone from the big country next door, but recently, the Japanese high-level officials seem to be preparing to use force against that big country. Alas, I hope it won't affect this gentleman's attack on the ghost killing team. Impression. Go to the ghost killing team as a guest. Ronan raised his brows and glanced at Lianju. Isn't the headquarters of your ghost killing team always secret? Hey, do you know the situation of our ghost killing team? Xianju was shocked. Those who can know these things must know the ghost killing team well, so they must also know more about ghosts. It seems that this foreigner, it's not that I don't know anything. Know something, and know something about ghosts too. Ronan shrugged his shoulders and said, well, as for going to the ghost killing team as a guest, let's talk about it later, I have other things to do now. Well, then I won't bother you, Xianju said respectfully. Mr. Ronan, I hope we will see you next time. Well, goodbye by destiny. Ronan waved his hand, and then left here leisurely along the street. Everyone in the ghost killing team looked at his back with respect. This was a respect for the strong. Chapter 196 Enter. The shock of the ghost killing team. After opening the dimensional door of the dimensional wall breaker, Ronan returned to the pirate world, still the same room as when he opened the door. As if feeling Ronan's breath, Robin and others, who had been watching the movement here, rushed over immediately. Ronan, are you okay? Robin asked nervously. Beside her, there were Orovia, Elena and others, all looking at Ronan with a worried expression. Do you see me as if something is going on? Ronan smiled indifferently and waved his hand. I have figured out the situation in that world, there is no major danger, and even you can come and play with me. For Ronan, there is nothing to say about bringing other people there. He himself just signed into the world of Demon Slayer Blade. The ghost in the world of Demon Slayer Blade is really not a threat to Ronan, even if it is Robin and others who can deal with it if they want to. The only thing that needs to be noted is that ghosts in the world of Ghost Slayer Blade cannot be killed by ordinary means. Robin and others may need a weapon like the Sunwheel to kill the ghost. Of course, Ronan was not prepared to let several women act alone. Everyone acted together. With Ronan there was no need to worry about any accidents. Hey, can we go there too? Elena was surprised at once. Ronan said before, as long as you make sure that the world is not too dangerous, you can let us pass together, Robin also said expectantly. Then, I'll go and ask others to come over, Elena said happily, then looked at Ronan, and ran away happily after seeing Ronan nodding. What kind of world is that? Orovia asked Ronan about the situation in the other world. Ronan thought for a while, and then spoke about the situation in the world of Demon Slayer Blade. It didn't take long for the other girls to rush over, and Shirahoshi's huge size was particularly eye-catching. Everyone listened to Ronan's account of another world. Everyone is easy to say, even if it is man surely, it can be hidden, but Shirahoshi, such a big body, too eye-catching. Ronan looked at Shirahoshi and said, if such a big mermaid appeared in the ghosts the world of blades is estimated to have caused a worldwide sensation. Ah, then, what should I do? Or, I won't go there, Shirahoshi said in a panic. Advertisement, it's okay, I have something here that can solve your huge size problem. After speaking, Ronan laughed, flipped his hands and took out a beautiful necklace, which was a very beautiful silver-white necklace. This is a necklace that can control changes in body shape. You can put it on and have a look. Ronan handed the necklace to Shirahoshi and asked her to try it. Shirahoshi heard the words and immediately put the necklace on in the eyes of other people's expectations, and then a message passed from the necklace to her mind, and she immediately knew how to use the necklace. A faint light gleamed from the necklace, and then, Shirahoshi's body began to become smaller visible to the naked eye, and even her fishtail changed, becoming a pair of human legs. I'm actually getting smaller, and I still have a pair of legs. Shirahoshi cried out in surprise. The women on the side also sighed, and couldn't help but marvel at this magical necklace. Ronan, do you still have such a necklace? I want me too, and I want to be as big as you. Man Shirley immediately jumped up on Robin's shoulder, and shouted while jumping. You don't need it, you don't have a small body, no one can find you anyway. Robin said with a smile, and nodded Man Shirley's head with his finger. But I also want to become a person the same age as you, Man Shirley said with a pouting mouth. There is only one necklace, and I don't have this kind of necklace anymore. Robin spread his hands and said, so, Man Shirley, just take it. Okay, Man Shirley nodded helplessly, but then immediately jumped onto Jelina's shoulders and discussed with her about the world of Demon Slayer Blade, and said where to go to play in that world. The personnel preparing to go to the ghost world is finally confirmed. Robin is definitely going. Shirahoshi's body shape problem is solved, and she is also ready to go together. Man Shirley is definitely going to go, and she will cry if she is not allowed to go. Elena and Karuman, she wants to go to another world to see the delicacies of that world. Then Nami, Hancock. Dana chose to stay, staying on Aaron Island, and Vivi finally chose to stay. The dimensional gate opened again, Ronan took the lead and walked in first. Robin and others followed and headed to the world of Ghost Slayer. Advertisement. In the world of the Blade of Ghost Slayer at this moment, Yuoza is death, causing ghosts to panic. In Infinite City, Giwu Suji learned about the death of Yuoza for the first time. Giwu Suji is a ghost ancestor, and 12 Ghost Moon is a powerful existence he created with his own ghost blood, and has an inseparable connection with him. Yuoza was actually killed by someone. Who the hell was it? Did the pillars of the ghost killing team join forces to besiege it? Giwu Suji's face is ugly, and he learned from Naruto that Yuoza prepared bait to ensnare the members of the ghost killing team of Lianju and his party. Unexpectedly, he himself was counter-killed. This shows that the ghost killing team is definitely on purpose. Naruto, tell everyone to wind up and come to the Infinite City for a meeting, Giwu Suji said in a deep voice. Dare to kill Yuoza. It seems that the ghost killing team is ready for a full battle. Yes, my lord, Mingnu replied respectfully while holding her pippa. At the moment when Oniwu Suji's order was conveyed to the remaining winding ghosts of the 12 Oni Moon, Koizumi Kanroji Miri had returned to the ghost killing team headquarters, and told the ghost killing team leader of the experience of this time out, Yoshia Yoshiki. Hearing such a news, Yoshiki was surprised that there is such a powerful human in the world. One trick to kill Yuozo in a flash. What is this concept? Yuozo is the third of the first half of the 12 ghost moons. It is extremely powerful, but the person named Ronan can kill such a powerful ghost with a single move. This is simply unimaginable. Yuya Shiki summoned several zoos who had no task and left behind to discuss the matter. Several zoos were also surprised at this. They looked at each other and felt unbelievable. No, could it be that you made a mistake? Lianju, how could there be such a horrible existence in this world? Or is it a human? Yenju Purgatory Apricot Shoru shouted in disbelief, completely unable to believe in Lianju. If I don't believe it either. We are professional when dealing with ghosts, Fu Swishuan said disdainfully. I feel that Ganlu Temple must have been deceived. Maybe that guy is a ghost newly created by Giwu Suji. Fudge you. He, the newly created ghost. Fudge me. Just to deceive me and deliberately break a winding ghost like Yuoza? Ganlu Temple Millie shook her head. I'm not so important yet, let Ghost Wu Suji do this. Who knows whether Yuozo is dead or not, what if it is a fake death? Fengju Immortal Kiwamiya said again, he still didn't believe there would be such a powerful human being? Chapter 197 Meeting. Oni Mai Suji's anger. How is it possible? That was what I saw with my own eyes. Yuozo was completely gone, absolutely completely dead. Ganlu Temple Millie said loudly, seeming to be annoyed by Undead Chuan's distrust. That's not necessarily true. As we all know, if you don't use the Sunwheel knife, you can't kill the dead at all. Fu Shi Chuan shook his head. Jianju didn't believe what Ganlu Temple Mi said. You can't say that. What if it's true? Such a powerful guy suddenly appears. As the master, we may need to pay more attention to him. Yinzu Yudianyuan said in a deep voice. He knew that Lianju was not that kind. A person who can speak big words, something that can convince her so firmly, it is very likely that it really happened. If such a person really appears, the ghost killing team must treat it seriously. The sound column is right. Yoya Shiki nodded and turned to look at Koyo. Although her eyes were dull and blind, Koyo still felt Yoya Shiki, who was looking at herself. Koishu, you still know this. Ronan, any other information? No, I only know that his name is Ronan. He may be from a big country next door. I don't know any other specific information. Lianju shook his head. That's a little troublesome. Tanya Shiki Yoshi aside. If such a powerful figure can cooperate with our ghost killing team, he can definitely compete with 12 Ghost Moon, and even fight Ghost Mai Suji. Yes, after all, it is the existence that can kill Yuazo in a flash. Lianju nodded quickly. Even Giwu Suji, if he does not rely on the backhand, he can't kill a strong person like Yuozuo in a second. The ghost dance Suji of the ancestor can easily kill any ghost in seconds, except for the superpowers such as Kurosu Mo who has jumped out of the control of the ghost dance Suji, or the special existence of Zushi and Yushiro who do not rely on the ghost dance Suji to become ghosts. So, first of all, we must pay attention to the movement of 12 Ghost Moon. The death of Yuazao will definitely cause the movement of 12 Ghost Moon. Even Giwu Suji will be furious because of it. The death of Yuazao, Ghost Dance. Suji will definitely press on our heads to prevent reprisals from the other party, and inform other pillars who are performing tasks outside, and be careful. Yoya Shiki said in a deep voice. Observe the orders. No problem, I'll send someone to notify immediately. Yoya Shiki nodded, and continued. Also, let the sword-making village pay attention to safety, and, for this person Koizumi said, we should also pay more attention to the other party's movements. As long as we encounter it, we will invite each other immediately. Come here. Advertisement. What? Come here. This is the headquarters of the ghost killing team. Feng Zhu suddenly became a little dissatisfied. He didn't believe in the so-called hidden powerhouse Ronan, and now he would risk the location of the headquarters to be exposed and invite the other party to ghost kill. How could this be a guest at the team headquarters? Okay, Undead River, this is my decision. Tanya Shiki Yoshia waved his hand. The other party deserves us to do this. But such a person, mysterious, who knows if it is an accomplice of Oniwu Suji? Fushikawa retorted unwillingly. Associate? If the accomplices will kill Yuoza? Yuo Shiki Yaoya raised her brows. If it is at the expense of Yuoza's life, it is to find the location of our ghost killing team headquarters. Haha, Yuoza is here. The life of the third of the first series is too worthless. It is useless to find the headquarters of the ghost killing team. Giwu Suji has been looking for these years. I believe he has some clues, but what about it? We have already done it well. Prepared. Giwu Suji dared to come. Let him taste our greatness. Haha, I think that even if Giwu Suji knows the location of our headquarters, he dare not come alone. He can take his life more than anyone else. Purgatory Apricot Shoru laughed. This guy is very afraid of death. It is absolutely impossible to come alone, or even to bring someone to kill himself. He will only let 12 Ghost Moon come to explore the way. He. Now the Yuazao is dead, and the strength of the winding ghost is greatly weakened. The ghost of the lower string is not in our eyes at all, except for the Black Death Mo. Only the Tong Mo of the second string can be used. Yuzui Tianyuan said, but I think Wei Wu Suji will definitely not be like this. Impulsive, after all, he has died of a scorpion. He will definitely investigate it before acting. I was thinking, what would happen if Wei Wu Suji investigated Ronan? Yanzu suddenly touched his chin and smiled. Do you think he will send other strings to trouble the Ronan? Possible? The others nodded when they heard this, and then discussed again, and then the meeting adjourned to arrange matters. And the ghost dance Suji in their mouth is indeed a little solemn at the moment. In Infinite City, Giwu Suji is at the top, with a female appearance, standing with the other windings of the 12 ghosts. As for the last string, in the eyes of Giwu Suji, he is not qualified to participate in such a meeting. He called the 12 ghosts, that is, the title, he only values the ghosts of the winding, and now, as the third of the winding, it is already flawed. Looking at the solemn face of Ghost Dance Suji above, except for the six-eyed Black Death Mo's complexion, even Tong Mo, this being who smiles on any occasion, feels a little nervous. The winding ghosts looked at each other, and they didn't know why Giwusuji suddenly called them to a meeting. My lord, why haven't I arrived yet? Standing at Heisimo's start, and seeing Heisimo still looking quiet, Tongmo still chose to speak. After all, he was second only to Heisimo in the 12 Ghost Moon. Yuazo. Giwusuji raised the corner of his eyes, ended the thoughts in his mind, cast a glance at Tongmo, and said in a cold voice, "This time we are calling you to a meeting for the sake of the scorpion seat." Advertisement, oh. Not only Tongmo, but several other winds also showed surprise. Even Heisimo, his eyes moved slightly and looked at Giwusuji. "Here, sir, can you tell us what happened?" Tongmo asked sincerely. The other half-day dogs, Yuhu and other ghosts also looked curious, completely ignorant of what happened to Yuazo, and asked Giwusuji to hold a meeting to discuss in person. "Yuazo is dead," Onimaisuji said. The voice fell, and there was silence in the field. Yuazo is the third of the first series. Its strength is second only to Haishamu. Even Tongmo dare not say that it is safe to win Yuazo, but now what they heard, Giwusuji said that Yuazo is dead. This it is true? Their first reaction was not to believe it, but Giwusuji said this, they had to believe it, because all the ghosts that were given blood by Giwusuji had a kind of reaction to Giwusuji. Giwusuji said that Chiwosuji was dead, then it must be dead. How is it possible? How could Yuazo die? His strength is not weak. Bantiangu said shockingly. Yeah, Master Yuazo is not weak. How could he suddenly die? Could it be that the ghost killing team gathered all the pillars and besieged him? The PR Street Utaro also said with a shocked expression. Fallen G on the side was silent, still shocked by the news. Heisimo's expression condensed, his lips moved, but he didn't speak, but looked at Giwusuji. He saw anger in Giwusuji's eyes. Giwusuji said coldly, I also doubt it. If you can kill Yuazo, 1 or 2 pillars can't do it at all. Even if you lose, Yuazo can escape, but this time, Yuazo can escape. Zuo died extremely strange, he had no time to escape, and there was no time for the news to come out. The only possibility is that the ghost killing team sent most of the pillars to besiege him. HMPH, the ghost killing team is so courageous. They dare to besiege the third. It seems that it has been too long to deal with them. Now these pillars have forgotten the fear I once caused them. Chapter 198 Who is Ronan? Onimaisuji's decision. My lord, the subordinates have some doubts. Tongmo knocked on the iron fan in his hand, thinking about it and said, we know the strength of the ghost killing team. If you want to besiege the Yuazo, you have to gather at least 6 pillars. If there are fewer than 6, then Yuazo's strength can be beaten and can also escape, but this time Yuazo hasn't escaped unexpectedly. This shows that either the ghost killing team has gathered more than 6 pillars or other forces have intervened. When others heard this, people like Heisimo frowned, but Fallen G and others started to think about it. Giwusuji's eyes moved, and he calmly said, it is true, but we also understand the movement of the pillars of the ghost killing team. HMPH, is our intelligence on the ghost killing team lagging so far behind? Obviously it's not like that, my lord. Tongmo's mouth showed a smile that he had always smiled. As far as I know, the strongest pillar of Xingming, Miming Islet, is now in Kyoto to track down what I did 2 months ago. It's a matter, and Butterfly Ninja, some of my staff saw her whereabouts in the Kanto area. Yoshiyuki Shueiju Tomioka, and Hufuji attacked the mountain to visit relatives. This news can't go wrong. I saw him in person 2 days ago and was run away by him. It's fast, otherwise it's already in my hands. In that case, the remaining pillars really want to say that they can encircle Yuazo. I don't believe it. Giwusuji's eyes flickered, and then looked up at the crowd, and finally said, Tongmo, you go and investigate Yuazo. The specific cause of Wazao's death, I want to know what happened, whether the ghost killing team suddenly had a secret weapon. My lord, I don't think it's possible. If the ghost killing team really has a secret weapon, it will definitely be used on you, or the Black Death of Lord Mo, and will not be wasted on Yuazo. After all, if there is such a weapon, even if I can't handle the powerful one strike force, even I can't hold it, right? Tongmo sighed and said, subordinates feel that it is possible that someone else has interfered, but for the specific situation, you have to go down to investigate. Please your lord, give your subordinates some time. Well, don't let me down. Tongmo. Giwusuji glanced at Tongmo with admiration and then nodded. The second one did a good job. It's worth noting that he saved his life in the first place. He has a powerful force second only to Black Death Mo. Not only his own strength is good, but his brain wisdom is also very outstanding. Never let the adults down. Tongmo respectfully saluted Giwusuji, and then took his order to leave. The other 12 ghost moons, except for Heisimo, were still cold, showing a trace of envy, it seemed. Oniwusuji-sama still values children's wear. Okay. The rest of you can't just wait like this. Mobilize the power in your hands to investigate, to find. I want to know the specific situation, and immediately find out what happened to the death of Yuazo. Giwusuji treated the other Guewi, immediately changed his face, and gave orders coldly. Master command. Advertisement Bantaingu and the others immediately took their orders to leave, and ordered the ghosts under them to move out overnight to inquire about the specific circumstances of Yuazo's death, and even found the dilapidated town where Yuazo died. After many days of inquiries, finally, Tongmo was the first to obtain some subtle information. This information he learned from a captured ghost killing team swordsman. This ghost-killing team swordsman is exactly Lianju led one of the people who chased and killed the ghost of Yuazhao, but was very unfortunately caught by Tong Mo's men. After a brutal torture, Ronan had to confess relevant information. After learning of Ronan's existence, Tong Mo was immediately shocked. There is still such a powerful existence in the world? One trick to kill Yuazhao in a flash? Are you kidding me? Can Black Death Mo be able to kill Yuazhao with one move? It's impossible, absolutely impossible. In this world, only Ghost Dance Suji can do it, and it is not based on hard power, but with the suppressing effect of the ghost ancestor on Yuoza. And now, a human suddenly appeared, and he was able to kill Yuazhao in seconds without using the sunwheel knife. How could this not surprise Tong Mo? And even Tong Mo felt that if such a character shot him, can you resist a trick? After thinking about it carefully, he felt suspended. His strength is not much higher than that of Yuazhao. Even speaking of combat effectiveness, there is still inferiority. It's just that he likes to use his brain and has a group of believers. The Lone Ranger, Yuazhao, has a higher status. When Tong Mo thought about it, he became even more nervous, and immediately contacted Giwu Suji and reported the information to Giwu Suji. In Infinite City at this moment, there are only Giwu Suji, Naruto, and Hazy Mo and Tong Mo. The other Guayus were not called. From Giwu Suji's point of view, since Tong Mo obtained the information, those guys are some rubbish, no longer qualified to get his attention. Ronan? Is this name from the big country next door? Giwu Suji raised his brows. If Ronan really had the ability to kill Yuazhao in a flash, then the words from that big country would shock and surprise him. It is not impossible. It should be. Advertisement Tong Momian with a cold smile. That's what the swordsman of the ghost-killing team said. He was there at the time. It was originally a trap that Yuazhao used to lure Lianju. It was already about to succeed. As a result, this Luo Nan suddenly passed by and killed the decoy ghost with a single move, and then killed Yuoza. These ghost-killing team members were also surprised. Koyanju even invited him to the ghost-killing team headquarters as a guest, but this Ronan refused. From this point of view, this person is not under the control of the ghost-killing team. Even so, he killed my men, Giwu Suji said indifferently. One move to kill Yuoza in a second, without using the sunwheel. Why am I a little unbelievable? With Oniwu Suji's pride, how could he admit that there is a stronger existence in this world, let alone a human being? My lord, I don't believe me, but I don't want to take the risk personally. What if what the ghost-killing team swordsman said is true? Tong Mo said softly. Why don't we send the other 12 go ahead and try Guiyu? Such a mysterious master, I am willing to take action personally. Hazy Mo spoke for the first time, and a trace of cold warfare was revealed in the 6 strange eyes. Hearing this, Tong Mo smiled and didn't dare to answer. As the boss of 12 Ghost Moon, this Black Death Mo is even more terrifying than Ghost Wu Suji in the eyes of all 12 Ghost Moons. Gui Wu Suji's words are always angry. The reason is that only when you are angry, you will kill the subordinates who are not doing well, and the Black Death Mo, you don't know when he will kill people, and you don't know why he will kill people. This is a killing machine, and I don't know why such a ruthless and cold-blooded guy has a brother who is as powerful as a saint, who is an invincible swordsman who almost killed the ghost ancestor. Hazy Mo, don't move out for the time being, let the other players try him first. Is it really that powerful? Tong Mo, do you know where this person is now? Gui Wu Suji stopped Hazy Mo and wanted to make a shot himself. Thoughts, and then looked at Tong Mo. It's a coincidence that some of my believers did find this man in Osaka. There are several beautiful women beside him. They seem to be visiting in Osaka. Maybe they're visiting Japan. Tong Mo shrugged and said. That's great, Naruto, let me know the half-day dog and let me dispatch all 4, 5 and 6 of the first episode. You also always pay attention to the situation there, and don't let the last time you died without knowing the details happen again. Guiwu Suji glanced at Naruto coldly. Naruto's body trembled, and she immediately lowered her head to lead her command. Yes, my lord. Chapter 199 The Ghost is here. The ghost is dead. At the moment, where Osaka Prefecture is located, on a fairly prosperous street, Ronan and Robin are playing and shopping. Different from the customs of Pirate World, the girls all feel fresh. Even if it is only Osaka Prefecture in the 1920s and 1930s, it is far from comparable to the prosperous scene of later generations. It was like this in Ronan's eyes, but in the eyes of Robin several people saw joy. They walked in and out of major shops together, feeling the prosperity of modern commercial streets. Wow, there are so many things here, not only a lot of unseen clothes, but also all kinds of delicious food, Karuman said excitedly, holding a bunch of small foods that she didn't know what to make, shouted while eating. Yeah, what is this thing? It smells so fragrant, why does it taste so bitter? Irina never walked up, holding a drink in her hand, frowning while drinking, but then her eyes fell. Liang. It's delicious. That's coffee, Ronan said with a smile. Did you not add sugar? Can you add sugar? Why didn't the store owner tell me? Elena complained. People think you know it, but you don't want to put sugar on it, Ronan said casually. Well, okay, next time I drink it, I will put sugar in it. Now this is a bit too bitter, but it's not bad, it's still delicious, Irina said with a smile. Ronan, I learned from the road population that there are more prosperous places in this world than here, is it true? Nami suddenly asked. There are indeed some places like this. New York, London, Shanghai, and Tokyo in this country are much more prosperous than the city where we are located. Ronan replied, although the world is far from comparable to future generations. Compared, But the big cities he just mentioned are not comparable to the pirate world, even the developed Aran Island. After all, it is not a world. The pirate world may have been prosperous or even developed, far more than this. The world will be prosperous for future generations. In the original plot, Enel rises from the wind and water on the moon. The advanced technology on the moon shows that the ancient humans in the pirate world did indeed develop extremely advanced civilizations, but unfortunately it is already in the past. It's time. Advertisement. Then when shall we visit those prosperous big cities? Nami said with bright eyes. She had been hiding in Robin's collar, showing only her small head, and when she heard this, she curiously stretched her head to look at Ronan, her eyes full of expectation. Okay, anyway, we have time. When we finish visiting this city, we will go to Tokyo, Ronan said with a smile. Yeah. Upon hearing this, the women cheered, and even Hancock, who hadn't spoken all the time, smiled. And at the moment when Ronan was shopping with the girls, the winding ghost headed by Bantiangu and Yuhu had arrived in Osaka Prefecture. There were 4 ghosts in total: Bantiangu, Yuhu, Taro W. and Fallen G. Master Bantiangu, the man named Ronan is in Osaka Prefecture? Didn't you run away? The PR Street Yu Taro looked at Bantiangu with a flattering expression. Fallen G glanced at him and said nothing. I have sent a few ghosts to stare at him, now everyone is here, and it's time to take action. Banshin Dog is like an old man, speaking slowly, his eyes are also leisurely and contented. He looked at a few people and said, Master Oniwu Suji's order, this time we have to complete the task perfectly. Otherwise, I don't think everyone wants to see the punishment of the adults. Don't want it. Thinking of the cruelty of Oni Mai Suji, W. Taro immediately shook his head, and his extremely thin body trembled uncontrollably. The jade pot on the side, although hiding in the clay pot at this moment, can be seen from the sound of the clay pot hitting the ground. This guy is also very afraid of Giwu Suji, and a few ghosts that are not under the control of Oni Mai Suji. Even a proud woman like Fallen G could not stop her face changing when she heard what she said for a long time. Half Tiangu, then let's get started quickly, Taro W. said quickly. Well, come with me, this guy named Ronan, I heard that he may be a hidden master, don't underestimate him. You must use all your strength to give him a thunderous blow, I see. Huh? Banshin Dog said with a solemn expression. Unlike these few, he inquired privately from Tong Mo and learned that the death of Yuoza, the third of the first series, was very likely not from the ghost killing team. The reason is this: Ronan. Advertisement. Upon hearing this news, Bantiangu didn't want to come face to Ronan at the time. As a timid and fearful ghost, Bantiangu was very sorry for his life. Unfortunately, Giwu Suji had to listen to him. Otherwise, he was about to die immediately, and in desperation, he could only take over the task to deal with Ronan. However, with Tong Mo's reminder, he was also somewhat prepared. He was ready to let the other people take the initiative, and if the situation was not right, he would immediately run away. While Bantiangu made a good calculation in his heart, he led a few people towards a bustling street in Osaka Prefecture. It was night time, which was very suitable for ghost activities. They led the way according to the little ghost who monitored Ronan, and finally came to the door of a shop. Not long after waiting, a few people walked out of the shop. Ronan took the lead, followed by Nami, Robin, Hancock and others. His expression was relaxed, as if he didn't even realize it. Has been regarded as a target by the ghosts. Seeing this, Banshin Dog nodded slightly at several people, indicating that they were ready to move, and the others also glanced at each other, and then began to act. The PR Street Yu Taro took out his weapon scimitar first, and rushed out without fear. Fallen G then went up and jumped up, ignoring that this is a bustling street, and straight down the eaves of the street from midair. Ronan and his party killed them. And the jade pot next to the half-day dog controlled the pottery pot to jump up and down. The upper body stretched out from the pottery pot, extending out like a snake, stretched out his arms, and grabbed Ronan with a grim face. And Bantiangu himself narrowed his eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and was also ready to shoot. If Ronan was really a powerful hidden master, he would run away. If not, just ordinary people, then he would also shoot, got some credit for it, isn't it? However, at this moment, Ronan, who had just walked out of the shop, had a smile on his mouth. He found out when the kid was watching him before. However, the kid didn't do anything. They were obviously just a kid, and now, behind the scenes. The Black Hand has appeared, then, since you dare to shoot yourself, go to death. The girls beside them also moved their brows and reduced the joy on their faces. They looked weirdly at a few ghosts who rushed over, and then looked at Ronan. Ronan was there. Of course, they didn't worry about safety, even these ghosts. They can deal with 1 or 2 with their own shots. They are not girls who are powerless, each of them has good strength, even in the face of the 12 ghosts and moons. But Ronan is here, of course, they don't need to take action personally. To deal with these guys, Ronan doesn't have to spend much effort, gently, just a simple wave of his hand, the red light flashes, carrying the horror of Mera-mera Fruit. The sword aura of strength has flown out, splitting into 4 rays of light, the 3 ghosts that are rushing straight, and the guarded half-day dog hiding behind. There was no accident. Under Ronan's action, these guys couldn't bear the slightest and they were completely wiped out. Their strength was not even comparable to that of Yuazo. Even the Yuazo was killed by Ronan in seconds, let alone them. Chapter 200. The Black Death Mo goes to war, decisive battle in Tokyo. Gone. Ronan waved his hand, and disappeared with the girls. The speed was too fast for ordinary people to react. The ordinary people on the surrounding streets thought they had hallucinations. They rubbed their eyes one by one and looked at them. There was nothing at all. A few ghosts disappeared after being killed, and Ronan and his party left, but it was not an illusion. Ronan and his entourage left Osaka Prefecture and went to the bustling Tokyo for shopping, while the ghost dance Suji on the other side changed a lot. What happened? In Infinite City, Giwu Suji, who was doing research, suddenly changed his face. He clearly felt that the lives of several winding ghosts he was feeling suddenly disappeared. It was too sudden, and all of them disappeared all at once. Now, the winding 4, 5, 6, all 4 winding ghosts have no aura of life, and these 4 people are the ghosts he sent out to test and deal with Ronan. All dead? How could it be possible? Giwu Suji was shocked, and his face was full of gloomy colors that could not be covered. These 4 guys weren't the waste of the string, they didn't have any room to fight back, and they were all killed in an instant? How can this not shock him? Sternly bowed his head and thought, Giwu Suji turned and walked out of this research room. Naruto, called Tong Mo and Hei Mo over. Yes, my lord, Mingnu replied respectfully, and then contacted the Black Death Mo and Tong Mo, and transported them to the Infinite City. Grown-ups. After the two arrived, Tong Mo respectfully saluted Giwu Suji, while the Black Death Mo remained silent. Half-day dogs, they are already dead, Giwu Suji said in a low voice. In an instant death, all 4 winding ghosts died in an instant. That Ronan is not easy, it is very difficult. What? Advertisement. When Tong Mo heard this, he was shocked. In an instant, all deaths. What is not shocking is not the death of these 4 ghosts, but all their deaths in an instant. What kind of concept is this? The man named Ronan possesses the ability to kill these 4 ghosts instantly, let alone his childishness. Even the Black Death Mo couldn't do such a thing. Only Giwu Suji could rely on his backhands to do it. If he really relied on his own strength, Giwu Suji could not kill the 4 ghosts in an instant. So, how can this not make him shocked? After hearing the news, the Black Death Mo flashed his eyes, and his fighting spirit rose high. He raised his head and said, Master Wu am I, let me meet him. This guy has such amazing strength. I am looking forward to a fight with him. Black Death Mo. Giwu Suji hesitated for a moment. If he said that he was unwilling to kill the Black Death Mo before, he has already shaken his thoughts. Such a terrible enemy, he must find a way to get rid of it anyway, otherwise, he is uneasy. However, Giwu Suji has fear in his heart. He is afraid that Ronan is such a strong man who can kill the 4 ghosts in an instant. He is unwilling to face Ronan himself. In front of him, the only remaining power in his hand is Tong Mo and Hei. It's dead. As for the ghosts, it's all waste. Even Yuazo and the other 4 ghosts have been killed. What use is there for those last strings? It's not worth it at all, so the ultimate task is still on the 2 ghosts in front of him. Tong Mo's strength may not be bad, but it's similar to Yuazo. Even Yuazo is not Ronan's opponent. Tong Mo is also a gift if he goes away, so if he doesn't make a move himself, the only peak combat power is Hei Mo. Giwu Suji was silent for a while, and then nodded. Okay, Hei Mo, since you said that, go meet that Ronan in person, but you must be careful this time. That guy is very difficult, even. His strength may be stronger than mine, so I must not take it lightly. Don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who underestimates the enemy. Hei Mo calmly said, I will do my best to deal with any enemy. Moreover, the other party is the one who killed the 4 ghosts. No, 5 ghosts. I look forward to fighting against one. Your moon breath is indeed extremely powerful, not even worse than the sun breath created by your brother. Giwu Suji said in admiration, although this moon breath was changed from the sun breath, but now after hundreds of years of improvement, it has become completely different. It is a breathing method that is extremely suitable for him to use. Hearing Giwu Suji talked about his younger brother Jiguyueni, Hisamo's eyes moved, but he did not speak. He felt an unspeakable jealousy in his heart for his brother's super genius kendo talent. Abandoning the name of Jigwo Iwakatsu, he changed his name to Black Death Mo and became a driving force for the ghosts of Giwu Suji's subordinates. The main reason was to become stronger in kendo until he surpassed his former brother, Jiguyuani. Hei Mo left, took his weapon and left Infinite City. Through Ming Girl and Tong Mo, he traced the whereabouts of Ronan and his party. Finally, 2 days later, he got news that Ronan and his party came to Tokyo. This is the most prosperous city. The Black Death Mo didn't hesitate, and went straight to Tokyo. He chose a bright moonlit night and started his action. Ghost Wu Suji and Tong Mo gathered in Infinite City, waiting for the outcome of the battle between the Black Death Mo and Ronan. At this moment in Tokyo, Ronan has just finished wandering around with a few girls, and by the way, he also signed in Tokyo. Advertisement. System. Sign in to Tokyo, Ronan said leisurely. Congratulations to host, sign in successfully, get reward. Starting breathing method, sun breathing method. The system's prompt sound made Ronan's brows raised, and he directly received the most powerful breathing method in the world of Demon Slayer Blade created by Ji Guo Yuan Yi, the breathing method of the sun, which is not a bad reward. Ronan accepted the breathing method and studied it a little bit, and found that this breathing method is not bad. It matches the power of Mera-mera Fruit and the power of the Phoenix very well. He uses Zanpakuto to use it and even has a bonus. So, it took less than half a day to cultivate the sun breathing method to the highest level. After all, it was only the practice method of the lower high-level martial arts world. Based on Ronan's life level at this moment, it is not difficult to cultivate such a method, and it is even like drinking. Water is generally simple. Okay guys, it's very late today, can you find a place to rest? Ronan looked at the girls chatting excitedly beside him, and said with a smile. There is a very nice hotel in front of me. Let's live there tonight. Okay, I'm fine, Irina said with a smile, still holding a delicious food in her hand. Of course, I plan to continue shopping tomorrow. There is no need to open the door to our world, Nami also said with a smile, carrying a lot of clothes in her hands, all high-end ones that Pirate World doesn't have. Thing. Then it's settled. Ronan moved in his heart, his eyes cast aside on a tall building not far away. It was a tall iron tower with a man standing on it with a knife, and the full moon behind it seemed to be much brighter. You go to the hotel first, I still have something to do, Ronan nodded and said. Huh? Are there any other things called ghosts who are coming to make trouble? The female emperor raised her brows and said thoughtfully. Yes, don't worry about me, I'll be back when I go, Ronan said lightly. Well, sisters, let's go. Ronan does something, what else are we worried about? Robin smiled and said while pulling Nami beside him, and then took a few girls to the big hotel location of the street gang. Ronan moved into the air, and quickly came to the sky next to the tower, making the pedestrians on the street a little unclear, but then, the people under the entire tower exclaimed, seems to have found an abnormality on the Iron Tower. Chapter 201 Ronan vs Black Death Mo. Tokyo is the most prosperous area with extremely dense population. Even in this era, there are more than tens of millions of people living here. This tower is not as tall and famous as the Tokyo Tower that will appear in the future, but it is not short. It is more than 100 meters, and it has reached a height of nearly 200 meters. It stands in the middle of the bustling city and is very conspicuous. And on this tall iron tower, at this moment, a weird man with 6 eyes is standing. It is Heisimo, but the ordinary people below are not so clear, and their eyes are not on Heisimo, but on another person. Ronan flew directly into the air, standing in the air, nearly 200 meters high in the air. He and the Black Death Mo looked at each other in the air. The eyes of the Black Death Mo Lengson were full of fighting spirit, and for Ronan. He was surprised at being able to fly, but there was no horror. Such a master who suddenly appeared, although he was able to fly unexpectedly, it could not wipe out his fighting will. And Ronan is also looking at Heisimo. Although Heisimo's eyes are a bit weird, he is actually not weak in combat power. In the original work, he is second only to Giwu Suji and his brother Jigwo Yuanyi. He deserves to be more serious. Shot. At the moment of the silent confrontation between the two people, there was a lot of noise from the people below on Ronan, who was standing in the air. Some people had already called the police, and the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department personnel also rushed in urgently, very fast. It stands to reason that there are people who can fly with such a brainless alarm message as a joke. Under normal circumstances, the people of the Metropolitan Police Department will ignore them, and even scold the other party not to make mischief. But today is different, because today's police report. There are too many people. As long as there are people near the Iron Tower, many people call the police. This proves that the people who see someone flying are not one or two, but thousands, and they have to attract the attention of the Metropolitan Police Department. Ever since, the Metropolitan Police Department dispatched hundreds of police officers to rush towards the commercial district where the Iron Tower is located. After these hundreds of police officers arrived, they found a large number of people looking up to the sky around where the Iron Tower was. Huh? Really, are there really trapeze? A young police officer stunned, pointing to the sky and shouting. The police officers around also had similar expressions. They stared at the sky dumbfounded. Although the weather was late at this moment, the Dark Death Mo was dispatched on the night specially chosen to make his strength reach its peak. Although he has strong resistance to the sun, he can't hold it against the sun. Even Giwu Suji can't hold it, let alone him. Only night is the peak time of ghost power. Quickly, call the sheriff quickly and tell him the news here. Really, there are flying people, a leading police officer called out immediately. He thought that even thousands of people called the police. This message must also be an error message, but never expected that this is really someone who can fly. Advertisement, so the police officers called the Metropolitan Police Department again. This time, the police officers personally reported, and finally got the attention of the big men of the Metropolitan Police Department. Then they reported the news to higher-level personnel, even reported to the Prime Minister and the King. The entire Tokyo Metropolitan High Level immediately became a sensation. A flying human being is a big deal. If this person can be caught and studied, maybe the secret of flying can be obtained. Thousands of police officers, along with a large number of troops, rushed towards the vicinity of the tower, blocked the surrounding roads along the way, and drove the onlookers away, who dared to anger but did not dare to speak. As for the movement below, Ronan of course also knows, but since he is ready to fight Black Death Mo, he must not be able to hide it. Hey Death Mo has chosen such a battle location, and he probably has no intention of hiding it. Ronan also, it doesn't matter. The world is still in World War I and World War II. The atomic bomb hasn't been researched yet. Well, even if it's researched, the atomic bombs of this era cannot harm him. Not to mention his speed can completely avoid the bombardment of missiles carrying atomic bombs. Even the very center of the atomic bomb can't hurt him, and the radiation damage is useless to him. Therefore, Ronan is not afraid of these ordinary people. As a powerful ghost, Black Death Mo was still a ghost that has existed since the Sengoku period. He is also not afraid of ordinary people and doesn't care about it. After the two faced each other for a while, there was finally movement. Unexpectedly, in addition to ghosts in this world, there should be a powerful existence like you. The Black Death Mo was not a talkative person, and speaking to Ronan at this moment was also very solemn to Ronan. Are ghosts powerful? Ronan smiled slightly. Your brother once defeated Giwusuji, and even almost killed him. Your brother is not a ghost. Hearing Ronan mentioning his younger brother, the Black Death Mo frowned slightly. This person was so clear about his message? You need to know that the Black Death Mo was a person from the Sengoku period more than 400 years ago. It has been hundreds of years. There are absolutely only a handful of people who can know about him. But Ronan actually knows it. It can be seen that Ronan is definitely not simple. Are you the backhand left by Yuan Yi? Heisimo's eyes condensed, and he stared at Ronan. You got his inheritance? The initial breathing method? Advertisement, he. Although Ji Guoyuani is a genius in swordsmanship with good strength, he is still not qualified to teach me. Even if it is the breathing method of the sun, I don't look at it. Ronan shook his head, although he looked towards Heisimo. Don't say so much. Since you came to see me, you certainly didn't come to chat with me. Then see the real chapter under your hand. Let me see. You became a ghost and lived for hundreds of years. How much strength has been enhanced? As you wish. Hearing that the Black Death Mo heard this, he no longer said that since Ronan did not admit that he had the inheritance of Jiguyueni, he could only see the true chapter under his hand. After the fight, he would naturally know whether Ronan got the succession of Jiguyueni inherited. Kang. Heisimo drew the ghost knife from his waist and looked at Ronan awe-inspiringly, with murderous intent in his eyes. And Ronan, with his hands on his back, did not take out Zanpakuto's preparations for the battle. Heisimo is indeed qualified to let him go, but he does not have the strength to make him go all out. He is now a demigod, and he really wants to go all out. With a shot, it is estimated that this island country cannot hold his full blow, and a mere Black Death Mo is qualified to make him burst into full force. But at the moment when the two were about to fight, the military personnel and police officers who surrounded this place also moved. Give me all orders, aim the artillery at this trapezium, fire at full force, and blast him down. A military general looked at Ronan in the sky with awe-inspiring eyes, and gave the order to attack. Respect. The soldiers in charge of the artillery immediately began to assemble the artillery shells and blasted towards Ronan. Rumble. Chapter 202 The Roar of Fighters, Wave to Kill. Countless artillery shells hit the sky, and they didn't expect it to be in a downtown area. In their opinion, as long as the trapeze was shot down and the secret of the other party's ability to fly is the best result, other things must be left behind. Countless soldiers and police officers stared at the figure in the sky. Of course, they also saw the figure on the Iron Tower, but the figure seemed unable to fly, so it was not regarded as the first target. The shells quickly hit Ronan's body, almost exploding Ronan, but unfortunately, these ordinary shells were not threatening to Ronan at all. Luo Nan glanced indifferently, then gently waved his hand, the sword light flickered, the sword energy swept across, and the sky full of shells suddenly cleared. The sword light shining in the sky brightened the night sky. The Black Death Mo who was about to take a shot on the Iron Tower stopped abruptly, constantly calculating in his mind whether he could resist Ronan's move just now. On the ground, the group of soldiers and police officers were also terrified. They couldn't imagine what they were seeing. With so many shells and such a powerful attack, they were all wiped out with a wave of their hands? Well, what the hell is this flying man? He is terrible, right? A police officer trembled with fear on his face. Yes, it's terrible. So many shells. How can it be solved with just one wave of hands? Another police officer also followed, with a horror that couldn't be concealed in his eyes. Quickly, let me retreat. The aircraft of our Air Force Department has already arrived. Don't be afraid. No matter how powerful this strange trapeze is, it can't be our fighter's opponent. On the other side, the leading officer was also taken aback by this scene, but he was an officer and soon recovered, calmed down, and commanded the soldiers and police officers to slowly retreat. After hearing that the Air Force had supported them and fighter jets were participating in the battle, the soldiers armed with guns and police officers with pistols slowly calmed down and retreated in an orderly manner. And in the sky, Ronan slowly closed his hands. These ordinary people's attacks were nothing to him, but he dared to attack himself. Of course, he had to be prepared for his own revenge. He slowly looked down. When the crowd on the ground was about to deal with these little friends, suddenly their ears moved and they turned their heads to look at the sky, and there was a little light in the sky over there. Heisimo, who was standing on the Iron Tower, also turned his head and looked over. After thinking about it, Heisimo didn't take any other actions, but waited quietly. Advertisement for him, it is a good thing for humans to attack Ronan. Even if he is confident in his own strength, after seeing the strength that Ronan has shown just now, he does not have the confidence to defeat Ronan 100%. Now some humans have used high-tech weapons to deal with Ronan, just to give themselves a chance to observe, and they can also use humans to consume Ronan's power. When he fights with Ronan later, it will definitely be much easier, isn't it? Therefore, the Black Death Mo did not intervene in the battle between Ronan and the humans, and the human side did not regard the Black Death Mo as a target. It was also because the Black Death Mo did not fly, and he did not see the appearance of the Black Death Mo clearly in the dark night. There seems to be someone on the tower. Of course, if it goes smoothly, those fighters will probably attack the Black Death Mo. At this moment, in the expectant eyes of the soldiers and police officers on the ground, a large number of fighter planes flew up and dived directly into the air where Ronan was. While diving, they started shooting. Although the pilot of the fighter plane knew that the target was a person who can fly, but when he really saw it, he was still a little frightened, but the military order was the military order, and even though he was frightened, he still began to attack Ronan. Da 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 da. The sound of machine gun shooting continued to be heard in the air, and dozens of fighter planes circled around Ronan and fired. Other fighter planes cruised in the outer airspace while observing the battle. In their horrified eyes, they found that the bullets fired by the machine guns on the plane were of no use to Ronan. The countless bullets floated in midair, almost covering Ronan's figure, and countless bullets floated like one. It is spherical, around Ronan's body. Inside the bullet ball, Ronan looked calm, without any damage at all. Such an attack was too pediatric for him. Send to me. Ronan waved his palm, and countless bullets bounced out like lightning. Boom 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 boom. Bullets flying upside down shot through the surrounding attacking fighters. After the fuel tanks of many fighters were shot through, they caused fires and exploded. In total, more than 30 fighters were damaged. Only a few lucky fighters succeeded in parachuting. Died in the explosion along with the fighter. Seeing this, the circling fighter pilots were shocked. They watched this scene in amazement, and they couldn't imagine what happened. Weird, monster. What kind of monster is this? A pilot shouted in amazement. It's terrible. Who is this? Call the headquarters. Call the headquarters. We can't deal with such a powerful enemy. Advertisement. Quick support. We need more support. In the process of these pilots calling for help, Ronan had already set his eyes on them, raised his right hand towards these guys. His arm flashed red, and small fireballs with the size of fists appeared. Probably thousands of people appeared. After a small fireball, Ronan waved it in his hand. All of these fireballs were like navigation, with tail flames cutting through the night sky, as beautiful as a meteor shower, but they brought desperate death to these fighters. Rumble. Rumble rumbling. A terrifying explosion that shook the sky came from the sky, shaking countless people on the ground. It is impossible to imagine that hundreds of fighters were destroyed in such a short period of time. What a terrifying scene. Not to mention other things, after seeing this scene, the soldiers and policemen below, apart from anything else, they immediately retreated and ran away under the leadership of the officers. They could not run without running. Even hundreds of fighters were not opponents. They were flesh and blood. What else? They have to go back and report the battle, and they have to run away immediately. Well, now there are no annoying flies, it's our turn to fight. Ronan clapped his hands relaxedly, and then looked in the direction of the iron tower. He saw Haki looking at him with a solemn expression, but he held the ghost knife firmly in his hand, the blade pointed at him, and he had no intention of retreating. Sure enough, so powerful, the Black Death Mode took a deep breath, and his 6 eyes looked at Ronan tightly. His heart was shocked. He didn't know how powerful these technological weapons were. There were hundreds of fighters. Under such terrifying hot weapons attack, there is nothing to do with the other party. Where is the monster that popped up? Yes, now even a powerful ghost like Haki feels that Ronan is a monster. It feels that Ghost Wu Suji provokes such a powerful enemy. It is too unwise. It's just not possible. Now I have to do my best to defeat the person in front of me. Otherwise, with the coldness of the opponent, I will definitely not let myself go, and I also want to fight against such a powerful person. Therefore, after the Black Death Mode took a deep breath, he took action. Drink. Take me a move. Breath of the Moon type of 1. Dark Moon O Palace. Chapter 203. Killing the Black Death Mo. Ghost Kill Team Meeting. Black Death Mo's attack is very sharp. After all, it is one of the first strings, and the strength is undoubtedly strong. Second only to the ghost of Giwu Suji, it is conceivable. However, his current opponent is not someone else, but Ronan, so this move hit the cotton like a punch in front of Ronan. Ronan just raised his right hand and flicked his fingers, and under the shining fire, he smashed dozens of crescent-like blades. He hesitated that Ronan could fly, but Haki did not have the ability to fly, so he could only rely on standing on the iron tower to attack Ronan. This greatly restricted Haki's methods, and he felt it himself, frowning. Next, he began to move. Black Death Mo jumped at his feet, attacking Ronan while shifting the battlefield. He originally didn't know that Ronan could fly. If he knew, he would never set the battlefield at the iron tower. He originally wanted to use his ghost strength. Physically fighting against Ronan, the opponent would fly, and Mo desperately had no choice but to move the battlefield. Ronan also guessed the idea of Black Death Mo, but he didn't care. He was just for fun. Since you want to move the venue, then come on. The two hit the ground from midair. On the roofs of various buildings, fighting figures flashed and jumped quickly. I don't know how many buildings were destroyed in the battle between the two. Those who watched the battle from afar were shocked by this. There is such a powerful person in the world. The person who was originally located in the Iron Tower is actually that powerful. And what makes them fear is that that person actually has 6 eyes. This is also terrible. The two were still fighting fiercely. There were originally some spectators below, and they were crawling in fright, running in fright and fleeing for their lives. Rumble. Amid the violent roar, the two kept fighting each other. Basically, the Black Death Mo was attacking and Ronan was defending. Ronan's expression was still very calm. He even carried his left hand and moved gently under his feet, and his right hand simply reached out. The move was calm, and Haki's attack did not cause any harm to him at all. Haki looked solemn, and shot more sharply. Moon's Breath 2 types. Juha gets the moon. Advertisement. Moon's Breath 3 types, tired of the moon erosion. Moon's Breath 5 types, Moon Soul Vortex. Moon's Breath 6 types, Long Night Lonely Moon Infinite. Moon Breath 14 type, Fierce Transformation Sky Full of Thin Moon. Haki's expression began to change, incomparably ferocious. The Blood Ghost technique had already begun. Sharp blades appeared all over his body. White bone horns appeared on his forehead. His hands were holding ghost knives firmly, and he slashed at Ronan frantically. Seal the magic. However, he couldn't hurt Ronan at all. No, impossible. Why? Why can't I hurt you at all? How is this possible? Black Death Mo panted and roared. You made so many tricks, it's my turn, and wasted so much time with you, and it's time to end this farce. Then, take the trick. Ronan ignored the unbelievable look of the Black Death Mo, but calmly said something, then pointed his right hand into a sword and pointed towards the Black Death Mo Yi. With this finger, the Black Death Mo trembled, his soul was condensed, and he couldn't move in horror. No, move fast, move fast. However, his body was stiff in place, unable to move at all. He could only watch Ronan point his finger and burst out a bit of sword aura from his fingertips. The sword aura carried some terrifying sword aura that could destroy some. The buzzing sound hit the Black Death Mo. Boom! Hei Mo's body burst open, the entire body was flooded with red light, and was burned into dregs, with nothing left. You must know that Ronan now uses sword aura, not just sword aura. The sword aura contains the terrifying power of Mera-mera Fruit, and also the power of the breathing method of the sun. The most important thing is the power of the phoenix. The power of rules, this is the most terrifying place. The so-called ghosts are immortal and cannot be killed without the sun-wheel knife. It simply doesn't work for Ronan. Advertisement: the Heliodon can kill ghosts because it contains the power of the sun. This power of the sun's fire is the key to killing ghosts. And Ronan's finger contains much more power than the sun. The power of the sun in the wheel is much more terrifying, too much, and the two can't be compared at all. Therefore, the Black Death Mo had no power to fight back in front of Ronan. In the previous fight, he wanted to see how the Black Death Mo, the ghost power second only to Giwu Suji, was actually not doing useless work. Giwu. What Suji said is the ultimate boss of this world. Ronan can despise the opponent strategically, but he will never underestimate the enemy tactically, even if he is a demigod. In Japanese comics, how many bosses were killed by the protagonist because they underestimated the weak protagonist? He can't be that kind of person. Speaking of it, Tanjiro, the protagonist of the Demon Slayer Blade, is the same. When he finally killed the demon Mai Suji, it is definitely not as good as Demon Mai Suji's frontal combat power, but with the inheritance and swords left by Jukakunichi, and his own use of the breathing method of the day, with the help of the ghost killing team, still defeated and killed the ghost dance Suji. This is the proof. Speaking of it, because of my arrival, I have solved all the ghosts one after another. Will Tanjiro still have a chance to grow up in the future? Well, all the ghosts have been solved by me. I don't know what Giwu Suji is feeling now. Wouldn't you kill him and ask me to settle the account? No, with his timid character, he might hide in Infinite City and dare not come out. Ha ha. Ronan smiled indifferently, then his figure flashed, and he disappeared in place. After a long time, those onlookers dared to approach, including the soldiers and police officers. They looked at the incomparably dilapidated battlefield after the battle. They looked at each other in amazement, and they were all speechless. They were shocked in their hearts. There are still others in the world. Such a tough person? On Ronan's side, after returning to the hotel, due to the impact of the fighting, the girls also learned about the situation. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department began to survey and investigate the surrounding area. Everyone didn't want to stay any longer, so Ronan took it with him. The girls left Tokyo and headed north. A few days later, the Ghost Killing Team headquarters, the people of the Ghost Killing Team who learned the news, opened the meeting again under the call of Yoyashiki Yoya. This time, all the pillars participated in the meeting, each with a solemn expression and a look, full of seriousness. Unexpectedly, that Ronan's strength is so strong. I had already estimated his strength very high before, but now it seems that I still underestimated him. Yoyashiki said with a sigh, and then looked around. For 1 week, he glanced at the people and said, "Everyone, what do you think?" Amitabha. The returning Minyu Xingming put his hands together and said the Buddha's name. When I heard everyone talk about this person, I was a little unbelievable. Now, I really have to believe it. All the winding ghosts of the 12 Ghost Moon, except for Tong Mo, they were all killed by him. It's terrible. Yeah, such a record, even if we all shot together, it would be difficult to achieve, right? Yihei Zaobani said in a low voice, his eyes full of dignity. Such a strong man, he has never heard of it, too strong. Chapter 204. Butterfly Ninja, Chestnut Flower Falls Chanahu. If we all shot together, unless these winding ghosts don't run to defeat them, otherwise we really can't do it. Purgatory Kyrgyzstan said in a deep voice, don't forget, Giwu Suji will not sit back and watch us so many posts. Besieged his men. That's right, it's not as simple as we thought, Yu Tianyuan also said. But now, a lot of things have been saved. There's this sudden emergence of Ronan. Except for the pervert guy, they have all been killed, and now we have a lot less enemies. So, the problem now is that Ghost Dance Suji's 12 Ghost Moons are basically abolished. There is only one child mill left on the upper string ghost. It is not a concern. As for the lower string ghost, it can be ignored, but the Ghost Dance Suji itself. But it is a major disaster, and I still have to pay attention to it. Yoyashiki said in a deep voice, I want to invite Mr. Ronan to come here to discuss and attack Infinite City. The Lord is thinking well. Butterfly Ninja agreed. We must not underestimate Giwu Suji, because as long as he is given time, he can once again create a powerful wind ghost, even if it is difficult for the strong like the Black Death Mo. Copy. But you can't underestimate it. It's better to take advantage of this Mr. Ronan's still and we invite him to attack Infinite City together. With him, we can still avoid huge losses. As the Lord, how can we be sure that Mr. Ronan is willing to help us? Yihei Zhaobein asked with a frown. According to our intelligence, from his itinerary, it is obvious that he is in major prosperous cities. Playing, will he accept our invitation? How can I know if I don't try? Butterfly Ninja raised his head and said, being the master, I am willing to invite him personally. In order to show my sincerity, I must personally come forward. Well, Changzu was right. If it wasn't for physical reasons, I would even like to invite him to show his attention. Yoyashiki nodded and said, then, this matter is left to you, Changzu. Don't worry, you won't live up to the expectations of the master, Butterfly Ninja solemnly said. After the Zuzong meeting was over, everyone left and began to prepare for the final battle, and finally prepared for the attack on the base camp Infinite City where Ghost Mai Suji was located. The maternity house Shiki has a dazzling gaze, but he sighs heavily in his heart. Is it finally over? After hundreds of years, the taint of the maternity house Shiki family will finally be cleaned off. Ghost Mai Suji, this time you will undoubtedly die. Advertisement, and among the columns that left, there is a person who has a complicated mind. This person is not someone else, it is Shitu Uichiro. As the descendant of Kuni Iwakatsu before he became a ghost more than 400 years ago, his mind is at this moment. It is complicated and unspeakable. After Goyensheng became a ghost, he lost the name of Jigwo clan and changed his name to Haisheng Mo, while Jigwo clan still inherited the will of Jigyuani and became an enemy of ghosts, even if it was Jigwo. The descendants of Yansheng are still the same, hundreds of years of fetters and hundreds of battles. At this moment, I heard that the Black Death of his direct ancestors died in Ronan's hands. Naturally, there was some unspeakable emotion. But thinking of the next Infinite City War, Shitu Uichiro cheered up and prepared together with the other pillars. On the other side, Ninja Butterfly has left the Ghost Killing Team headquarters with his stepson, looking for Ronan, inviting Ronan to the Ghost Killing Team headquarters as a guest, and inviting Ronan to join them in attacking the Infinite City, smashing them in one fell swoop. Oni Mai Suji's threat of terror for hundreds of years. According to the report of the swordsman in charge of the Ghost Killing Team, Ronan and his party were playing in the Kansai area at the moment, and the two quickly headed towards the destination. They took a train along the way, but arrived at the destination within a few days. After the two arrived, Ronan was sitting with his daughters in a street restaurant enjoying delicious food. Even though the people of this era did not live well, it was just the general public, the people in the countryside, in such a big city. In the city, not to mention the big hotels, even the small restaurants on the street, the taste is very good, but the price is not acceptable to those at the bottom. Tanjiro, the protagonist of this world's plot, his family is a low-level family, and his life is very miserable. If he hadn't killed his mother and younger siblings because of ghosts, he would have to spend his entire life in the country. He lives by digging carbon farms. Of course, if Tanjiro chooses himself, he would rather do that than his family members die. When Butterfly Ninja came to this restaurant, he saw Ronan and his group at first sight. There was no way. Compared with those around, Ronan and his group's sense of existence was too high, and anyone who saw it would not ignore it. A top-notch handsome man, plus a large group of beautiful girls, is too eye-catching. It's not that there are no gangsters who have made ideas, but those guys are now, let alone the body is cold, even the bones are raised. NS. And when Butterfly Ninja entered the restaurant, even before they came in, Ronan had spotted the two of them. He just smiled faintly and had some guesses in his heart. Mr. Ronan, take the liberty to visit, and please forgive me. Butterfly Ninja came to the table and said politely to Ronan and his party. I have seen Mr. Ronan. Chanahu, who had been smiling indifferently, also bowed to Ronan and his party, and nodded at the curious Robin and other girls. You guys belong to the Ghost Killing Team, right? Ronan rolled the sunwheel knife around their waists and said, I saw a girl from the Ghost Killing Team last time. Is she okay? Advertisement. Ganlu Temple Millie is very good. Thank you Mr. Ronan for your concern. Butterfly Shinobi's eyes moved slightly, and she said, this time I come here, on behalf of the birthing house, I will personally invite you to the Ghost Killing Team headquarters. I hope Mr. Ronan can agree. Don't talk about it, you guys come all the way, haven't you eaten yet? Sit down and eat something. Ronan greeted the two women to sit down, and then gestured to Karuman. Karuman got up and walked to the bar to add some food to the table. The two women were not too polite. Ronan asked them to sit down and eat, and they were not easy to refuse, but looking at Ronan's appearance, it seemed that there should be no problem with the invitation this time. After some conversation, Ronan learned that the Ghost Killing Team was ready to go to Infinity City. Anyway, he was planning to sign in Infinity City, so there was nothing wrong with agreeing to it. Okay, in the original book, the Ghost Killing Team attacked Infinite City but paid a very heavy price. A large number of pillars died. After basically killing the Ghost Dance Suji, the Ghost Killing Team almost died, and it can be considered to have completed their historical mission. But this time with his own participation, the Ghost Killing Team will basically not suffer any damage, at least the possibility of dying in the hands of Haishemu like Shidu Uichiro is gone, because Haishemu has already died in his own hands. There is also the possibility of Apricot Sho Lang from Purgatory being killed by Yuoza on the Infinite Train. This guy is still alive and kicking now. That being the case, Ronan readily agreed. Butterfly Ninja and Chanel's mission was successfully completed, leaving the two of them a little astonished for a while. It was indeed a bit unexpected to complete such a major task simply and with this strength. Ronan, who is terribly powerful, is too easy to get along with, right? The two women get along very happily with Robin Yelena and others. Time passed quickly. 2 days later, everyone arrived at the Ghost Killing Team headquarters. At this moment, the Ghost Killing Team headquarters had already made all the pre-war preparations. The battle against Infinite City is about to start. Chapter 205. Cyan Flowers and Perfect Blood. You Bean, don't run around. Wait for me to come back at home, no? At the headquarters of the Ghost Killing Team, because the final battle is coming, the swordsmen of the Ghost Killing Team have also gathered. This is not only the battle of the pillars, but also the battle of many ordinary Ghost Killing Team swordsmen. Tanjiro is of course an indispensable member. He brought his sister Niduzi to the headquarters of the Demon Slayer team for the final preparations. Along with him are my wife Zenitsu and Inosuke Chihiro, who live together in Tomioka Yoshiyuki's residence. As Tanjiro's senior brother, Yoshiyuki Tomioka helped Tanjiro a lot, and even Niduzi can survive to the present, and he also has the credit for his great support. On this day, Tanjiro was going to the host's residence for a meeting. It was heard that Chanel and Changzu had returned, and the mysterious powerhouse named Ronan had also arrived. Tanjiro was still very curious in awe of this powerful existence. He must also participate in this meeting. Not only him, but there are many swordsmen who are not pillars, but the higher-ranked swordsmen are participating in this meeting. Basically, they belong to the combatants who want to join the final battle. After taking care of Niduzi, Tanjiro was about to leave his residence and went to the residence of Shiki Yoshia in the delivery room. However, he was pulled by his sleeves before he took 2 steps. When he looked back, you saw that Uduzi looked at him innocently, and his eyes were full of dismay. Uduzi, this meeting is different from the previous one. There will be many people attending. After they see that you are a ghost, bad things may happen. I am also doing this for your good. Tanjiro grabbed you. Uduzi's hand said gently, you can wait for me to come back at home. Don't worry, I will be back immediately after the battle meeting, and I will take you with you in this final battle. Don't worry, I won't take you. Leave it alone. Uduzi shook his head and made a murmur, but he didn't let go. Tanjiro had no choice but to bring Uduzi. Because it was due to the daytime, in order to prevent the sun from burning, he still had to carry you with a basket, beans. It was only after arriving at the main residence that many people had gathered here, including Yoshiyuki Tomioka, who was already here, as well as Ninja Butterfly and Chanel, all of whom were going to take part in this battle. In the host's reception hall, Tanjiro saw the legendary character, Ronan. Advertisement at this moment, Ronan was talking about the decisive battle in Infinite City with the delivery house Shiki Yoshia. Suddenly he turned his head and looked outside. There were a lot of people in the yard. There was a young man with a flame pattern on his forehead carrying a basket. He was standing in the yard with the sunwheel knife slung around his waist, looking at himself curiously. Haha, Mr. Ronan, that's the newly promoted grade A swordsman of our ghost killing team, Tanjiro Odaman, and his sister in the back basket. But his sister's situation is a bit special, and I hope Mr. Ronan don't be offended, Yoya Shiki Yoya said softly. Haha, it's okay, but such a strange ghost is indeed a bit curious, so let him come and let his sister come out for me to see, maybe I can make her not afraid of the sun, Ronan smiled lightly, said. What? Yoya Shiki was shocked when he heard this, Ronan in front of him has the ability to make ghosts not afraid of the sun? How can it be? Could it be that he has the cyan Higan flower that Giwu Suji has been looking for, and he hasn't found it for nearly 8,000 years? Yoya Shiki was shocked in her heart. This precious medicine would be dangerous if it was obtained by Oni Mai Suji. However, Yoya Shiki also had to listen to Ronan's words. He also counted on Ronan to help them attack the Infinite City, and he was also curious whether it was the blue flower of the other side. Yoya Shiki called Tanjiro over and entered the reception hall. Without the direct sunlight, the beans in the basket also felt it. In particular, he felt a faintly strange breath, sometimes feeling this. The breath is as vast as the ocean, and sometimes feels misty and illusory like a passing glance. Uduzi wants to open the basket to see the situation. You beans, you, why did you come out? Tanjiro was meeting with Yoya Shiki and Ronan at the delivery house, but suddenly saw that the back basket set aside was opened. A cute girl with a bamboo pipe in her mouth suddenly appeared and looked at Ronan with scorching eyes. Being the Lord, and this Ronan-sama, this is my sister Niduzi. I hope you don't get angry, Tanjiro quickly apologized. What are you angry about? It's okay. Ronan waved his hand, smiled and looked at Uduzi, and said again. Very strange ghost, different from ordinary ghosts, strong-willed, very good. Advertisement, oh. So, what Mr. Ronan meant is that you can really keep your beans from being afraid of the sun? Yoya Shiki asked. No, not afraid of the sun. Tanjiro on the side was shocked when he heard the words, his eyes widened and looked at Ronan. He only now knows that when the Lord calls himself over, it should be Mr. Ronan's meaning, but not afraid of the sun, is this really okay? Tangilong looked at Ronan expectantly. Niduzi on one side was initially at a loss, but seeing Tangilang's excited expression, she seemed to think of something, staring at Ronan motionlessly with big cute eyes. So, Ronan smiled slightly in the expectant eyes of the two of them, flipped his hand and took out 2 things. Yes, 2 things. Ronan asked the system and wanted you to be fearless. Only these 2 things are there. Okay, otherwise, other costs and time will be spent, and Ronan doesn't have the free time to do it. For example, the 2 things that Ronan took out are the same super rare items in the world. The blue flower of the other side, this rare medicinal material, which is rare for thousands of years. The key is that the place where it grows is deep in the mountains and old forests, sometimes withering from growth to maturity, human beings don't know. The cyan Higan flower is also an item that Giwu Suji has been looking for. If it is matched with various medicinal materials for special means, it can indeed be formulated to make the ghost not afraid of the sun, but that takes time. Ronan didn't want to waste time, so he had another item, a test tube with red blood. This is not ordinary blood, but a kind of blood from a perfect creature born from the combination of a werewolf and a vampire. It is called perfect blood. This perfect creature is not afraid of the sun. There is a difference, but according to the system, the combination of the cyan blue flower and the perfect blood can make the ghosts of this world perfectly overcome the weakness of fear of the sun, and the power of the perfect blood can be completely released, making the ghosts look like ordinary people, but can transform into a powerful ghost in a dangerous moment, a more perfect existence than Ghost Maisuji. With a flick of Ronan's finger, the blue flower was shaken to smash, and the powder was melted into the blood in the test tube, so the red blood turned green, which looked a little weird. Yoshiki, Tanjiro, and Niduzi looked at Ronan's operations, and they were a little confused, but they understood a little bit when Ronan threw the test tube to Niduzi. Drink it. After drinking, you will not be afraid of the sun, and there are other benefits. You will become more perfect than Giwusuji in the future. Ronan motioned for your beans to drink. Tanjiro originally looked at the green. There was some hesitation in the test tube liquid, but Yuduzi's eyes were shining. After she smelled the blood in the test tube, she couldn't control her body a bit. This was even more controlled by ghosts than when she smelled thin blood before. No help. What kind of blood is this? It's too deadly for ghosts. It's not an exaggeration to say that this kind of perfect blood does not have the effect of not being afraid of the sun if it is not matched with the cyan other shore flower. After all, it is not the same kind of biological blood, but it can provide terrifying energy. The perfect blood of a test tube can make one ghosts don't have to prey on humans for several years, and they can even promote the growth of strength. For ghosts, the temptation is too great. The previous perfect blood is so tempting, otherwise Ronan shot to suppress Yuduzi. Yuduzi has rushed out and turned into a fighting form for snatching. It is not her own control at all, and now Ronan will directly merge the test tube containing the cyan Hegan flower was thrown into her hand, and she was exposed to the suppression. The green test tube liquid was more attractive than the previous one. Yuduzi didn't hesitate at all, and poured it directly into her mouth without a drop. Chapter 206 A Ghost Bathing in the Sun. Tanjiro looked at Yuduzi nervously. He didn't know what the weird liquid was, and he didn't know if Yuduzi would be okay after drinking it, but when the host was there, Ronan-sama was a big man. It should and is unlikely that he would deliberately fool himself. It was just a matter of his sister, and he always had some worries in his heart. However, after drinking this tube of the perfect blood fused with the cyan Hegan flower, the change of Niduzi was beyond everyone's expectations. Without any discomfort, Niduzi felt that her whole body was full of power. There is endless power in this tube of green liquid. This power constantly transforms her body and makes her physique stronger visible to the naked eye. Not only that, but among them, the power of the blue flower is also exerting its effect. Yuduzi can feel that the sunlight outside the door on the ground no longer has the heat in her eyes, and it no longer makes her feel scared. On the contrary, there is a kind of warmth, feel. Just do it when you say it. Yuduzi ran away and ran out of the living room directly under the big sun. This frightened Tanjiro. After Niduzi became a ghost, she stood upright under the sun for the first time, feeling the warmth of the sun instead of the terrifying heat, which made her eyes burst into tears. Tanjiro also saw that his younger sister was not burned by the sun, but stood under the sun casually without any damage. This made Tanjiro immediately overjoyed and almost jumped up with joy. His younger sister finally didn't have to hide in the daytime. NS. And the column level and first-class swordsmen who were gathering in the yard waiting for the meeting suddenly looked at Yuduzi in amazement. Most of them knew the identity of Yuduzi, but what did they see now? They actually saw a ghost standing upright in the sun without being burned by the sun. This really shocked them. This is something that even the ghost ancestor Giwusuji couldn't do. It was actually done by the little girl in front of him? Some people even have vigilance and hostility in their hearts, and they look at Yuduzi with murderous intent in their eyes. Such a ghost who is not afraid of the sun is really disturbing. As if feeling the hostility, Niduzi glanced in the direction where the swordsmen gathered, then ran back to the meeting room, came to Tanjiro's side obediently, took his hand, but looked at Ronan, full of gratitude, even reached out and took off the bamboo tube that was shouting in her mouth. This thing was originally prepared to prevent her from running away and eating people, but it is no longer needed. The energy contained in the perfect blood is completely enough. She has lived in the sun for decades, so she no longer has to worry about food. She can feel that her body can absorb energy through the sun. Yuduzi feels that this is simply a big secret. The ghosts of this world, the sun is their only natural enemy. Even if the ghost dance Suji is exposed to the sun for a long time, it will undoubtedly die, and she? Not only is she not afraid of the sun anymore, she can also absorb energy by basking in the sun. How can this not surprise her? Although the kind-hearted Yuduzi is a ghost, it is not a cannibal ghost, nor is it from the ghost dance Suji faction. It was a good ghost like Zushi, a ghost with human nature. She looked at Ronan and knew that this was Ronan's method. Fortunately, Mr. Ronan was strong enough. Otherwise, if the heaven-defying potions are those of Ghost Dance Suji, if the bad ghost gets it, with the power of the ghost, if they can live freely under the sun, maybe the whole world will suffer. Thanks, thank you. Advertisement. After Niduzi became a ghost, he spoke for the first time. The blood of perfection and the blue flower of the other shore are very powerful, directly allowing Niduzi to have the ability to speak again. Unlike other ghosts have the ability to speak. Whether it is the group of evil ghosts under Giwusuji, or good ghosts like Juz and Yushiro, they can all speak. Yuduzi is different. It may be the process of becoming a ghost. Shu was too cruel, which made her lose her ability to speak, and now, she has regained her ability to speak again, which also made Tanjiro on the side extremely happy. You're welcome. Ronan waved his hand and looked at Niduzi and Tanjiro with a smile. It's really not easy for your brothers and sisters. This kind of thing may be very important to you, but for me it is just a small effort. Don't care too much, that's it for life. It's a big effort for Mr. Ronan, but for me and Niduzi, this is the same great grace as recreating life. Tanjiro was solemnly grateful to Ronan, and then said, waiting for this decisive battle to solve the ghost dance Suji. After the fall, I will return to my hometown with you Duzi to live a good life. I hope our attack on Infinite City can be successfully completed. Haha, Mr. Ronan is here, this action must be no problem. Yoya on the side laughed along with him. The burden of fighting Ghost Mai Suji has always been on his body. As the leader of the ghost killing team, his pressure can be imagined, even not just him. The past heads of the Miyashiki family are basically short-lived ghosts, which have cursing elements in them, and also have the effect of huge pressure. And now, with the help of Ronan, a peerless and powerful man who suddenly appeared, there is absolutely no problem in dealing with the ghost dance Suji. Ronan's strength, he really realized that even the terrifying existence of the Black Death Mo was caused by him. It was resolved. This time the attack on Infinite City was accompanied by their ghost killing team. How could it be impossible to get a ghost dance Suji? As he was talking, Butterfly Ninja came to inform that the meeting could officially begin, so everyone moved to the meeting hall. When he arrived at the conference hall, Ronan turned his eyes and saw Millie of Ganlu Temple and the girls beside her. It was Robin, Nami and the others. When they first came to the headquarters of the ghost killing team, Lien Zhu came to visit Ronan and thanked Ronan again for his life-saving grace. She just saw Robin and others, so she invited a few women to play. Now that the meeting started, she also brought the girls back to attend the meeting. Regarding Ronan's companions, the ghost killing team did not dare to neglect at all. A few Zhu even could feel that these girls are not weak, especially Hancock and others, faintly making them feel a strong sense of oppression. There is a feeling of facing the peak power. The meeting officially began. This meeting is a pre-war meeting. After the meeting is over, everyone will rush to Infinite City. This battle is very important. The war between hundreds of people and ghosts for nearly 1,000 years is about to come to an end. Know how important it is. Chapter 207 The Battle of Infinite City. The Fear of Oni Mai Suji. Just when the Demon Slayer headquarters gathered all the pillars to prepare for the Infinite City, it is of course impossible for Oni Mai Suji to know the location of the Demon Slayer headquarters. As mentioned before, Oni Mai Suji also investigated the location of the Demon Slayer team's headquarters in order to destroy the Ghost Squad. To make preparations, but now it seems that it is not that the Ghost Killing Team is attacking the headquarters of the Ghost Killing Team, but the Ghost Killing Team is going to attack itself first. Damn Ronan, it's the fault of this guy who suddenly appeared. Giwu Suji cursed fiercely, with a fierce light in his eyes, but unfortunately, there is no way to take Ronan, because he didn't dare face Ronan head-on. Even Black Death Mo is not his opponent, this guy is terrible. Giwu Suji couldn't help showing a trace of fear in the depths of his eyes, and then took a deep breath and began to gather people to guard Infinite City. Then, after summoning all the dear ghosts under his men, he found sadly that there were no more powerful ghosts under his men. Among the upper string ghosts, only one Tong Mo is still alive, and the lower string ghosts are all there, but in the eyes of Gui-Wu Suji, these lower string ghosts are all rubbish. How could it be the opponent of those pillars, and there is also a Ronan? The corner of Giwu Suji's eyes twitched, and then he looked at the ghosts and said in a deep voice, this time the ghost killing team must be killed. As long as you fight hard and defeat the ghost killing team, I will give you ghost blood after the war based on your performance, and promote you to the first string. Wow, really? A ghost cried out in surprise, and was able to be promoted to the top. In their opinion, it is a very generous reward, not to mention the ghost blood reward, which is a direct increase in strength. The best way. Thank you Ghost Dance Suji-sama for the reward, we will definitely complete the task, Tired solemnly replied. Master Giwu Suji, those ghost killing teams must return without success, let's see how we defeat them, Sound Guy muttered. The other ghosts also nodded one after another, saying that the ghost killing team was nothing but this, and if they wanted to attack the Infinite City, they would inevitably suffer a crushing defeat. Tong Mo on the side looked at these ghosts with cold eyes, did not speak, stood respectfully beside Giwu Suji, and Naruto was even more so, she had been kneeling on the side holding her pippa, bowing her head without saying a word. Advertisement Tong Mo and Nanganu are very clear about the strength of the ghost killing team, and they are extremely afraid of Ronan's strength. The 6 ghosts of the wind are almost killed by Ronan alone. This time the ghost killing team is attacking, Ronan has a high probability. It will come. It is estimated that only Ghost Dance Suji will be able to fight Ronan. Then the pillars of the other ghost killing teams are intact, all the pillars with the highest fighting strength. Who will deal with them? Tong Mo sighed in his heart, only he and Naruto are the only ones left. Naruto is also an alternate winding ghost now, but it's too early to say this. Only if she is still alive after the battle is over, any reward will be given. But are he and Naruto really the opponents of those column level swordsmen? 1 or 2 can handle it by himself, but at 5 or 6, 7 or 8 column levels, can he really resist it? Absolutely impossible. Tong Mo raised his eyes and glanced at Oni Mai Suji who was gently talking to the ghosts and encouraged them to fight bravely. Obviously, Oni Mai Suji was cheering on these ghosts. In fact, it was just to send them to death. These guys can deal with it. Who got it? Can you deal with Zhu? If Zu was so easy to deal with, would he still be rampant until now? Don't ask them to work harder. As long as you can hold down 1 or 2 pillars when fighting, it can be considered as reducing the pressure for yourself. As a result, the Ghost Killing Team and the Infinite City were preparing for the final battle. Finally, 2 days later, the Ghost Killing Team finally reached the Infinite City, and the Ghost Dance Suji also hurriedly began to challenge. Ghost Dance Suji is not miserable, today you will definitely die. Purgatory Apricot Show Lang rushed to the front. After entering the Infinite City, he rushed directly up, wanting to be the first to fight Giwu Suji. It is a pity that a Pippa sounded. Under the power of Naruto, the Infinite City circulated, and everyone including Ronan was directly separated. Ronan did not resist. If he resisted, Naruto did not. The way to transfer himself, if Robin Hancock and others were with him, he would definitely not let the girls separate from him, but the girls still stayed at the Ghost Killing Team headquarters, waiting for their victory and return. So Ronan decided, like everyone else, move slowly, or in other words, give other pillars a place to play a role. Advertisement: if he pushes the Infinite City horizontally with one hand, then all the pillars have been prepared for so long, wouldn't all of them be in vain? This was the grievance between the Ghost Killing Team and the Ghost Dance Suji for hundreds of thousands of years, and it was too cruel to not give them a chance to fight and fight. Ronan certainly wouldn't watch the Ghost Killing Team get hit hard, and under his control, such a thing would not happen yet. As a result, Ronan played Kabuto so lightly, appearing in crisis rooms from time to time to rescue the members of the Ghost Killing Team who were in danger. As a result, the members of the Ghost Killing Team were unscathed. Infinite City is here. The casualties were heavy, and the ghosts of the end had suffered a head-on attack, and a large number of rapid deaths, whether it was the nightmare of the powerful end of the year, or the cunning and exhausted, all died tragically in the hands of the Ghost Killer Team, ending their sinful life. Hidden behind the scenes, Giwu Suji saw this very clearly, and the fear in his eyes became more intense. At the same time, he gritted his teeth with bitterness towards Ronan, who intervened in the Ghost Killing Team to fight against the ghosts from time to time. Where did this Ronan come from? Damn it! Through Naruto's blood ghost skills, Giwu Suji looked at Ronan viciously, wishing to swallow Ronan, but unfortunately, he didn't dare. Confronted Ronan head-on. Master Giwu Suji, Ronan is very powerful. Even if I try to move him to the corner, he can come out on his own, and even move towards the dangerous Ghost Killing Team very purposefully. I feel that with his strength, it is impossible to be transferred by me. He may be deliberate. The husky voice of Naruto was full of inconceivability. She was a spatial blood ghost technique, and it was so easy that a human could crack it. It was incredible. Tong Mo, you go to hold Ronan. You don't want you to defeat him, nor do you want you to die. Just think of a way to hold him. Giwu Suji turned his head fiercely, looking at Tong Mo, and said solemnly. I went to deal with the pillars of the Ghost Killing Team. I can't go on like this anymore. If they really let them kill the lasting ghost and some other low-level ghosts, our final result will definitely be a dead place, so I must take advantage of it. When the woman separated them, she went to destroy them all, but the only thing I didn't have the confidence to solve was Ronan. Master Giwu Suji, I understand. Tong Mo nodded his head heavily. I will hold Ronan, so that he will not disturb your battle. You must also solve the pillars one by one as soon as possible. Otherwise, if it takes too long, I'm afraid that Naruto can't stop them. And I can't hold this Ronan for too long, his strength is too strong. He is still very confident of his own strength. If he is facing other people, even the strongest pillar, he is not afraid. But now, he has to face Ronan. This is a succession of killings. All the powerful human beings other than him, how can this not make him solemn? Chapter 209. Killing Tong Mo. Ronan shot everyone's surprise. Injured in the battle with you? Do you think you have this strength? Ronan looked at Tong Mo indifferently. This guy was not bad at the winding stage. He was second only to Black Death Mo. If we only talk about combat power, it is estimated to be about the same as Yuazo, or even a little bit worse. On the other hand, there are a lot of lofty seats, otherwise this guy will not become the leader of the Eternal Bliss sect. Under his hand, a large group of mad believers who have worked for him have been fooled, and he is a very terrifying lunatic. However, this so-called horror is for ordinary people. For Ronan, this guy is just an ant that can be pinched to death at will, just like in front of him. Looking at the invincible Tong Mo, Ronan said lightly, hold me back. If you are so confident, let me see if your strength is as powerful as you said. When Ronan's voice fell, he would take action, and Tong Mo on the opposite side also looked at him. Regardless of how confident he said, he was actually very vigilant towards Ronan. This was what killed the Black Death Mo. The strong, no matter how vigilant and prudent, you must hold back Ronan's footsteps and create opportunities for Lord Giwu Suji. At the moment, Giwu Suji is working on the first pillar. As long as he can hold Ronan's footsteps, with the powerful strength of Lord Giwu Suji, the pillars can definitely be broken one by one, and then he can deal with Ronan wholeheartedly. Naruto, turn the room coordinates to make Ronan more difficult. Tong Mo said to Naruto, and at the same time attacked Ronan himself. His vision was slightly blurred, and he saw Ronan in the opposite room suddenly inverted, turning his head and feet upwards. Obviously, the space rules were changed by Naruto. He wanted to make Ronan flustered by this. And Tong Mo also seized the opportunity. A flash of light flashed in his dazzling but icy eyes, and he drew in a low voice. Blood Ghost Technique. Lian Yi Bing. The infinite cold air swayed from his pair of iron fans, condensing into white ice lotus, exuding a terrifying cold air, freezing the human body and blood, turning the entire room into a piece of ice hell. With a cold smile in Tong Mo's eyes, he coldly looked at Ronan on the opposite side, wanting to see how miserable Ronan was in this cruel environment. As a ghost using Ice Blood Ghost Art, in this kind of small space, there is also Naruto's help, which is just like a tiger. He has self-confidence. In this environment, even the dark and dead Mo will not necessarily defeat him. In front of him, Ronan, who was surrounded by countless Ice Lotus escaping the cold, still looked calm, his eyes calmly looking at the somewhat proud Tong Mo, as if the Ice Lotus around him did not exist at all. In fact, it is true. Although these Ice Lotus are very powerful, let alone ordinary people, even those powerful ghost-killing team swordsmen will be frostbited by them, but for Ronan, they really have no effect at all. NS. This bit of cold doesn't even count as an air conditioner. Why don't you just let it go for fun? Ronan shook his head and smiled and waved his hand. Not only has the person recovered their original spatial position, the cold in the room has also suddenly cleared, and there is even a sense of hotness. You know, Ronan possesses the power of Mera-mera Fruit. He has also practiced the sun-breathing technique to its peak. Well, there are also the shards of the power of the phoenix. So many flame ancestor-level powers. What a little bit of cold air is like Tong Mo, just like the same drop of water falling into a big fire, a little bit. The waves couldn't turn up. What? How could it be possible? Advertisement. Seeing this, Tong Mo on the opposite side changed his face greatly, shouting impossibility, but he was made uncomfortable by the hot surrounding him. He was an ice ghost and hated flames. He was more afraid of flame power than other ghosts. Also, Naon, what's the matter with Ronan? Didn't you change his space position? Why are you recovering now? Tong Mo was still yelling at Naonu, who was originally done by Ronan. He was shocked to see that Ronan's position in the space returned to normal, which was even more shocking. The opponent is too strong. I can't fully control the space where he is. Naruto paused and said. You, ask for more blessings. Lord Gyusuji called me. I'm going to help the adults. You sighed. There is nothing I can do. What? Damn it, you guy. How can I face this horrible guy alone? Now Tong Mo has completely put away his contempt, or that he didn't have any contempt for Ronan, but now he finds that he still underestimates the other party. The other party is far more terrifying than he thought, and even Naruto can't control it. The space where the opponent is located, but also has terrible flame power, just to restrain his own Ice Blood Ghost Art. Tong Mo's face was extremely ugly. Naruto couldn't get in touch with her. She wanted to help Gyusuji. There was no reinforcements on her side. What should I do? Tong Mo struggled for a while, and then he was cruel and decided to use all his strength to fight Ronan. He couldn't surrender or something, not to mention that the other party couldn't accept it. Even if he accepted it, Gyusuji couldn't let himself surrender, a thought. You can kill yourself. Only by working hard to complete the task, holding Ronan, and letting Ghost Dance Suji successfully break through the pillars, can everything be saved. Unexpectedly, when I was so cautious, I still underestimated you, but I won't give up. Next is my real strength. Tong Mo took a deep breath and attacked Ronan again with all his strength. Blood Ghost Art Man Lianhua, Blood Ghost Art Lotus Flower. Blood Ghost Art Dry Garden Chui Shui, Blood Ghost Art Frozen Cloud. Blood Ghost Art Han Lies Bai Ji, Blood Ghost Art Xuandong Icicle. Blood Ghost Art Miko of Crystal, advertisement, Blood Ghost Art Fog Ice Water Lily Bodhisattva. With a sigh of relief, Tong Mo used all his tricks, and the last one was his final trick, the most powerful and pinnacle one. With such a move, he was confident that he could give the opponent a fatal blow. Definitely can make the opponent suffer heavy losses. Tong Mo gasped violently, relieved his extremely exhausted mind, and looked at Ronan on the opposite side, wanting to see the appearance of Ronan being defeated. However, what did he see? Even though this room has been completely frozen, Ronan, who is floating in the air in front, is still unharmed. His figure is floating in the air, with a trace of flame floating on his body. The whole person is like the god of flames. The surrounding cold air of ice couldn't hurt him at all. Even, as far as Ronan's eyes were, any frozen ice began to melt. Even the water lily bodhisattva exuding terrifying cold air was rapidly melting. Do not. Tong Mo's eyes widened, and he let out a low growl in despair. It's over, Ronan said calmly. Then, the flames all over his body suddenly exploded. With a bang, the whole room was broken, and the infinite flame power was fiercely impacted, forcibly squeezing this solid and incomparable space. The cage is torn apart. Yes, not only Tong Mo died under the eruption of this terrifying flame, but the entire infinite city was bombarded and torn apart, and was shaken by Ronan's terrifying blow. Rumble. Under the bombardment of this terrifying force, the entire infinite city shook, and the complexion of Naruto who controlled the entire infinite city changed drastically. Master Gyusuji, that Ronan has already blasted through the space cage of infinite city, and the entire infinite city has been out of my control. What? Gyusuji, who received the message from Naruto, was about to kill Yu Sui Tianyuan at this time, and officially ended up dropping this column-level swordsman, but the message from Naruto made his face change drastically. Chapter 210. Killing Ghost Maisuji without misfortune. It's over. How is it possible? What about Tong Mo? Didn't I let him hold Ronan for me? Gyusuji asked with a gloomy expression. Master Tong Mo has been killed by Ronan. Naruto Kaido. Unexpectedly, so fast, Ghost Wusuji could predict that Tong Mo was not Ronan's opponent, but he did not expect that Ronan would solve Tong Mo so quickly, and even directly broke the space cage of Infinite City, which was beyond his imagination. No, that guy is terrible. Giwu Suji's eyes flickered, and he no longer paid attention to Yusui Tianyuan, who had already been hit hard by him and could be solved by the last blow. He was afraid that Ronan would catch him after he stayed for a second. Immediately turned and left. This was the decision made by Oni Maisuji. And the opposite Yusui Tianyuan, who had already given up treatment, was about to be killed by Giwu Suji, but at this moment, the entire space of Infinite City was shaking. This violent movement immediately made his eyes bright. There was a glimmer of hope in my heart, and when I saw the ghost Wu Suji who had wanted to kill him, he stopped moving and thought about it, and then turned around and ran, recovering his life. Haha da laugh out loud. Rumble. The space where the entire Infinite City is located began to crack layer by layer. The ghost-killing team swordsmen who were originally divided in the big rooms also saw their teammates from the cracked space. Although they were a little surprised by this, they very quickly rushed towards the teammates, Butterfly Ninja, Ganlu Temple Millie, etc., as well as Purgatory Apricot Sholong and others, all gathered in one direction. Not long after, everyone had gathered together. Everyone is okay? Fuji and Yeong looked at other places vigilantly, and asked in a low voice. Yihye Zhaobani waved his hand. We are all fine, but Yuya Tianyuan seems to have something wrong. What opponent did he meet? Not far away, the appearance of Yuzui Tianyuan who was seriously injured made everyone a little shocked. Butterfly Ninja had already rushed over to treat Yuzui Tianyuan while asking about his condition. You encountered Giwu Suji, it's not easy for you to survive. It's not that I'm good, it should be that Ronan who made the shot. Yu Tianyuan said, his eyes locked in the front, where Ronan's figure was suspended high in the sky, and in front of Ronan, a terrifying figure was slowing down. Slowly retreating, it is not someone else, it is the ghost Maisuji who severely injured him. Hearing what Yuzui Tianyuan said, other people also turned their eyes to that place. When they saw the figure of Giwu Suji, their expressions became serious. There is no doubt that the power of Giwu Suji is undoubted. Look at Yuzui Tianyuan, who is almost dying in front of him. You know how powerful it is, and now, this powerful being is running away with fear on his face. Advertisement Giwu Suji took the only surviving Naruto and wanted to run away. As for the other bottom strings, they had long been killed by the posts. By relying on those bottom strings to stop them, it was really incapable. It's all rubbish. Giwu Suji secretly cursed the bottom strings of the 12 ghosts. Tongmo couldn't hold back Ronan, but none of the ghosts survived, but the pillars of the ghost killing team didn't get any serious injuries. It is conceivable how wasteful those last strings are. Right now, the men he trained for many years are basically dead and wounded, and only one Naruto is left. Now Infinite City has collapsed, and Naruto's role is almost gone. He has become a lonely family. But if you want to live now, you have to escape from the existence that is terrifying at first sight. Oniwu Suji's face is so gloomy that water will drip. Why don't you run away? Ronan had his hands on his back, his face calmly looked at Giwu Sujimura, and he said softly, keep running, maybe you will run away? Ronan, don't go too far. You, someone who doesn't know where to come out, doesn't have any grudges against me, right? Are you just doing this for the ghost killing team? Is it worth it? Giwu Suji asked in a deep voice. I really felt that I was too wronged. How could I meet such a top powerhouse who suddenly appeared? It is really incomprehensible. This is simply too unreasonable. It is like a person who does not belong to this world. He has survived for nearly 8,000 years. He has not been to many countries in this world, let alone Ronan from the next big country. He has been in the world for thousands of years. All countries have traveled, and have never heard of the possibility of such a powerful existence. He can't understand, but the scene before him has made him unable to think about these things. The most important thing right now is how to save his life. No hatred with me. Ronan raised his brows and said, I want to ask, when I am playing, why is there a group of people who want to intercept and kill me? Is this what you call no grievances and no enmity? As soon as Giwu Suji heard this, he was immediately shocked, knowing that Ronan would definitely not let him go. He didn't think so much at the beginning. He thought that the death of Yuazo was his underestimation, and he also had the ability to try Ronan. But I didn't expect it, but it became my own catastrophe. Giwu Suji had a trace of regret in his heart, and had long known that he would not send those guys to trouble Ronan. Giwu Suji knew that Ronan would never let herself go anyway, and immediately cruelly waved his hand at Naruto behind him. Naruto is covering me and fighting this guy. Yes, Lord Oniwu Suji. Naruto nodded, and then flicked the pipa. After a trembling sound, there was a wave of fluctuations in the space in front of Ronan, as if the air was compressed, and she attacked Ronan. However, such an attack was like a tickling to Ronan, and it had no effect at all. Ghost Dance Suji also knew, but Naruto's role was to interfere with Ronan. Advertisement he jumped quickly and attacked Ronan. Blood Ghost Art Black Blood Fructus Oranti. Giwu Suji didn't want to take the move passively, and directly attacked. He was also afraid that he would be killed by Ronan before he could make a move. Now facing Ronan, he didn't have the slightest contempt for him. Just this little trick? Kill me. Ronan waved his hand, and countless sword chi burst out, destroying all the fleshy spikes like tentacles. Ronan's sword aura was too strong, and it was not something that Giwu Suji could resist. Those sword auras, after destroying the flesh and blood spikes, still stabbed towards Ghost Wu Suji with unabated momentum. Not good. Ghost Wu Suji's complexion changed. He never expected that Ronan's attack was so terrifying. Now he really realized the despair of other winds facing Ronan. It was not that those guys were incompetent at all, but Ronan was too strong and powerful, to the point of desperation. Oni Maisuji's eyes were firm, and he let out a low voice, split. With a bang, the whole person exploded into countless pieces of flesh and blood, and flew in all directions. This is his trick at the bottom of the box. There is no offensive power. The only effect is that as long as he escapes a piece of flesh and blood, he can be reborn, just like the legendary vampire turned into countless bats. This is his last life-saving trick. Originally, Gyu Suji's strength must be very powerful. Even when facing multiple column levels, it is impossible to use a life-saving trick as soon as he makes a move, but this time he is facing Ronan. Want to run? You have no chance, Ronan smiled coldly, and then the whole person seemed to have turned into a dazzling sun. With a bang, endless light and heat radiated, containing the light and heat of the power of the phoenix, shining on all the pieces of flesh and blood. Above, after only hearing a scream, it seemed that Ghost Dance Suji's screams were heard, and finally turned into ashes. Ghost Dance Suji, now perish. Even Naruto was burned to ashes under the endless light and heat. Ended. After converging the light and heat, Ronan's complexion was still flat. He looked around for a week and nodded in satisfaction. The final boss of the world of Ghost Slayer was solved, and the sign-in rewards were almost taken. This time the holiday of dimensional play is almost over. NS. Chapter 211 Return. Open a new dimension. The battle in the world of Demon Slayer Blade has ended. Ronan stayed with the girls for a few days in the detention of everyone in the Demon Slayer team before returning to the pirate world. During the few days of stay, the girls got along very happily with Ganlu Temple Millie, Butterfly Ninja, Shanahu and Niduzi. They also agreed with each other. They will come together more often in the future, and the ghost killing team will return. Thinking that Ronan and his party were going back to the next big country, they didn't know that they were returning to the pirate world. After returning to pirate world, I first took a look at the situation on Aran Island and asked about the situation in New World. Don't let Marine give away his lair during his absence, but there are other 4 emperors. Now, if you want to come to Marine's new admiral, you should not have the courage. Marshal Sengoku also came from the time when Ronan was shaking the sea. It is estimated that there is no chance of winning. It is absolutely impossible to act rashly. The fact is true. The situation in pirate world is still stable. Ronan calculated it. At this time period, the plot of the original story has almost begun. I don't know if things in the plot of the original story will happen because of his sudden chaos. Kaya was taken away by herself, and the Empress also followed herself. Not to mention Nami Vivi, the Straw Hat group is no longer as lively as the original. Ronan didn't think so much. It's impossible to let Nami Vivi go back, right? So, he went idle again, and when he was bored, he would find Shanks Hawkeye to try his swordsmanship, or he would go to Whitebeard for a drink, or go shopping with the girls at home. After such a period of time, Ronan couldn't be idle again. System. The world level of Demon Slayer Blade is too low, even lower than the pirate world. If I turn on the dimensional breaker again, can I open a high level world? Ronan asked about the system. The low level world is not very interesting. Although you can sign in to get rewards, the reward items are not too good. The only thing Ronan cares about the most is the world source energy. Others, such as the skills obtained in the world of Ghost Slayer Blade, can only be said to be better than nothing, and not much precious. Host. The world level opened by the dimensional wall breaker is not controlled by this system. The system replied. Please also host to explore it yourself. Yes, the system is just picking it up, and it's up to Ronan himself. In desperation, Ronan had to turn it on and take a look. On this day, Ronan took out the dimensional breaker, ready to open a new dimensional world. After the dimensional wall breaker passed the world source energy obtained by the world of Demon Slayers, it was already full of energy, and even its energy was enough to activate it 3 times. With 3 opportunities, Ronan would not be reluctant to open it. Turn on. Advertisement. Ronan directly turned on the dimensional wall breaker, and the familiar blue light flickered from the dimensional wall breaker, and a light door appeared. The light gate has appeared. The system. Check the world level on the opposite side. Ronan said in a deep voice, this is okay. Before opening the world of Demon Slayer Blade, it can be identified in advance, and this time it will definitely be okay. Ding. The middle world of gods and demons is extremely dangerous. Host, please be careful. Ronan was surprised by the system's words. He didn't expect that the world he was thinking of opening before shouldn't be too low level, but now it suddenly opened a world of middle level gods and demons, at least a world with gods. Ronan is only a demigod now. If he accidentally passed this, he might encounter a serious god and demon level powerhouse, and he wouldn't know how he would die by then. After wiping his sweat slightly, Ronan grinned and said, save the coordinates of this world, and then turn it on again. He definitely wouldn't dare to pass such a world, too risky, but not necessarily in the future, so even if you save the coordinates of this world, in this way, next time you open it, you don't need to consume the world source energy to search for the coordinates. Saved. The system replied. Ronan nodded. He now has the coordinates of the Demon Slayer Blade world and the coordinates of this newly found god and demon world. These coordinates can't be lost, but a kind of precious possessions. It's not good to say that, in the future, if you encounter a powerful enemy that is invincible, you can still take refuge in these worlds. As for the enemy who wants to catch up, first find the accurate coordinates. Finding the coordinates is not that simple. Even items as powerful as the dimensional wall breaker can only be searched randomly. It is too difficult to find a certain coordinate purposefully. At least the powerhouse of the gods and demons cannot do it, which gives Ronan immaneuverable space and is also a very precious hole card. Ronan turned on the dimensional breaker for the second time. The world he wanted to open was a world of martial arts, just a little stronger than the pirate world. Don't be too strong. If it's too strong, he had to pretend to be a grandson in the past. That would be uncomfortable. When it was opened for the second time, the blue light door appeared again, and the system once again identified the opposite world class. Ding! High-ranking prehistoric creation world. The identification of the system once again shocked Ronan. This time it was even more outrageous. He even opened up a high-ranking world of creation. Just kidding, this, let alone encountering enemies in the past, it is estimated that even survival is a problem, right? Ronan's mouth twitched and became speechless. Host, this high-dimensional creation level world is implicated in the fragments of the power of the Phoenix rule you have integrated. According to this system's identification, it should be the Marvel world. The system sent a message again, which made Ronan look a little bit bright. Marvel world? Hurry up and save the coordinates. Advertisement. He had thought before that he must have the power of the Phoenix together when he had the opportunity. He was still thinking about how difficult it is to find the coordinates of Marvel's world. He didn't expect it to be clear now that the coordinates of Marvel's world were available. Ronan. My heart suddenly loosened. According to my previous thoughts, I want to reach the immortal level of the saint, the state of eternal immortality, and at the same time have the power of the Phoenix and the power of the saint. Now that the coordinates of the Marvel world where the power of the Phoenix is located, the coordinates of the prehistoric world are me. The main goal in the future. Ronan thought, nodded, and saved Marvel's world coordinates. Marvel said that if it's just the Earth, it's not too dangerous. As long as he doesn't look for death by himself, it's basically not too dangerous, but in the universe there are too many uncertain factors, let alone some incomprehensible existence above the universe. Ronan didn't want to take risks. He was still not ready to go to the Marvel world now. He had only one life, but he couldn't take risks. I have to try again. I hope the world opened for the last time is a world suitable for my past. With a sigh, Ronan turned on the dimensional wall breaker again, and turned it on for the third time. This time, as long as it is in the world of high martial arts, it is really not good. It is acceptable to be a little lower than the world of Demon Slayer Blade. It is better than nothing. In other words, it is better than the previous two exaggerated worlds, at least safe. The blue light gate appears for the third time. Ding! The next level world of gods, demon, and fairy. The background of the world is different from that of the earth. The identification of the system appeared again. This time, although it was at the level of the gods, demons, and heroes, it was inferior. Although it was also dangerous, it was enough in Ronan's eyes, but unfortunately it was not his ideal high-ranking, high-strength world level. Forget it. Where are so many ideal things happening? Ronan shook his head, and then looked at this light gate with scorching eyes, the lower god, demon, and fairy level world. If you sign in, you will definitely get a very good reward. After you go for a wave, you can go again. How can you say that you have been in the lower position in the middle rank god and demon world that you opened for the first time, and if you go to the middle rank, you can handle it, right? For Ronan's world of the gods and demons level, he already needs to deal with it carefully, so this time he is unable to take the girls with him. Even if the surrounding environment is not dangerous after he goes to investigate, he is not prepared to let the girls pass. Get started. I hope this world can give me some good sign and rewards. With that, Ronan stepped out and walked into this light gate. Chapter 212. The Three Main Gods. The moment after entering the light gate, Luonan's complexion changed abruptly, his brows wrinkled tightly, and he simply checked the surrounding environment. Fortunately, it was a wasteland. The energy content in the air was indeed high, far more than the pirate world and the world of Demon Slayer Blade are much taller, and they are worthy of being a world with gods. But what made Ronan frown was that when he came to lead the world, he felt that his strength was suppressed. System, what's the matter? My strength was actually suppressed. Ronan did not act cautiously, but calmly and asked the system. Even though he had learned a lot of information about the heavens and worlds from the system before, he was still only cognizantly simple. The kind of suppression he is encountering now is the same as before. Did not understand. Host, the world level you used to go to is lower than the pirate world. Naturally there is no suppression. In other words, such a low-level world cannot suppress your powerful strength. And now the world you are in. The world level is much higher than the pirate world. High at a large level, you do not have an immortal essence, and you are not a native life in this world. Naturally, you cannot escape such suppression. This is also the protection of yourself by the major worlds. In terms of the system, Ronan understood why he was suppressed, but he still had some doubts. Since it is protection, why not protect itself from the low-level world and suppress the invaders of the high-level world? If my current low-level world comes from the high-level world, can it still cause damage to such a high-level world? Ronan asked. According to his understanding, this is the reverse, right? The power of the heavens and all realms is respected, and the rule of the world, like suppression, is also the rule that the strong is respected. Only the strong world can suppress the weak world. The reality is so cruel, not the host. The system replied calmly. Hearing this, Ronan couldn't help sighing. The strong respects the strong. The so-called rules are not at all protecting the weak. These rules are made by the strong. The rules of the world are also made by the powerful world. The strong suppresses the weak. Is the truth of the heavens and all realms? Ronan now feels the cruelty of the heavens and all realms. It is not at all the idealization of his previous invincibility in the pirate world. It seems that this time in the new world exploration, you have to be careful. After all, this world can be it's not a weak world like the Blade of Ghost Slayer. With the existence of gods, you still have to stay for a while, and wait until you sign in to get better rewards and your strength improves, then it is not too late to go hard with the gods of this world. In other words, he is also a person with a sign-in system, and the growth rate is far beyond the comparison of these indigenous gods. Rest assured, Ronan began his journey to Otherworld. Before starting this dimensional breaker, he had already told Orovia and others that this time may take a long time, and this time. The world is dangerous, and it is inconvenient to bring them here. Although the women were worried and reluctant, they also obeyed Ronan's decision, but for a long time told him to be careful. This is a wasteland. You have to find the human gathering place in this world first. Ronan thought about it, and started to take action, flying directly into the air, choosing a direction randomly, and the streamer flew forward. After flying for about a few minutes, I saw a small town. At the speed of Ronan, it only took a few minutes to fly from the wasteland to this small town. But in fact, this distance, if people walk on foot, is at least day and night. After half a month, his speed is very fast. Advertisement. Well, the physical fitness of ordinary humans in this world is not bad. Falling down from a high altitude, Ronan landed directly in this small town. Although he was thinking of keeping a low profile, he was not keeping a low profile with ordinary people. Instead, he asked the gods to fight before the start of the game. In the world of ordinary people, he's still fearless. Judging from the situation in the town, this is probably a similar social form in the Middle Ages in Europe, and the world background is similar, but there are real gods, which means that this is not just as simple as the Middle Ages, and I don't know if it is an animation world. Ronan's arrival made the people in the town a little surprised, and they looked at him in astonishment. Ronan's exquisite clothes caught their attention, but originally Ronan thought that the black hair and black eyes were more eye-catching, but it did not happen, because there are some black hair and black eyes in this small town, but the face is still the same. The kind with sunken eye sockets. Who is this person? Uncle Oham, you have been to a big city. Isn't this a nobleman from a big city? A young teenager looked at Ronan enviously at the very expensive white clothing, and turned towards asked an uncle next to him. Well, the uncle beside the young man groaned for a while, his eyes moved and he said, it must be a noble master from a big city. It's extraordinary at first sight. Maybe it's from the royal city. Don't rush into the house, you know? I know. Sure enough, when the young man on the side heard this, he immediately nodded. Although Ronan is far away from the two of them, in fact, with his strength, of course, he could clearly hear the conversation between the two, and his expression couldn't help but move. He swept through the mental energy directly, and he has already learned the language of the world. Communication is naturally not a problem. Therefore, he smiled slightly and walked towards the two of them. The main target was the Uncle Oham. People who have been to big cities will naturally know a little more about the world, and they can learn more about the world from him. When Ronan took the initiative to talk, the two were flattered. Naturally, they knew everything they could say, and Ronan would say whatever he asked. In a clever conversation, Ronan also drew out the general situation of the world from the two populations. The two people don't know what this world is called, but the two of them know the continent they are on. It is called the Bahari continent. The whole world has 3 continents. The Bahari continent is mainly controlled by humans, and there are 4 humans on it. Empires, dozens of kingdoms and principalities. These kingdoms and principalities are all subject states of the 4 empires. The kings and princes are basically canonized by the 4 empires, and their small town is the domain of a kingdom's baron. The other 2 continents, one is the ancient orc continent, and the other is the mysterious elven continent. The entire world is divided by human, orcs, and elves. There are 3 gods in this world. They are the main gods of the 3 tribes of humans, elves, and orcs. There are a lot of subordinate gods under the 3 main gods. Of course, Ronan thought carefully and guessed that these so-called subordinate gods are probably in harmony. He is almost a demigod, and cannot be called a true god, that is to say, this world does not have the knowledge of higher heavens and worlds, so all demigods are called gods. Advertisement, but even so, the 3 main gods are literally true gods, and even Ronan has to be cautious about this. From the history told by the two, Ronan learned that the elves of the elf land were not native inhabitants of this world, but migrated from another plane. When the elves before 10,000 years first came, they fought against the orcs. 1. There was no human existence at that time, there were only orcs in the entire world, and the orcs were the true aborigines of this world. As for humans, it is said that human beings are a group of apes among the orcs. In the battle before 10,000 years, the elven master god, because he first arrived, seemed to be a defeated person from other planes and fleeing here. He lost to the orc master god, so the elven master god lost to the orc master god. Trapped in the kingdom of god, resisting the attack of the orc main god couldn't enter the kingdom of the elf main god, and the two sides were in a stalemate. The war spread from the upper level to the lower level, and the war between the elves and the orcs broke out. That battle was fought for nearly 100 years. In order to fight for space for survival, the entire world fought was trembling, and the original supercontinent was broken into 3 big pieces. The orcs occupy 2 pieces, and the elves occupy 1 piece. At a critical juncture, the elf lord god came up with an idea. The number of elves is far less than that of the orcs, so he thought of dividing the orcs and secretly transforming them to strengthen the ape family. From here, the main human god also emerged from that transformation. With the help of the elves, humans were completely separated from the orcs. Among them, the first-generation emperor of humans successfully sealed the gods, signed an offensive and defensive covenant with the elves, and occupied a continent of this Bahari continent. After the rise of mankind, the orcs could not hold the two sides uniting and had to take the initiative to seek peace. At this point, the 100 Years' War ended, and it has developed steadily to the present, nearly 10,000 years. Of course, the small frictions are still constant, especially the wars between humans and orcs, which often break out. The orcs don't even mind that the elves compete for living space. Instead, they extremely hate the rebellion of humans. If it weren't for the betrayal of humans, the orcs could definitely fight the elves expelled. Humans also hate orcs very much. After turning on their wisdom, they don't feel that they belong to the same race as the green skin beasts. Instead, they put themselves high. The orcs are all reckless beasts. It is impossible to compare with humans. Both 10 I don't know how many wars have erupted in 1,000 years, and even the god wars have erupted several times. The most funny thing is that in the end it was the elf lord god to mediate, which made Ronan stunned. A good method for the elf lord god. Ronan sighed, but he gave the elves the right to survive in this world just by paying a godhead. He also split the originally powerful orc race into two, making the two fight close to 10,000 years, awesome. However, the elf lord god is willing to pay the price of a godhead, which I can't think of. Ronan was silent. That was a godhead, and indeed, mankind had just risen at that time, and wanted to be a god. What's a joke? Only the quick method of godhead can be used. It can be seen that even the defeated, the elves once had brilliance. Chapter 213 Total War. Start signing in. Human first-generation emperors become gods by virtue of their godheads, far inferior to the existence of orcs and elves who become gods by virtue of their racial beliefs. If there is time, the human first-generation emperor can also do it. With the population of Bahari continent of hundreds of millions, it is not a problem to want to become a god by this. He is such a helper, he has no time to slowly become a god, so he can only take this shortcut. Fortunately, there is a balance between the main god of the elves, otherwise the main god of the humans would have been killed by the main god of the orcs. Ronan got the information he wanted and was about to leave this town. This is not his destination, but before leaving, he can sign in and try to see what kind of rewards the world can get, even if it's just in a small town. You can also see the extent of the reward for signing in this world in the future. System, sign into this town. Ronan said to the system when he was about to leave the town after saying goodbye to the two. Ding. After signing in, congratulations to host for obtaining the magic book, The Secret of Thunder, written by the great magician Ren 260 years ago in this world. Now the Archmage Ren lives in the kingdom of the main human god Akens. Kens is one of the gods. The Thunder Secret Code. Ronan's eyes moved. This Archmage named Ren could become a god of Akens, and his strength was at least a demigod. This magic book written more than 200 years ago would not be too bad. It's worth the effort to study. If it is known by the human kingdoms and even the people of the empire on the continent of Bahari, it will not be crazy. This is the secret of the Archmage Ren, and currently only the Thunder Temple has it, and only the full-time personnel of the Thunder Temple can learn, and it is strictly forbidden to spread it out. Here is Ronan. Is it just worth his effort to study? Well, it is true. After all, it was only the first time he signed in this world, and he was only rewarded by signing in such an ordinary town. I don't know what kingdom's royal city or the emperors of the four empires will get when they sign in. What about better rewards? Advertisement. Sure enough, signing in is the right thing to do. Otherwise, where does he come from so many treasures? After all, he must go to a more powerful level in the future. Just working behind closed doors in the pirate world, I don't know if it will take hundreds or thousands of years to be promoted to the true god, and the true god there are still higher levels of realm waiting for him. Ronan feels that he can never stop his steps towards a stronger path. Especially in this world, after hearing the myths of this world, the elf lord god is a god from outside this world. Can we guarantee that the pirate world will also encounter the invasion of stronger people in other worlds in the future? Just like yourself, the dimensional breaker is not only owned by you. The transcendent civilization is the inventor and creator of this item. Since there is a transcendent civilization, there must be civilizations of the same level and similar. Can also have such an item. All of this is possible, let alone a more powerful existence on it. Ronan thought about some of these things, and thought about the road he would continue to explore in the future. On the one hand, he had already walked out of the town, and flew in the direction of the king and the king directly according to the direction said by Oham in that town. At this moment, the king of Nak is facing a military action. The king is receiving the messenger of the Medila Empire. The messenger asks the kingdom to send troops to the coastal border. The four empires get news, and the Orc Empire once again dispatched a large fleet of ships, carrying a terrifying army of orcs attack the continent of Bahari. This is not a trivial mess. There are only 3 such large-scale military operations in the history of 10,000 years. This is the 4th time. It is a continental-level war, not something a single human empire can deal with. That kind of skirmish. In the war with the orcs, the human master god gave orders. It is absolutely not allowed to allow the 4 human empires and the major kingdoms to dispute again during this period, and they must be consistent with the outside world. This is also what the Nak kingdom has to do. Even if the Nak kingdom is using troops against a duchy next door, it must stop. The king of the Nak kingdom was very regretful. He had already known that he had exhausted his best efforts to defeat the principality before the arrival of the imperial messenger, but he didn't know the news before, and just wanted to save military expenses. The imperial messenger came, and the entire king capital also knew what was about to happen, so after Ronan arrived in this king capital, he naturally also knew such news. I ran into such a big event. Advertisement. Ronan was a little surprised, and then he smiled. However, the fourth full-scale war between humans and orcs. Judging from the results of the 3 full-scale wars in the previous history, the 2 main gods ended up personally. This time it is estimated that there will not be much difference. In this case, I will have the opportunity to fish in troubled waters. Ronan's eyes narrowed slightly. I don't know what kind of rewards you will get when you sign in the kingdom of God. Under normal circumstances, it is absolutely impossible. The kingdom of God is not that simple. But after the war broke out, there was a chance. Maybe, my chance to be promoted to the true god was in this war, but I also have to be careful about the god of the elves, Adelaide, this guy, it's not easy, an outsider. I can achieve this step. Laughing at the humans and orcs fighting each other, the elves are developing wretchedly, don't let this guy end me in the end. Ronan signed in the royal capital while thinking about how to gain benefits in the upcoming war. System, sign to the royal capital of the Nak Kingdom. Ding, sign in successfully, congratulations to host, get a reward. The Annals of Elves. The Annals of Elves is a book from the Adelaide Kingdom Library that records the history of the elves. This reward is an error-free copy. It is very strange that the reward for signing in this time turned out to be a history book, which was a bit unexpected for Ronan, but Ronan was not disappointed, but rather interested in it. The elves in this world are very mysterious to Ronan. Even though they have settled in this world for 10,000 years, they do not leave much information in the human world. Humans only know that elves are not easy to mess with, and the empires. They all respect the elves, not to mention that the main human god owes the favor of the human elves, or the whole human being owes the favor of the elves. Therefore, in this world, there is no such thing as a so-called elven slave, and no one would even dare to have such an idea. In a world with a god, if you dare to do such a thing, the result is definitely better than death. Thinking of this, Ronan walked on the streets of the capital city while taking out the Annals of the Elves to watch. He wanted to take a closer look at what the situation is with this alien elven clan. Maybe he could know something more interesting. Even, Ronan still wondered if he would have the opportunity to sign in at the birthplace of the elves. Chapter 214 World Tree. Secrets of the Elves. This world is also a cosmic background world. According to the records of the Annals of the Elves, in a galaxy far away from this planet, that is the ancestral land of the elves, and they migrated here from there. The history of the elves is as long as 2010,000 years, counting from 2010,000 years. At that time, the elves were just born from the world tree, and civilization had just begun to develop. Along the way, some enemies have also been encountered. Like the indigenous civilizations belonging to that world, the Goblin Clan and the Goblin Clan are very powerful races. They have been suppressing the newly born elves, but with the blessing of the world tree, and the goblins at that time were not as strong as they were later. He was abruptly survived by the elves. After the 10,000 years, the Goblin Clan grew stronger, and even developed the power of science and technology. Relying on the power of science and technology, the Elven Clan was almost wiped out. However, it was at that time that Adelaide, who was then the Elf King, had already reached a demigod after years of baptism in war, and finally ignited the sacred fire and officially conferred a god. Adelaide was a god. This shocked the entire planet, the elves cheered, and the goblins were horrified. However, the upper echelons of the goblins were not stupid. They immediately used the power of technology to transport the new generation of goblins away from space. The elves did not kill much after hunting down. Adelaide was also caught by the strong goblins. In the end, almost all the powerful demigods were killed, and the elves established the pattern of dominating the world. After clearing away the remaining goblin, the elves also accepted the technological power left by the goblins, but the elves are not as specialized as the goblins. More than a dozen 10,000 years have not developed the technological power very well, and even regressed. Now ordinary elves in the elven continent still mainly use bows and swords when fighting. As for why the elves came to this planet, it was because before 10,000 years, they were attacked by the descendants of goblins who had grown more than 100,000. The attack was very strange, and it was not the goblins who came to attack in person. I don't know what method the descendants of the goblins used to attack the elves' parent star at a distance of countless light years, directly destroying the world tree on which the elves depend for their survival. The world tree is the greatest support of the elves. The most important thing in the whole family of elves is the world tree and the Lord God of elves, Adelaide. After the death of the world tree, the world is also contaminated by the weird and evil dark powers, but the elves have not seen where the enemy is, while fighting against those weird ones. While the evil forces were looking for a way out, the elves suffered heavy casualties. Finally, Adelaide found a way out, which was the world in front of them. The elves have migrated here, using the technology spacecraft of the goblins. Under the threat of death, the elves have created a huge spaceship, came to the world in front of them, and started a new life. Advertisement. There are so many records in the Annals of Elves. What happened later is not much different from the history of this world, but it beautifies the help of the elves to humans and demonizes the barbarism and stupidity of the orcs. Call. After reading the Annals of the Elves, Ronan exhaled. The elves were really unlucky. Those goblins who escaped from a dozen 10,000 years would use such weird attack methods to attack their home star from so far away. This ability is not that simple, let alone Ronan now. I guess he will not be able to do such a thing even if he is promoted to the god level. Is it really the power of technology? However, judging from the information recorded in the Annals of the Elves, that evil and strange power is not caused by technological power, but more like a strong person who walks on the pinnacle of individual power. I don't know what happened to the goblins who fled out of those dozens of 10,000 years. This world is a bit mysterious. Ronan looked solemnly. He felt that he might really have to go to the home planet of the elves to see what the so-called evil and strange dark power is. Moreover, if you sign in on the home planet of the elves, you can definitely do it. Get a good reward, right? In the end, he was very curious about what happened to those goblins. What was the attack method that separated countless light years? How good would such a powerful force be if the master was in his own hands? This kind of power can be achieved not only by the gods, is it? Those goblins have gained the inheritance of the immortal? Ronan's eyes flickered, and he was very curious about it, and made a secret decision in his heart. However, if you want to go to the home planet of the elves, you still need the help of the elves, otherwise I don't know where their home stars are. There is nothing wrong with spaceships. I have some of them myself. Although they are small, their speed is definitely much faster than that of the elves. In Ronan's personal space, there are a lot of technological products obtained from the previous check-in. Among them, some space battleships and spaceships are certainly not as big as those made by the elves that can carry millions of people in the entire ethnic group, but the speed is absolutely not slow enough for him to travel in space. Putting away the annals of the elves in his hand, Ronan looked up and looked forward. He saw a group of heavily armed soldiers gathering, thinking about going outside the royal city. It seemed that the orcs had already begun to confront the four empires. Attack. These small kingdoms and principalities, under the requirements of the four empires, also provided support for the war. The first support is of course the military strength, and then there are various logistical support such as strategic materials. These are indispensable, but there is the human master god pressing on it, who dares not to contribute. Naturally there is the supervision of the temple. If it is found, it will inevitably be severely punished. This war has already begun. The fourth full-scale war. I don't know how long this time will last. Maybe, with my participation, it will end soon. Advertisement. A smile appeared at the corner of Ronan's mouth, and then his body moved, and his whole person had disappeared from where he was. In the north of Bahari continent, the ocean coast has become a huge battlefield. This is the sea area that borders the northern orc where the orcs are located. The orcs arrived here for the fourth time in a big ship. Of course, human beings were also prepared for a long time, after all. It has been fought 3 times, and it is no better than the previous small encounters on the ocean. That kind of war can only be fought for a few years at most, but now this kind of large-scale all-out war, in the first 3 times, that time was not a 10th. How many more than 20 years? After each war, the humans and the orcs will die as a result of hundreds of millions of people, the economy is withered, and the population is greatly reduced. On the shouting and roaring battlefield, countless orcs waved their weapons at the human beings. With their red eyes, they held up their weapons and chopped all the enemies they saw into flesh. Compared with the orcs, the phalanx of the human army is more tidy, and the soldiers obey the orders, and the individual combat power may not be as much as the orcs, but on the battlefield of this kind of large-scale war, the rigorous human army has a great advantage. The orcs are extremely brave and still cannot defeat humans in a short period of time. Kill. With a burst of shout, the strong orc made a move. It turned out to be a tall orc with a red skin, flying directly into the air and killing it towards the human side. In order to prevent the strong orcs from attacking the army, the human side naturally sent a strong who can fly, a strong human in silver armor, holding a long sword to meet the strong orc who was killed on the opposite side. With a bang, they fought together violently amidst the humming of gold and iron. But a figure appeared at a high altitude outside this battlefield, quietly watching the two in the fight. The two people on the human side and the orc side are both demigods. Chapter 215 Crazy Sign in Upper Artifact. The battle between the two demigods was very fierce. This was also the first time Ronan saw a desperate fight between demigod-level powerhouses. There was no such powerhouse fighting Ronan in the pirate world. After Ronan had the opportunity to watch the game, he was surprised to find that the combat experience of these two demigods was much richer than his own. Even though he had so many whole cards in hand, if he didn't play the whole cards, he would rely solely on his own combat power. Maybe it's really not the opponent of any one of them. If you really fight, it would be really troublesome. Luo Nan's face solemnly secretly said. He didn't dare to approach. He even felt that the two people who were fighting didn't do their best at all, and they even found themselves dozens of miles away. These two people are also demigods. Obviously they have this ability of. Ronan thought for a while. Instead of approaching, he turned around and left. After he left, the battle between the two demigods broke out. It was far more intense than before, and it could even be said to be a death fight. Before, there was some scrupulousness about Ronan, a strange demigod. Both of them thought it was each other's personnel. After all, Ronan's aura was relatively unfamiliar. After tens of miles away, the two in the fight could not see Ronan clearly. This thought is not surprising. Afterwards, the true gods were paying attention to the two of them, but in the battle between the demigods, the main god seldom took the initiative to intervene. In the previous 3 all-out wars, many demigods died in battle. After Ronan left, the rear camp of the army on the human battlefield suddenly lit up in midair, a figure appeared in the light and shadow, and a man wearing a mage's robe appeared. He first glanced at the two parties fighting fiercely in the sky in front of him, then turned his head to look in the direction where Ronan was leaving, frowning and whispering, "Who is the demigod with a strange breath? I know the breath of an orc demigod, but the breath of that person just now is very strange. Could it be possible that another demigod was born on the orc side? The martial arts of the Orc continent is even stronger than that of the human continent, and it is more advocating that the strong is respected. This can be seen from the individual strength of the Orcs far surpassing that of the humans. Caused by different forms. I have to report this matter to Akins. As the overseer of the kingdom of God who was commanding the 4 human empires to deal with the invasion of the Orc army this time, Ren felt that things were a little bit beyond his expectation, so he gave it to him. The human marshal below said, and he returned to the kingdom of God, and the human marshal also ordered the defense to shrink to prevent the Orc army from attacking. Advertisement. At the same time, the battle of the 2 demigods who fought over the battlefield was also coming to an end. After they gave each other a vicious look with their injuries, they quickly evacuated. After the Orc demigod returned to the camp of the Orc army, he immediately gave the admiral army of the Orc army an order to suspend the offensive, and then return to the kingdom of the Orc main god. Like Ren, he wanted to find the human unfamiliar demigod. The news was reported to Lord Tagum. Ronan, who had left the battlefield, also knew that his traces might have been exposed to both the Orcs and the humans, but he was not too worried. At this moment, he is wandering through the 4 empires of the human continent, signing in the emperors of the 4 empires. No matter what happens later, signing in first may be the most important reward. Even if the worst happens, such as the uncertain factor that humans and Orcs will chase and kill Ronan himself, he can directly turn on the dimensional breaker and leave the world. Can the 2 ordinary true gods chase the pirate world? It's impossible for the true gods to do such a thing. Even the elven lord god from the outside came here from another planet in the same universe, instead of crossing the dimensional realm. But there is a very big difference. To gain the ability to cross the dimension, at least it must be in the realm of immortality, and it must be something that can be done without ordinary immortality. It must be the kind of transcendence civilization. A heaven-defying item such as the dimensional wall breaker is out. Such an item is still the treasure of the town and clan of the transcendence civilization. The immortal belongs to a level above the god level. Although the power gap between gods and demons is not small, they still belong to the same level, which is equivalent to the level of immortals and divided into earth immortals and heaven immortals, as well as golden immortals, but saints the immortal existence of level has surpassed the level of the immortal, and it belongs to the real immortal existence. The saint is immortal, but the immortal has the 5 decays of heaven and man, damn it or die. The saint can basically only be sealed, but will not die, or a higher level shot can achieve the level of killing the immortal of the saint. Exist. Ronan checked in the imperial capitals of the 4 empires. In 4 consecutive places, they are the most famous, prosperous, and most populous cities on the human continent. Even one of these imperial capitals was the first human empire created by the Lord of Humanity, Akins. The place of the kingdom, during the time of 10,000 years, after Akins lived in the kingdom of God and did not ask about the mortal empire. The original human empire gradually decayed, and the current 4 empires were formed, but the ancient city called the Holy City, the imperial capital, remained, and the headquarters of the Akins Church was located here. Even if the 4 empires had a major civil strife, nothing tragic would happen to this city, and the empire that occupied the territory of the city, cleverly set this holy city as the imperial capital. This holy city was used by Ronan as the last place to sign in. Maybe if he came here to sign in, he might be noticed by Akins' eyes, but despite some adventures, Ronan still came. Advertisement. The previous 3 empires have signed in, but they have won me a very good reward. I don't know what good things this so-called holy city of humanity will bring to me. Luo Nan walked into the holy city along the flow of people, with a dangerous face, while his mental power was looking through the sky ring to check the rewards that the 3 empires had signed in before. He said to the system in his mind, "System, sign in this the holy city of mankind." Ding. Congratulations to the host, sign in successfully, get a reward. The upper artifact, eternal mask. The sound of the system sounded, and then a silver-white translucent mysterious mask appeared in the system space, waiting for Ronan to receive it. Upper artifact. Ronan's expression was shocked, and he looked at this mask with some surprises. The high-level artifact. This is a high-level artifact. You know, even if the Xuanyuan sword he signed in before was only a lower-level artifact, although the Emperor Xuanyuan's saber from the Shenxia world, the level is indeed only a lower-level artifact. If it was the Xuanyuan sword from the primordial world, it would probably start at the top at the very least. But now, he actually signed in and got a high-ranking artifact. Normally, the artifact level is calculated based on the world level. There are artifacts that exceed the world level, but there are very few. The world of Pirate World, even semi-artifacts are difficult. Appears, we can see how difficult it is, and Ronan's system check-in is unreasonable. He signed in One Piece World before and obtained the lower-level artifact, a mortal weapon, Xuanyuan sword. Therefore, the system check-in exceeded the so-called world-level limit. Now this is happening again. In fact, on the lower plane of gods and demons, sign in and get the upper artifact. Eternal Mask. Chapter 216 Shaking the Holy City, Pope Shot. Ronan immediately received the high-level artifact, Eternal Mask. Looking at this thin silver-white mask, especially after its roll, he was even more sigh that it was worthy of being a high-level artifact. Eternal Mask. High-level artifact. Function 1. Hide the breath. Function 2. Change appearance. Function 3. The mask has its own true god shield once a day, which can resist the full blow of the upper true god. Function 4. The Eye of Truth. See through all illusions, god and demons level and lower levels. Function 5. Natural secret language, with the ability to understand the language of all intelligent creatures, not exceeding the level of true gods. The high-level artifact, 5 major functions, really shocked Ronan. It was really powerful. Function 1 and Function 2 are the most basic abilities. Function 3 is very outrageous. Once a day, he fully resists the shield of the high-level true god's full blow. With such a mask, Ronan had the capital to protect himself even in the face of the true god in the lower world of gods and demons, although for this mask, it was indeed a little overkill. The Eye of Truth in Function 4 can see through all illusions, that is to say, even if the opponent also has the ability to hide breath and appearance, or other spells such as illusions and illusions, it is a display in front of the Eye of Truth. It seems a bit tasteless, but when Ronan really meets him, he will play a very important role. And Function 5, being able to understand the language of all intelligent creatures is also a very important function. Ronan came to this world and can quickly understand the language of this world because he encountered 2 ordinary humans in the small town before. The mind and consciousness of ordinary humans can't withstand Ronan's invasion, and they have easily gained the language of this world, but in case they encounter those powerful worlds, such as the upper plane of gods and demons, or the upper plane of immortals, or it is directly like the fairy world. Those existences are all gods, demons and immortal level existences. It is very convenient to have this natural secret language. For Ronan's level of existence, being able to understand is equivalent to being able to speak, and there is no problem with communication. As for the gods and demons level and the following levels marked after the Function 4 and 5, this is also very normal. Beyond the existence of the gods and demons, this mask is naturally useless, and for that existence, killing the upper true gods is as simple as drinking water. Even the current Ronan is only at the mortal level, belonging to the pinnacle of the mortal level. He hasn't reached the true god level yet. One can imagine how huge this level gap is. Ronan exhaled for a long time, and then just about to take out the mask and start using it. At this moment, in the center of this holy city, at the huge church with extremely large area, a terrible breath rose. Ronan couldn't help being shocked, but then he showed a clear look. As that Akin's surrogate, the Pope of Akin's church, named Hill-Lavis, is one of Akin's bloodline descendants once left. Although the blood of the gods in his body is almost negligible, but he relies on his perseverance. Students cultivated to the level of a demigod, and eventually became the Pope of the church. Advertisement: this Pope is not a legal profession, but a serious warrior. Yes, a warrior became the Pope. This is the only one in the history of the 10,000 years of Akin's church. The other popes, those were all born in the legal system. Hill-Lavis felt the anomaly the moment Ronan stepped into the holy city. The holy city was his home court. As a demigod, he knew it well. Ronan's entry was like a night in the dark. The light was as conspicuous, and a strange demigod of the same level suddenly appeared in the holy city. This was a huge matter, and Hill-Orvs could not help being solemn. Hill-Lavis immediately rushed out of the study of the church and rushed straight into the sky, looking piercingly towards the north gate. That direction was exactly where Ronan came in. The eyes of the two intersected, there was a crackle in the air, thunder in the void, roaring, and the whole holy city was a sensation at this moment. What's wrong? What happened? Could it be thunder? But this day hasn't changed. Some people in the holy city were surprised. Yeah, Tenton is so angry today, why did he thunder? Well, the people next to him were also curious. No, look, that's the Pope. Suddenly, one of the people exclaimed, pointing to the sky above the church and shouting. The majestic figure of Syllabus was hanging high in the air, majestic. Really, it's the Pope, but what is the Pope doing? Look, the Pope seems to be in a state of battle. Could it be that the holy city has encountered an enemy? Impossible. This is the holy city. It's hard to say. Now when you were at war with the orcs, maybe it was the strong orcs who came to attack the holy city. It's even more impossible. Even in the previous 3 orc invasions, no orcs dared to attack the holy city. How could it be an exception this time? I don't know the situation. Let's go home and hide. You see, the knights have already passed over there. Someone pointed to the street, and a large group of church paladins with solemn expressions were hurried towards the north gate. Seeing this, almost all the people still on the street began to rush home to take refuge in a hurry. As for the safety of the holy city, they believed that the Pope and the knights would definitely handle it. Not long after, when Ronan was facing off with Hill-Lavis, a group of dozens of heavily armed paladins rushed over on the street inside the north city gate, and drew out all the knight swords one by one to kill Ronan. Surrounded by the center, all of them looked at Ronan with solemn expressions, but didn't make any random moves, because they knew that the opponent was at the same level as the Pope, a demigod-level powerhouse, and they wanted to kill themselves and others, almost effortlessly, but as members of the Holy Knights of the Holy City Church, they had to face Ronan. If the Pope issued an attack order, they would not hesitate to take action, even death would not be able to stop it. Advertisement: at this moment, Syllabus had also flown to the north city gate, still hanging high in the air, looking down at Ronan condescendingly, and seeing Ronan as a human face, her heart became cold. Who is your excellency? You have never heard of a demigod like you in the 4 empires. Do you know the sin of trespassing into the holy city? Even if you do such a thing as a demigod, you will suffer from me, the Lord's punishment. Hill-Lavis asked Ronan coldly. Is that how the people of Akin's church welcome guests? Ronan's mouth smiled, and at the same time, his figure flew into the air. The members of the paladins underneath couldn't react at all. They could only watch Ronan ascend into the air and flew into the air in midair. The confrontation, not only them, but even the people in the holy city, some of them noble or powerful, are all paying attention to the situation here. This is a demigod confronting the Pope. In case, if it happens, battle, demigod battle, even the aftermath may destroy the holy city. Of course, as the headquarters of Akin's church, the holy city, Akins may be paying attention to the situation here. This is one of the reasons why the people of the holy city are still safe in their hearts. Another reason is that they treat the Pope. Confidence is gained, and the holy city as the headquarters of the church has been consolidated by 10,000 years. Not to mention that it's hard to say here, it's still difficult for the foreign demigods to completely destroy the holy city, but the casualties must be very terrifying. That's it. Everyone watched this scene nervously, while Hill Lavis in midair snorted coldly. The church is naturally very polite and thoughtful to its guests, but your excellency is not like a guest, on the contrary, it seems to be asking for trouble. Your excellency is a demigod. If you really came here with kindness, would you enter the holy city so hastily? At least, you should also let your breath out of the city to inform in advance, but your excellency didn't do this, but rushed directly into the holy city. Humph. Let me think about it, now the orcs are at war with the humans. Is it possible that you, as a human demigod, have already taken refuge in the orcs and want to come to the holy city to make trouble, so as to achieve the purpose of disrupting the minds of the human army? Ronan's actions seemed very suspicious to Silaves, and after thinking about it a lot, he felt that only this one had the highest possibility, and nothing else could explain Ronan's actions to rush into the holy city so hastily. How did he know that Ronan was here to sign in, and he didn't expect to be a guest? He didn't want to have any friendship with these guys, because he knew from the beginning to the end what he came to this world for. First, sign in and get reward, and looking for an opportunity to advance to the god level. The second point is that in the future, you may even be an enemy of the true god of this world. In this case, there is no need to make false claims with the opponent now. Orcs? Those green-skinned beasts are not qualified to let me take refuge. Ronan smiled calmly. As for why I didn't invite me, there is no need to explain to you. My goal has been achieved, and I should leave. Well, if you want to keep me, you might as well try. Try? Ronan raised his brows and looked at each other with interest, and then he was about to leave. Want to go? Really, my holy city is the place where you want to come and leave? Hill Lavis screamed, stretched out his hand. A golden sword appeared in his hand, raised his hand and smashed it towards Ronan. The golden sword light was like a blazing sun, reflecting the original blue sky. Become golden, the power of the demigod is revealed. Chapter 217 The Kingdom of God in the Starry Sky, Mystery Man. Silavis said he was a demigod. Even after he became the Pope, he still didn't let his practice fall. He encountered Ronan in front of him. In order to prevent Ronan from escaping, he used the sword with all his strength. After all, Ronan was also half-god. God, if you don't need your full strength, you don't necessarily have to stay behind. A demigod who wants to escape is difficult to catch up. Hill Lavis very much hopes to keep Ronan, the guy who trespassed in the holy city. However, although Yijin is tough, Ronan's eyes are still not enough to keep himself, or if he wants to, there is still the possibility of killing Hill Lavis. But here is the holy city of Akins, where the church headquarters is located. Maybe Akins now sits high in the kingdom of God and is looking down on everything that happens here. It is unlikely that he will take action in person, but Ronan dare not really. In the holy city, it's not good to really push Akins out. Even if he has so many hole cards and a few artifacts in his hand, he dare not say that he can really run away in the hands of Akins, the true god. The gap is too big. Therefore, Ronan just looked back at Hill Lavis's attack, smiled slightly, and said, this attack also wants to keep me? Thinking too much. Ronan turned around and punched out, and a red flame fist shadow appeared. G on the huge sword aura with a bang, abruptly smashing the sword aura, and then he moved and flew away quickly. Silavis stood with his sword in a blank face, proudly flying over the holy city, looking at Ronan's leaving back, frowning in his heart. Where did the demigod come out? It turned out to be a human. As the pope of the largest religion on the human continent, he knew very well that all the demigods possessed by mankind were basically taken under the command of Akins, and most of them went to the kingdom of Akins. Only a pope like him remained in the mortal world. Ren came from the kingdom of God to the mortal world because of the outburst of an all-out war between the orcs and humans. But now, there is still a human demigod who has become a slippery fish, and also has a conspiracy against the church. Such a thing happened during the all-out war between humans and orcs. It is really not a good thing. Humph. Hill Lavis snorted and then turned back to the church headquarters. First, he contacted Akins and reported what had happened here to Akins, although Akins might have paid attention to the previous battle. However, as the pope, he must take the initiative to report. I see. You continue to coordinate the war against the orcs. I will handle this matter. Akins' majestic voice rang in Silavis's mind and then disappeared. Hill Lavis was relieved when he heard the words, and then respectfully said, "Send the Lord God." And in the starry sky at this moment, about 10 light years away from this planet, a small planet with a beautiful environment stands quietly in the starry sky. This planet is very small, only 1/10 the size of the planet where humans live. The strange thing is that this planet is not in the galaxy, and there is no star shining on it, but all kinds of animals and plants in the planet are still luxuriant. In the sky, a ball of light like the real sun is suspended. Inside the ball of light, a huge the incomparable sky city is located in it. Here, it is the kingdom of Akins, or not just this sky city, the entire planet belongs to the kingdom of Akins. Akins' kingdom of God is very hidden, more than 10 light years away from the human planet. Even if the orc main god wants to find it, it will take a long time, but Akins transfers the entire kingdom of God every time. The empty, dark and deep starry sky makes it even more difficult to find. It's not only the kingdom of Akins, but the kingdom of the orc god Tagum is also similar. The two gods of Adelaide, the main elf god, have never seen the kingdom of God, and I don't know how it is. At that time, there was a war with the orc main god, and even a war of the kingdom of God. The two kingdoms of God met in the starry sky. After a battle, they almost lost both sides, and were finally mediated by Adelaide. Advertisement on the sky city of the kingdom of God. There is a large stretch of vast and magnificent palaces, one of which is very grand, and this is the residence of Akins. In the hall of the temple, Akins sits high on the throne, and there are 12 shining seats on both sides. Most of the seats are seated with a demigod. These are the demigods under Akins, and he is also of God. What do you think of this human demigod who popped up suddenly? Akins, who was on the upper throne, said calmly. Below, on a seat on the left-hand side, a strong human man raised his head and said, Master God, this human demigod suddenly appeared. Obviously it was not what we expected. It may have been hidden after becoming a demigod. Get up, now it's coming up during the war against the orcs, there must be some ulterior motive. My lord God, I think so too, another thin old man wearing a long robe and holding a staff also said, and I feel that this guy should be Tagum's method, just like the elven lord god in order to deal with Tagum, and the way we humans judge the orcs is the same, Tagum. He probably wants to do this too, so that we humans will be disintegrated from the inside. Huh, Tagum thinks too much, a female demigod on the right-hand side said coldly. A human demigod traitor just wants our human world to collapse. It's impossible. Nor can't underestimate the opponent. This human demigod can easily block the full blow of Syllabus, but its strength is absolutely not bad, we still have to be careful. The demigod next to him is very solemn. Said, Master Lord, I feel that the war initiated by the orcs this time may be unusual. Well, Akins lowered his head to ponder, then raised his head and said, It is true. The previous 3 full-scale wars launched by Tagum against the human world have failed. This time he is still making a comeback, and looking at his posture, it seems that he really wants to fight the human world. When he came down, this guy didn't know what hole cards he had, he was so bold. Akins discovered through the development of the current battle situation in the human world that the war the orcs launched against the human continent this time was far more ambitious than the previous 3. Almost all the combat power of the entire orc continent was sent out. Tagum wanted it all done in one fight. He dared to do this, he was definitely dependent on it. Now that Ronan appeared, he felt that he had seen some of Tagum's thoughts. This war is unusual. Ren has gone down, so you should also prepare, go down to the battlefield to support, pay attention to safety. Akins said in a deep voice, the Lord God order. The 10 demigods stood up and saluted Akins in response. Advertisement when the demigods under his hands were preparing to enter the mortal world. Akins sat on the throne and thought for a while, then took a deep breath and looked in a direction outside the temple. Adelaide, will you take action this time? Even though it is an ally with the elf Lord God, Adelaide did not fully face the humans in the first 3 full-scale wars with the orcs. This guy is very sinister. It seems that he wants to watch the humans and the orcs fight and consume the potential of both sides. However, in the face of the furious Tagum, Akins had to be hostile to it, and the relationship between the two could never be eased. At the same time, in the starry sky in the other direction, a very small planet also stands in the dark and deep starry sky. This is the kingdom of the orc god Tagum, and there is no eye in this kingdom. A city in the sky like Ken's, but sits completely on the ground. In the entire land of the kingdom of God, there are various wild beasts fighting everywhere, and there are some very powerful orcs hunting the beasts. These are basically the descendants of Tagum and his large group of orcs and demigods. These orcs were born in the kingdom of God and use various resources at their disposal. They are very powerful, far more powerful than the orcs on the planet where the mortal world is located. Powerful. Give me an order to make all the orc warriors in the kingdom of God prepare to go to the mortal realm to participate in the battle. This time, I will kill all the human continents. Humph, Akins, your end is here. In a temple made of countless beasts and bones, a wild and violent voice came out. This person was the orc master god Tagum. The Lord God commanded. The blood-red skin, the voice of the 3-meter-tall orc god Tagum fell, and the more than 30 orcs standing below were all respectful responses from the orcs and demigods. As the orc god, he became a god much earlier than Akins, and he almost caught up. Adelaide is here, and the number of demigods accumulated from this is far less than Akins can compare. Even in the battle with Adelaide before 10,000 years, dozens of them have died, but they still remain. More than 30 demigods. With a confident smile at the corner of Tagum's mouth, he has already issued a death notice to Akins in his heart. This time he has a huge hole card, and he can definitely kill Akins, a traitor, even if Adelaide does. It cannot be stopped, and even Adelaide itself may be destroyed in this war. Because more than 10 years ago, a mysterious existence in the sky contacted him, and the other party said that he came from the ancestral land of the elves, in order to hunt down Adelaide. The other party agreed to cooperate with him to kill Akins, and Tagum needs to use this to force Adelaide out and find the kingdom of Adelaide. Then naturally the other party will take action to eliminate Adelaide. Rider. Before finding the kingdom of God in Adelaide, the opponent will never stand by and watch the battle between himself and Akins. Only by driving Akins into a desperate situation can Adelaide be drawn out. Akins, and this insidious fellow Adelaide, I see how you guys died this time. Tagum chuckled in a low voice. Chapter 218 War, Traces of Cthulhu. In the human world, an all-out war between orcs and humans has completely broken out. It is no longer the occasional one or two demigods fighting over the two armies as before, but a large number of demigods fighting over the entire planet. Whether it is over the human continent or over the orc continent, there were demigods on both sides catching and fighting each other, and the fights were fierce. At the same time, the main gods of the two sides also cast their eyes on this peak war. The collision of two sharp and majestic eyes in the outer space of the planet has already affected life on the entire planet. I saw that the sky was dark and gloomy. From time to time, the thunder flickered, the lightning flashed, and the rumbling sound in the sky also contained the shock from the starry sky. The terrible shock even made the entire planet tremble. In the elven continent, the forest is much denser than the human and orc continents. Among the luxuriant forests, there is a huge forest city, and in the city there is also a huge and majestic palace, a middle-aged elven man wearing a handsome face. Crown, holding a scepter, staring at the dim sky with awe-inspiring eyes. Wong, this time the battle between the two sides seems to be far more intense than the previous few times. Our elf continent has also been greatly affected. What should we do now? An elf woman holding a bow and arrow walked up to the man and asked respectfully, with a hint of eagerness in her eyes. I have to be anxious. There has been a big tsunami in the coastal areas of the elf continent. There have also been terrible earthquakes in the inland areas, especially in the mountainous forests, and there are too many lightnings. Many forests have even occurred due to lightning strikes. After the fire, countless elves rushed to fight the fire, and many elves even died in the fire. Assemble the army to go to various places for rescue. As for the others, we still can't control it. The elf king said in a deep voice. This war, Lord Adelaide has already predicted, everything is under control. At the last moment, the adults will intervene. However, I think that both humans and orcs have invested much more in this war than before. Will they still accept the mediation of Lord Adelaide this time? The woman said worriedly. Tag him this time, his determination seems extremely firm. HMPH, this is not for him. If you don't accept the mediation of Lord Adelaide, you have to face the cooperation between the Lord and Akins, the elf king snorted. Well, then I'm going to mobilize the army. Well, go. When the female elf went down, the elf king here was about to return to the palace study. Suddenly a voice came in her mind. Collinster, get ready. I will send the gods to the mortal world, and you are responsible for receiving them. Advertisement, Master Adelaide. The elf king Collinstead his face immediately and respectfully responded, Lord Adelaide. Collinster, in this war between humans and orcs, the elves will also participate in the war to help the humans. Don't get lucky. Tagum thought I didn't know. Humph, this guy actually got in touch with the evil god, really damn it. What, Cthulhu? The elf king suddenly raised his head in horror and the inconceivable fear flashed in his eyes. As a demigod who was promoted in the ancestral land of the elves, he had a long lifespan and had experienced the catastrophe of the original ancestral land. He has seen it with his own eyes. Unexpectedly, Tagum had contact with the heretic god, and this immediately made the elf king feel an urge to escape from here. It was not that he was timid, but that the heretic god was really terrifying. Collinster. As if feeling the fear in the heart of the elf king, Adelaide's figure suddenly lifted up and shouted in a deep voice. We have been driven out of the ancestral land and already have 10,000 years. After so long, the evil god is still there. I'm not going to let us go. Now that we are here, do we continue to escape? Are there other planets that are more suitable for my race? I searched for 10,000 years, and the surrounding star fields hundreds of light years have not been searched. Find the right one. Where can we escape? Then, what should I do? Lord Adelaide, that's a Cthulhu. The whole body of Collinster's forehead was sweaty, and his mind seemed to think of the tragic scene of the ancestral land. The huge and boundless world tree that took root on the planet was polluted by evil spirits and turned into a tree of death. The branches of the world that were waving all over the sky seemed to be like a tree of death. The tentacles of the Cthulhu are generally terrible. Countless elves are cut into pieces of meat. Even the demigods are not immune. After all, it is the world tree, once the source of the birth of the elves family. Itself is equivalent to a true god-level existence, only but there is no sense of autonomy. But after being polluted by the Cthulhu, he has been completely crazy, turned into a true god level belonging to the Cthulhu, and it is too terrifying. There is only one battle, Collinstay. After the time of 10,000 years, my strength has reached the peak of the lower god, and I'm almost going to be promoted to the middle god. The evil god who polluted the goblin clan, I guess the strength is almost the middle god level. I could be promoted in 100 years at most, but unfortunately, the other party didn't give me time. Adelaide's voice was full of regrets. Now he did not have the confidence to defeat the evil god, but unfortunately there was no time. The other party had already found him. Can we win the battle? The whole elves are here. The continuation of the race, my lord, Collinstay replied sadly. If you can't escape, this battle must be fought. If we win, we will return to our ancestral land and return this planet to humans and orcs. We lose. Haha, if we lose, this planet will also be in Cthulhu. Fallen under the pollution, damn Tagum, he never knows what kind of terrifying existence he provokes. Adelaide said in a low voice. I understand, Lord Adelaide, I am now ready to go to war. Advertisement. Taking a deep breath, Collinster suppressed the fear in his heart, and his eyes became firm. Leave the war in the mortal world to me, with me and your other gods, even though Tagum has many demigods under him, but together with the human demigods, it is enough to deal with it. As for the rest, I will leave it to you. Well, I'm paying attention to Akins and Tagum, you just need to be ready to lead the ethnic war. Adelaide said solemnly. I hope Akins can hold on for a while, and I will step up time to break through. As long as it successfully reaches the middle god, that evil god will not be able to defeat me so easily. I hope everything goes well for your promotion to the middle god. Will do. Ronan didn't know what happened to the three gods, or even the existence of the evil god. At this moment, he was walking into a small city. This small city belonged to a kingdom, not the kind of royal city, but just one very ordinary town. But even such a small city was affected by the war, and the air in the city seemed to be full of tension. The impact of this war on the entire human race is too great. Ronan looked at the people in a hurry around him and shook his head. This world was far more cruel than the world of Demon Slayer Blade he had experienced before, and even more cruel than the pirate world. Perhaps it was a coincidence. In this world, such a huge war that swept two continents happened unexpectedly. If you let him know that the elf continent is also ready to go to war, it would be even more surprising. But this war, maybe it's the opportunity for me to enshrine the gods? A smile suddenly appeared at the corner of Ronan's mouth. At this moment, his brows couldn't help but he turned his head and looked in a direction. There was a dark corner alley, and there was a strange grunt from the alley. Loud, Ronan looked at it, and with his demigod vision, he immediately discovered the anomaly. What the hell is this? Ronan was astonished, even he felt a little horrible in the alley. Chapter 219 Devouring Flesh and Blood, Horror Evil. In the dark part of the alley, there is a terrifying monster. This monster is made up of countless humans. Yes, Ronan saw a human passing by the alley and seemed to be attracted by the weird sounds in the alley. He just turned his head and looked inward. After a glance, he walked towards the alley with a dazed expression, and then was swallowed by this monster and merged into himself. Therefore, this is indeed a flesh-like monster formed by the fusion of dozens of humans. The difference is that the arms of dozens of humans are combined and turned into long whips of flesh and blood, from time to time from the entrance of the alley. Take those passing by humans abducted, continue to integrate into themselves, and has a weird ability, is extremely deceptive, and is not afraid of being discovered by others. Ronan is a demigod with extremely powerful mental power. His perception is naturally far superior to that of ordinary humans. Only then did he discover the existence of this monster, but it was only a few hundred meters away. If it is farther away, even he will not be able to find this monster. The presence. How can there be such a monster in this world, a monster formed by fusion of human flesh and blood? Well, the combat power doesn't look very good, but judging from the aura after it has swallowed a few people just now, its strength is increasing with the number of human beings, and improve. Ronan's eyes moved, and he was ready to take action to solve this monster, but he couldn't let the monster that appeared suddenly mess up. He was also planning to live in seclusion in this city for a period of time, while paying attention to the battle between the two main gods, humans and orcs. Ronan moved from a few hundred meters away to the entrance of the alley in an instant, without hiding his own breath. The monsters in the alley discovered Ronan's arrival for the first time. It seemed that the human beings who came over seemed to be of high quality, and the tentacle whips composed of those arms immediately waved in excitement and rolled towards Ronan. I can feel my breath, but I can't think about whether I am someone it can't provoke. It seems that wisdom is very low. Looking at the tentacles that swept over, Ronan thought about it calmly for a while, then stretched out his hand a little, and a fire flashed out and fell on the monster. In an instant, the monster did not even scream, and was hot. The flame burned out. It is conceivable how terrifying Ronan's power of fire is. This is the power of the shards of the power of the phoenix, combined with the development of Mera-mera Fruit to the limit, and even the breath of the sun in the world of the Blade of Ghosts. Blessing. Even if this breathing method is not a high-end exercise in Ronan's eyes, it still has the blessing of the power of fire. This kind of flame power, under the use of his demigod, can burn a city with just a little spark, but under Ronan's control, it only works on this monster, so he just blinked. With great effort, this monster is gone. Ronan smiled slightly, nodded and was just about to leave, but at this moment, a terrible scream sounded from the center of the city, and the whole city was awakened by this terrifying roar. Ronan looked up and saw that the location of the city lord's mansion in the center of the city had collapsed in a roar. Numerous tentacles rose to the sky, waving arbitrarily, beating all the surrounding buildings, and countless people died. Advertisement. There is actually one more, and it is already so strong that this kind of power aura is already approaching the peak strength in front of my demigod? Luo Nan's expression changed, not because he was frightened by the monster in front of him, but by the opponent's way of fusion and evolution. This is just a city lord mansion, even though the city lord mansion is all the high levels of this city, the strength the powerful, but the strength of those people is not too high, but there is a very far distance from the demigod, but under the fusion of this monster, it has become the peak strength under the demigod. According to the statement of this world, it should belong to the existence of the paladin level. If this is for him to swallow all the people in the city and merge, will he be promoted to a demigod immediately? Ronan's face became cold. This kind of monster is definitely not what this world should have. According to the history of this world that I understand, this kind of monster has never appeared even before 10,000 years when the orcs were dominating. And 10,000 it hasn't been in the history since years, so, this kind of monster has only recently appeared? Ronan was not busy walking the mainland during this time, but after arriving in major cities, he would go to places like libraries to learn about the culture and history of the world, etc. With his demigod brainpower, he can almost now it can be called the top historian in this world. Ah, help, help, monsters, there are monsters. Gosh, run, child, my child, mom, save me. Listening to the shouts of the people in the city that kept coming from his ears, Ronan's figure was already flying towards the city lord's mansion, where a terrifying monster hundreds of meters high was arbitrarily destroying everything around him. At this terrible juncture, Ronan's figure flying into the sky was particularly eye-catching. The moment when countless people who had fled underneath saw Ronan, their eyes lit up and they were able to fly. At least they were human masters at the paladin level. So these people immediately fleeing in the direction where Ronan flew. The monster that destroyed the large buildings around the city lord's mansion and swallowed thousands of people also found the direction in which these people were escaping, and suddenly roared. Dozens of tentacles waved towards this side, trying to catch the escaped food. Go back. The city is not large, with a total population estimated to be only tens of thousands. The monster in front of you, including the people in the city lord's mansion, has swallowed thousands of people. It is still searching and devouring ordinary people, and it is about to swallow over 10,000. Now, almost half of the entire city has been destroyed. Advertisement rumble. Rumble. Amidst the roars, this monster swept and swallowed humans while waving its tentacles, while crushing the surrounding buildings strongly, and came towards Ronan. One of his very powerful main tentacles swept towards Ronan in the sky, as if not afraid of Ronan at all. This monster's brain is not good at all, or it has no brain at all, it is purely used to destroy ordinary humans. Call. The strong wind howled, the main tentacles hit Ronan head on. Disgusting monster, go to hell. Ronan snorted, stretched out his right hand, and a long knife emerged. The red light flickered on the blade, the flame rose, and the knife slashed. With a sneer, Ronan's main tentacles were severed by Ronan. Roar. The intense pain stimulated the monster's nerves. It roared, and the entire Roshan-like body rolled towards Ronan. Half of the city was pushed out of a broken tunnel, and then with a bang, the whole Roshan bounced straight up. He ran into Ronan in the sky. It can fly, yes, its current strength has reached the level of this world paladin, the strongest level before the demigod level. Ronan raised his brows, and then he was surprised, but this kind of monster really has no brains. Do you think you can pose any threat to me if you bump into it? In front of Ronan Hengsa, his expression was indifferent. He looked at this hundreds of meters tall, really like a mountain-like monster lifted into the air and hit him, and then he swung it lightly. Chapter 220 Beheaded. Cthulhu's Prying Eyes. One knife. With just a single stab, this monster that had reached the level of a paladin was beheaded by Ronan in half. The huge and terrifying flesh and blood body crashed down, smashed countless buildings, and at the same time made the entire city. Everyone felt a loud bang, and the earth was shaking. After seeing Ronan slaying the monster, the surviving humans in the city cheered. The monster was finally dead. Then I saw the miserable scenes around him. One by one, they were extremely sad. The monster killed too many people. Countless old people and children died in this catastrophe. Of course, many adult men and women died, but in comparison, fewer people died than old people and children. Ronan looked at the two huge monster flesh and blood and frowned. In his eyes, the two flesh and blood seemed to be not dead, they were still creeping close, wanting to reform the appearance of a monster. As this monster with such a tenacious vitality, it was cut in half by me, and it hasn't died yet. This monster really surprised Ronan. What kind of strength he is now, the peak demigod, and not just as simple as a demigod. The Zanpakuto he uses has the ability to damage souls, and the blade also covers the rules. Power. The power of a rule of the intact master is the true god, but even if Ronan only has the power of a little flame rule, it is not the monster in front of him that even a demigod can resist. But at the moment, it seems that the other party is really not dead. If the other party is given time, if the two flesh and blood merge together, it is really possible that they will be resurrected. Not quite right. Ronan's face became cold, and his figure had already fallen toward the monster. The monster in front of him was really a bit wrong. It was not just a matter of strength. It was the biggest problem that he couldn't kill with the force of the rules. Even if he has not completely enshrined the gods, he knows that the only thing that can fight against the rules is the rules. So, is the essence of the monster in front of me actually a rule? Or it is a product created by a certain god, with the power of certain rules? Ronan thought, and then stretched out his hand to pinch the monster's flesh and blood in front of him, and then his figure flew up and flew away from the city with two tufts of flesh. Advertisement: this city has been destroyed, he will naturally not stay here anymore, but is ready to find a place again. But before that, he still wanted to find out what the hell was this monster in front of Byakugan. And just when Ronan left this small city with two tuples of monster flesh and blood, other parts of the entire human continent, in cities with large populations and gatherings of people, there were murders of flesh and blood monsters, and countless people were not sheltered by the strong. The city was destroyed, and only those big cities, the big cities with paladin-level existence, were barely able to keep safe, but even so, those paladin-level warriors and wizards also died a lot in the battle with monsters. The ongoing war between orcs and humans has brought many variables. On the human continent, the monsters that appeared in the city and swallowed countless flesh and blood began to destroy and kill frantically. It was too late when El Ravis got the news. He was very angry about this, but there was no good way. There was no accident in the holy city. While sending the knights directly under the church to clear out the monsters that were looting everywhere, he was also reporting to Akins. Akins, who received the news, was also very angry, and immediately transferred the two demigods on the main battlefield back to the rear of the humans from the front line to suppress those monsters. It won't work if you don't suppress it. There is a big problem in the rear of mankind. Let's not talk about other things. It is impossible for the soldiers on the main battlefield to fight the orcs wholeheartedly. Moreover, the major human powers in the rear are also responsible for the army on the main battlefield. As for the supplies, something went wrong now, and there was a shortage of supplies. This is a big deal. Judging from the previous 3 wars, this war is obviously impossible to end soon. How can it be ended without fighting for 10 or 8 years? This is a war between 2 continents. The 2 sides continue to mobilize troops and materials from the rear. The battle tests not only high-end combat power, but also the victory and defeat of ordinary soldiers. Both sides are doing their best to reduce the other's active strength. Ronan didn't pay attention to the situation on the main battlefield at the moment. He found a valley and stopped, and threw the 2 big pieces of meat in the valley, just as he watched the 2 big pieces of meat reintegrate. Under Ronan's gaze, after the flesh and blood that had been cut in half reintegrated, but in an instant, he roared again and waved his tentacles towards Ronan and beat him. Ronan's expression was cold. Sure enough, it's really resurrected. If this kind of monster was not created by a god, I don't believe it. Ronan shot again. This time, he waved Zanpakuto to cut the monster into dozens of pieces, and then watched it reintegrate again. The vitality of this monster is terrifying. It can still be resurrected after being cut into dozens of pieces. However, Ronan found that his strength has declined after being resurrected. From the perspective of breath, it has been reduced from the original peak of the paladin. The appearance of the mid-paladin. Advertisement. Fortunately, it is not unlimited resurrection. Such fusion resurrection also has a price. After all, energy conservation is required. Ronan smiled indifferently and nodded. As long as it's not a brainless resurrection like a bug, even a god can't create something out of thin air, or that it can create something out of thin air, it is done using divine power consumption, and it is also one. This kind of energy conversion is nothing more than. Ronan continued to experiment. He caught a few wild beasts, and after being swallowed by the flesh and blood monsters, the opponent's strength again showed a tendency to improve. Flesh is the key, the most important means for this monster to improve its strength. Ronan nodded, and then a fire burned the monster into ashes. Even if it was a product of the rules, it could not hold the flames that contained the same rules. After it was turned into ashes, the resurrection could no longer be continued. It's all gone, and resurrect AP. In that case, my fire ability happens to be the nemesis of this monster? Ronan smiled at the corner of his mouth, then clapped his hands, rose up into the sky, and flew towards the distance. At the same time, at the moment Ronan burned the monster to death, in the distant starry sky, a mysterious person hidden in the dark shadows suddenly raised his head, revealing a terrifying face, crazy and bloody. This power of rules is not the power of rules of this universe, rules of fire. No, the energy level of this power of fire is too high, and only the power of rules of the demigod level has reached the destructive power of the rules of the true god level. Who the hell is it? Could it be the highest law? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Maybe it is possible to find him. We must find him. Chapter 221. The Wizardland. On the human continent, Ronan traveled all the way without a specific destination. He was mainly looking for other flesh and blood monsters, and wanted to study the secrets behind this monster. After many studies and dismembering several monsters, he finally determined that there is a controller behind such a monster, and this controller may not exist in this world. Has foreign gods intervened in this battle between humans and orcs? Haha, things have become more interesting. With an inexplicable smile at the corner of Ronan's mouth, he burned the monster in front of him to ashes, and at this moment, a figure flew in the sky not far away. This is a silver-armored knight with a thrilling momentum, holding a spear, and flying quickly from a distance, looking full of power. But when he arrived in front of Ronan's eyes, his expression changed. He first glanced at the monster ashes on the ground, and then looked at Ronan with a solemn expression. Could it be that you are the human demigod who suddenly appeared? For this, it is not difficult to guess that as the demigod of Akins, he personally participated in the meeting that Akins opened in the Kingdom of God before. The human demigod who he did not know before him, only said in the meeting, "The one I've been." He had come to clear the monster after receiving the news that there was a monster raiding here, but he did not expect that the monster had been solved by Ronan. Originally this should be a good thing. If the monsters are resolved earlier, the human rear will be stabilized earlier, and monsters from all directions have been eliminated. However, he is now facing such a strange demigod as Ronan. There was still some dignity in his heart. After all, in the eyes of the demigods of their Akins camp, Ronan was very likely to be the backhand arranged by Tagum. But what is more strange is that if Tagum arranged for him, why would he take the initiative to help humans clear the monsters? This is very unreasonable. Advertisement? Yes. When Ronan heard the words, he nodded. Your Excellency ran for nothing. This monster has been solved by me. Humph. The silver-armored man snorted and did not appreciate Ronan's actions. Do you want to use this method to lower our vigilance? Unfortunately, your previous trespassing into the holy city has already raised our vigilance. Tagum gave. What good is it for you to make you a human demigod betray the human camp? Did you know that if you become an enemy of Akins, the final outcome is beyond your imagination? Well, since you don't believe it, I don't want to explain anything to you. Ronan smiled indifferently. The other party didn't believe his words, and he didn't need to explain to the other party. He didn't belong to either human or orc. He had the idea of fishing in troubled waters. Humans regard him as an orc. In the future, I guess the orcs are also a little confused, but it's okay. It doesn't matter what they do, no matter what they think, it doesn't matter much to them, as long as the two sides don't join hands to deal with themselves. This of course is almost impossible. The two sides have already hit the real fire. It is true that the dog's brains are going to be played out. Where can there be time to take care of themselves? At most, the human side is wary and guarded against himself, and the main energy is it's still on the orc's side. In other words, for Akins, a lonely demigod is not in his eyes. Now Ronan has not done any other destructive actions to mankind except for his previous trespassing into the holy city. Sure enough, the next words of the silver-armored knight also proved this point. Seeing that you have not done any substantial damage to mankind, I will spare you this time. Master Akins has been watching this continent, and I hope you won't let us down. The knight said in a cold voice. According to their intelligence and the control of Ronan's recent traces, Ronan has indeed not done any actions that harm human interests. From this point of view, even if Ronan has some ulterior ties with the orcs, and can't make enemies rashly, otherwise, if a demigod wants to hide or run away, he and a demigod can't keep people at all. It takes at least 3 to 4 demigods to be able to completely take Ronan. However, the frontline battle situation is tense now. This time, the deployment of manpower to deal with the monsters has put the human army on the front line in a defensive trend, so he does not want to make extravagances. After the silver-armored knight had spoken, he left here. Ronan watched the opponent leave, then his face was condensed, and he looked up towards the starry sky. There really seemed to be a majestic gaze watching here. Is it Akins? I wonder if you already understand the hidden shadows behind this flesh and blood monster? Advertisement, Ronan whispered with a smile at the corner of his mouth, then turned and left. This time, his destination was not the human continent, but flew directly from a high altitude towards the direction of the wizard continent. The big cities on the human continent and some famous mountain peaks and other places have basically been signed in by him. Now he is going to the wizard continent to sign in. He has not forgotten his main purpose of coming to this world is to sign in. Obtaining the sign-in reward. As for whether he can be a god in this world, it is absolutely impossible to let it go if there is a chance, but if there is really no chance, he will not force it. He thought that there was a great opportunity before, but through the flesh and blood monster, he learned the shadow hidden behind it, and he felt that things were a bit tricky. Stop and go. After a day, Ronan crossed the sea and finally reached the continent where the elves were. This continent was originally occupied by the aboriginal orcs of this world. It has been occupied by the elves for 10,000 years. In the hands of the elves, this continent has changed from the original barrenness to a beautiful and dense forest. The place is even more beautiful than the continent where humans are located. Sure enough, the elves are really an exquisite race. It was the first time Ronan saw the appearance of an elf in a dense forest. Well, the continent was basically covered by forest, and there was almost no desolate land. In this forest, he saw a team of elves organizing manpower to fight fires and rescuing various creatures such as monsters that were injured by disasters. This should be a settlement of elves. Ronan saw the existence of a lot of elven cabins. Some young and old elves are also helping to carry various supplies. Most of the strong elves are holding the equipment is busy. Ronan did not show up, but after a little observation and understanding of the elves, he signed in and took the rewards and left this forest. His purpose was not these small settlements, but those elven cities, which have been human history books. The king of elves mentioned in. The elf city has existed before 10,000 years. It was created by the elves of the ancestors when it first arrived on this planet. It has been preserved until now. 10,000 years is still very prosperous and you can definitely sign in and get very good rewards, even better than the sign-in reward of the Holy City of Humanity. Ronan is looking forward to it. Chapter 222 Invitation and Cooperation of the Elf King. System. Sign into this wizard city. Standing in a beautiful city like a garden, Ronan had a sense of extreme presence. The elves passing by didn't notice his existence at all, or completely ignored Ronan's existence. This is already the 8th city he signed into the elf continent. Most of the cities in the elf continent are well preserved. Unlike the human continent, most of the cities have been rebuilt many times. Even the holy city has also been renovated several times during the 10,000 years time, and most of the buildings in the city of the elves are basically composed of trees. The trees are old and each city is very old. This also makes Ronan's sign-in reward very rich. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to host. Get reward. God level magic talent, water. The God level water magic talent, God level, shows that people who integrate this talent can at least cultivate to the demigod level. If luck is good, there is no problem with the gods. Although Ronan doesn't need this kind of thing himself, this thing is very precious and can be used by others in the future, such as the women who are still in Pirate World. As Ronan walked out of this elven city, he checked the rewards he received from signing in at the elven continent during this period of time. The rewards obtained by signing into the 8 large cities are not bad, and they can be compared with the god level talent just obtained. What god level wind magic talent, god level fire magic talent, etc. There are also several artifacts, such as the thunder scepter and the dark sacred sword. What made his eyes shine the most was one of the items, the blood of the high elf. This is a bloodline medicine. After direct injection, it can transform human bloodlines into high elves' bloodlines. You must know that most of the elves on this continent are ordinary elves. The high elves are not talking about these, but when the world tree was still there, those elves that were directly bred by it were called high elves. The elf king of this continent, the major elf elders, and the elf main god himself are high elves. Most of the remaining elves are not bred by the world tree, but descendants of high elves, and their talents are inferior to those of high elves. Some. When these ordinary elves reach adulthood, their cultivation talents can support them to cultivate smoothly to around level 7 or 8. The power level of this world is from level 1 to level 9, then the holy level, the level of the paladin, the demigod in the back, and the demigod in the end. God level. It is more difficult for ordinary elves to reach the holy level. Some people who practice hard can reach the demigod. Only the remaining high elves can reach the demigod. In 10,000 years, no ordinary elves can reach it. More than half gods, it can be seen how much influence the blood of the elves has on cultivation. The lifespan of the elves is long, and the limit is not small. Of course there are limits to high elves, but even so, the upper limit is still god level. For ordinary people, god level itself is impossible to achieve. Having such an opportunity, it is not beautiful. Ronan feels that this high elf bloodline plus a god level talent can forcibly mold an ordinary person into a god. Under this +1 situation, becoming a god is much smoother than a god level talent alone. Advertisement. You must know that Ronan himself is only a demigod now. Well, it seems to have been discovered. Ronan moved his gaze away from the reward, and raised his head to look into the midair in the distance, where there was a dazzling light from far to near. The person who came is not someone else, but the king of the elves. The elf king Collinstay only confirmed after seeing Ronan. It turned out that Lord Adelaide had said that it was true. He didn't want to believe that a human came here secretly. In the elven continent, he wandered around so many cities without being found, until the gods glanced over and found his trace. Collinster took Adelaide's entrustment to meet Ronan in person, in order to reach an agreement. Thinking of the terrible evil god, he frowned. The human being in front of him was only a demigod. What influence could it have on this battle? Hello humans, Elf King Collinster greets you. Although there was some disapproval in his heart, since it was the task assigned by Lord Adelaide, Collins only had to complete it. You are, the Elf King. A demigod elf, wearing a crown and holding a scepter, can only be the Elf King. Ronan looked at the Elf King and smiled back. The other party treated each other with courtesy. He couldn't be the same as the Pope who faced Akins before. That guy didn't care about anything when he came up. He didn't bother to talk to him. What, but now the Elf King hasn't done it directly, could it be said that the Elf Master found something? It is very possible that even the evil existence hidden in the dark is coming for the elves. Your Majesty Collins, my name is Ronan. I take the liberty to come to the fairy land this time. I hope it doesn't bother you. Ronan said politely. Not at all. Collinster smiled and said, the environment of the elf continent is beautiful. Mr. Ronan can come here to play at any time, but at the moment humans and orcs are fighting, won't Mr. Ronan go to the war? I don't have much to do with the humans. Let's beat them. I still have my own business to do. Advertisement. Ronan shrugged his shoulders. The human side didn't wait to see him at all. Wouldn't he have to go on the pole and find himself uncomfortable in the past? In this case, Mr. Ronan, how about coming to my Fairy King city as a guest? Collinstay invited. My pleasure. Ronan was also not polite, and he was not afraid of Collist's bad thoughts. Under the true god, his shots would have no effect at all. He could reach one or two by the true god himself. But at the moment, the elf lord obviously has no time to control himself. After the two arrived in the city of the elves, under the warm invitation of Collinstay, after a sumptuous meal, Collinstay put forward the task given to him by Adelaide. The Lord God wants to invite you to join a battle. For this, we are willing to pay a piece of water of life as a reward. Collinstay said solemnly. The water of life? Ronan raised his brows. He didn't respond much to Adelaide's invitation. On the contrary, he was a little curious about the so-called water of life. Yes, the water of life. This is a treasure from the world tree, condensed from the world tree, has the effect of life and death, and even has a huge effect on the gods. Collinster said with some pain in his eyes, life, the water of life. The entire elves are not much anymore. Only Adelaide's kingdom of God still has some stocks, but not much, and the water of life is still out of print, and the world tree is already cold. In the future, there is basically no hope of getting the water of life again. It is really used a little less. I don't know why Adelaide would pay such a god-level treasure in order to win a demigod. Can I know in advance what kind of battle it is? Ronan touched his chin and asked. He wanted to know what kind of enemy he had to face before deciding whether to agree to such a request. Things are good, but they have to be famous to use them. In other words, why didn't he get this kind of god-level treasure after signing in so many times before? Thinking about it, Ronan's heart moved. The elf city in front of him hadn't signed in yet, so he immediately called the system in his mind and signed in directly. Ding! Sign in successfully. Congratulations to host. Get reward. Fruit of the world tree. The fruit of the world tree is the fruit of the world tree that breeds high elves. The fruit obtained by the host is mature. The host can let the high elves in it be born at any time. After birth, it recognizes the host as a master and as a servant. Chapter 223. Deal with the evil god. The fruit of the world tree? Ronan is somewhat interested in this. This is the fruit of the world tree, which can be directly bred into a high elf. The potential is very huge. With his own cultivation, the possibility of being a god in the future is extremely high, or it can be done in all likelihood. God, you can be a great helper for yourself. When Ronan was overjoyed, Collinstay on the other side pondered for a while and said, since Mr. Ronan asked, I must tell you some information first, otherwise Mr. Ronan would not agree, right? Ronan nodded. That's for sure. You don't say anything. You don't even know the enemies you need to face in battle. Why do you believe these words? Just rely on the so-called water of life. Things are good. But you also have to see if you can take it forever. It's like this, Collinster said solemnly. I want to come to Mr. Ronan to know that our elves are life from other planets. A tragic event happened on our original planet 10,000 years. An evil god polluted us. The surviving world tree, the entire planet cannot continue to survive, and has to migrate here, but the evil god is still chasing after it. Now after 10,000 years, he finally found it here. Cthulhu. A ray of light flashed through Ronan's eyes, and he felt ashamed. Sure enough, the shadow hidden behind the flesh and blood monster that he found on the human continent really came from outside the sky, and it was also the enemy of these elves, before 10,000 years. The enemy, I went to 10,000 years and found it here, and has a deep hatred with the elves. This time I want to come to Adelaide and I am not going to continue running. However, Adelaide asked himself to cooperate. He thought he was a demigod against the evil god? Ronan is a little puzzled about this. To be honest, he knows his own ability, but why does Adelaide think he can fight against the true god? This is unreasonable. If any demigod can fight against the true god, then there are so many demigods under Adelaide, and Akins and Tagum also have a lot of demigods, but there are only 3 true gods, between the demigods and the true gods. The gap is too big. A true god is basically invincible by relying on the kingdom of God. Even if he leaves the kingdom of God, a true god can hang dozens of demigods at will. This is no joke. However, at this moment, Adelaide is really looking for his own cooperation to deal with the evil god. What is he thinking? Advertisement, Master Elf King, you and I are both demigods. Do you think a demigod can participate in the battle between the true gods? Is the noble master god too high on me? Ronan looked at Collinster calmly and said. Hearing Ronan's words, Collinster had a sigh of relief. In fact, he himself was puzzled by Adelaide's approach. Why should a demigod intervene in the battle between the true gods? What is different about Ronan? Collinster himself wondered how to answer Ronan's question. Well, I am also very puzzled by Lord Adelaide's approach, but Lord Adelaide is very confident of Mr. Ronan. He said that if you join us, we have a great chance of winning against that evil god. Collinster, I can only say that. Ronan is a little speechless. This Adelaide is a bit messy. Doesn't he understand himself very well? It's not right. How long has he been in this world, and only a few days since he has been in the fairyland? How much can he know about himself? He has only made so many shots in this world, once fought with the Pope of Akins, and made several shots when dealing with flesh and blood monsters. How much can he know about himself? What's the strength of that evil god? Ronan asked. Ronan didn't know much about this evil god who might be behind the monster of flesh and blood, but he learned a little from the monster of flesh and blood. And the elves must know a lot about this evil god. After all, the first 2,000 years have fought, and although they failed and escaped from the Ancestor Star, they knew more than they did. This evil god is a middle-level god. According to Lord Adelaide's news, what came this time was not its main body, but an incarnation of a lower god level. But as a true god, the opponent can be in a real body at a critical juncture. When it comes, Lord Adelaide has also made some preparations, and I also ask Mr. Ronan to not be nervous, Collinster said, also feeling a little embarrassed. A demigod who actually wants to participate in the battle of the true god, if it is his own, I definitely refused. Although rejecting a true god would definitely make the gods angry, nothing is more important than my own life. Ronan was also a little speechless when he heard this. He is a demigod, and Adelaide wants to let himself deal with a middle god, even if it is an incarnation of a lower god level, but you also said that the other party can be real at any time when it is critical. This is too difficult. Do you want to refuse? Ronan thought about it. If he refused, it would be fine. This is not something that a demigod can participate in. Is Adelaide wanting to send himself to death? Advertisement, why don't you and the elves are not relatives or reasons? However, Ronan's heart at the moment wanted to answer the answer, not only for the so-called water of life, but for the lower god incarnation of the evil god. Even if it is an incarnation, it is also the incarnation of God. Just kill the opponent. This avatar, acquiring the power of the law and the opponent's avatar, the power of the blood and the divine body, etc., are all treasures. Ronan felt that this was the opportunity for him to become a god. He originally thought that the opportunity for the gods was a battle between humans and orcs. He also wanted to wait for Akins and Tagum to fight until they both lost and he came out to pick up the bargain. As a result, now, Adelaide asked himself to cooperate with the evil god, and he knew that the opportunity to conjure the gods actually fell on the head of an evil god. If this is the case, then we will win Adelaide, but we must also take precautions to prevent Adelaide from crossing the river and tearing down the bridge. Ronan checked the items in the sky ring. All the hole cards are there. There is no problem, then do it. Okay, I agree. You tell Adelaide, you say I promised. Ronan looked at Collinster and said in a deep voice. Collinstead suddenly stunned. You really dare? That's a Cthulhu. He thought Ronan would definitely not dare. After all, you, a demigod, dare to move the idea of a true god. Really, this is no longer a daring thing. It's a big problem, but it's going to die. Collinster looked at Ronan deeply, and now he felt that Ronan in front of him was definitely not simple. He could not be a simple demigod. He really dared to fight against the true god. No wonder Lord Adelaide would be so. Value the person in front of you. Is it really possible to leave the evil god behind this time? If Lord Adelaide breaks through the middle god and kills the middle god body of that evil god, that would be great. When the true god falls, the world tree contaminated by it will be able to return to normal again, and maybe his family can really return to the Ancestor Star at that time. Thinking of this, Collinster suddenly became excited, and became even more polite to Ronan. Chapter 224 Star Wars. Face Cthulhu. After Ronan and Collinster reached an agreement on behalf of Adelaide, But only 2 days passed, the war between the human continent and the orc continent broke out, the most terrifying battle. This battle is not on the mainland, but in the starry sky. A large number of demigods from the two sides are participating in the battle. If it is on the mainland, no matter whether it is the human continent or the orc continent, it is estimated that it will not be able to withstand the outbreak of this degree of war. That was the battle of dozens of demigods. In the starry sky, the number of human demigods is small, and they are pressed and beaten by the orcs and demigods. Fortunately, the demigods of the elven race arrived at this time, which relieved part of the pressure on the human side. The two sides fought in the starry sky and kept fighting. Day and night, the ground forces ceased fighting, waiting for the result of the battle in the starry sky. People in several empires have felt that the final result of this war may affect the strategic direction of the two sides on the ground, and even affect the outcome of the two sides. It is conceivable that the intensity of this battle is much greater than that of previous battles, but the duration should be much shorter. The battle in the starry sky continued, but at this moment, Ronan on the elven continent received a message from Collinster. Adelaide asked Ronan to go to the starry sky, an asteroid belt in the galaxy ahead, where he was there. At that point, there was a trace of Cthulhu. Finally found it. Ronan nodded, and with a movement, he flew high into the sky, towards the stars. While flying, he checked his various hole cards. After all, this time he was facing the true god, and he was still a true god who could descend at any time. Fortunately, he had enough cards, and it was Adelaide who was fighting the evil god head-on. It is to assist from the side, and just look for opportunities in secret. In the asteroid belt marked by Adelaide, countless meteorites are floating in space. A handsome figure in white clothes stands proudly on a huge meteorite, looking at a meteorite that is also floating on the opposite side. On the meteorite, standing a gloomy figure in a black robe. Adelaide, I didn't expect you to have the courage to show up. Well, this is just your incarnation, no wonder you dare to face me personally. The gloomy figure smiled lowly, looked at Adelaide and said, Advertisement. The evil god Euler, you actually chased here, after damaging our clan's world tree and ancestor star. Are you still unwilling to let our clan go? Adelaide said with an ugly face. Hee, how can I rest assured if you don't destroy all of your elves? Especially you, Adelaide, it seems that you are about to be promoted to the middle god. Okay, I will come. It's timely, otherwise, it's really hard to deal with if you are promoted to a middle-ranked god. The evil god Euler chuckled, and then waved his hand. A dark force full of evil spirits struck Adelaide, darkness light. This little trick is useless to me. Adelaide snorted, stretched out his hand a little, and a green light curtain appeared in the air, blocking the direction of the dark power. Boom. The green light curtain shook, but it also blocked the attack of the dark light. Well, yes, Adelaide, it seems that you have not been lazy these years. Your power level has been so high. I remember that when you ran away, you were half dead by the evil tree. I can face my attack head on. Euler's mouth curled up and he looked at Adelaide in his spare time. He didn't feel ashamed of being blocked by his own attack, because it was really just a temptation for him to shoot at will. If the other party can't even handle such a simple move, then he doesn't need to say anything. It's okay to directly kill the opponent's kingdom of God. Euler, you look down on me too much. Adelaide looked at the opponent with a cold face, with anger and resentment towards Garal in his heart. His body in the kingdom of God has also entered a critical juncture. He has been stepping up breakthroughs in recent times, and even hesitating at all. At the price, he used a lot of treasured resources to make breakthroughs, and now, at the most important juncture, he must find a way to hold the opponent and create time for himself. Thinking of this, he turned his gaze and looked in another direction. There, a figure was approaching quickly, not someone else, it was Ronan. Regarding Ronan, Adelaide didn't pay much attention. He was just a demigod, but when he accidentally scanned the elven continent and found Ronan's figure, he found a terrifying force in Ronan's body. This force uttered horror. It was a force of the law of the flame system, and the artifact on Ronan's body also gave him a great surprise. A demigod actually possesses several artifacts. Although he doesn't know the functions of these artifacts, he can still see it, which is absolutely not bad. So Adelaide continued to investigate Ronan, only to find that Ronan's strength had definitely surpassed the boundaries of ordinary demigods, and even reached the level of ordinary gods. Advertisement. The gap between the demigods and the gods was originally insurmountable, but he felt a heaven-defying horror of killing gods in Ronan. This made him have to take it seriously. It just so happened that he also needed to hold Garal, so he thought of forming an alliance with Ronan, because the incarnation wanted to hold Garal, and the body had to make a breakthrough, so he spoke to Collinster and let he reach an agreement with Ronan on behalf of himself, and he did not hesitate to use the precious water of life as a bargaining chip. Sure enough, Ronan agreed. I'm here now too. This is the battlefield between him and Garal. Originally, there was no confidence to hold the opponent with incarnation. Now that Ronan joins, it should be enough to hold the opponent, unless the opponent actually comes. However, I want to use Garal's arrogance to deal with himself, who is only the lower god, and he is only an incarnation, plus Ronan, who is only a demigod, is unlikely to come to life for this. Sure enough, Garal, who saw Ronan's arrival, almost laughed. Ha, Adelaide, you are really too depraved. Looking at your eyes, do you pin your hopes on such a demigod? Ha, it's really ridiculous. Under the shock of divine power, even in space, Garal's laughter spread far away. Ronan flew expressionlessly to stand on a meteorite not far from Adelaide. Hearing Garal's laugh, he did not express anything. There was no anger. After all, the other party was a true god and qualified. Smiles disdainfully at a demigod. The three stood in a triangular position. Ronan glanced at Adelaide and nodded slightly. Adelaide also nodded. Although this was the first time the two met, they had passed through the Collinstay Gully before. No stranger. Guler, this avatar of you today, don't want to leave here alive. Adelaide shouted in a deep voice, then violently shot, and rushed towards Guler. Dare to take the first move. Looking for death, Gural said angrily, and then he also killed Adelaide. As for Ronan on the side, he didn't pay attention to him at all. Chapter 225 Conferred God, Season Finale, Rumble. Even in space, when the true gods are fighting against each other, there are bursts of roar in the universe. This is a sound that reaches the soul, and this is a sound that shocks the spirit. When Adelaide was fighting Guler, Ronan's eyes flickered and his figure slowly faded. When he reappeared later, he was already behind Guler. Gural was shocked. This human being is only a half-god. Why is the speed so fast, almost equivalent to the movement speed of the true god? He had to set aside a part of his mind to guard against Ronan. Even if he is a middle-level god, his incarnation is only at the level of a lower-level god. Fortunately, the incarnation of Adelaide he faces is only capable of reaching the level of a lower-level god, and he can suppress the opponent. Just as the three were fighting in space, the body of Adelaide was already being promoted towards the middle god and the spirit gods. Hum. A peculiar buzzing sound resounded throughout God's country. It seemed that the whole world was making sounds, and the whole universe was making admiration. Adelaide began to be promoted to the middle god, and the godhead in his mind was promoted from the lower god to the middle godhead, which caused a shock to the origin of the universe. The godhead of Adelaide possesses the laws of nature. Therefore, the natural laws and the original laws of the universe are inspired to give Adelaide the greater authority of the laws. The gods are equivalent to the administrators of the universe, and the laws they possess are equivalent to the authority. The lower gods, the middle gods, the upper gods with full authority alone, and the supreme gods with all authority are the rulers of the entire universe. The supreme god is equivalent to the lord of the universe, and the gods of other ranks are equivalent to the gods of the supreme god, helping to manage the universe. And this is just one universe, one heaven and one realm belonging to the heavens and all realms. And it's only the gods and demons level. There are higher world levels above it, and breaking through the limits of the universe level is the most difficult thing. When Adelaide started to be promoted, Gural, who was in battle in the asteroid belt, suddenly changed his face. Damn it, Adelaide, it turns out that you are actually hiding in the kingdom of God to be promoted to the middle god at the last minute, damn it. Gural roared. Ha 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 ha, Guler, don't be so angry, it's coming soon. After a while, my body will come to meet you in person, don't worry. The avatar of Adelaide laughed and formed a sharp contrast with the angry Gural, and Ronan, who moved from time to time to pressure Gural, was also in danger. Adelaide, do you think you can really be promoted to the mid-level god? Gural looked cold and looked at Adelaide fiercely and said, since you are looking for death, then I will fulfill you. Boom. An extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted, and the incarnation of Gural's god changed, abruptly transformed from a human form into a giant monster waving with tentacles. This is his body. A monster like a giant octopus. Unlike ordinary octopuses, his size reaches millions of kilometers in length. Each tentacle can easily crush a planet, perpetually in the starry sky of the universe, just like a star. The black squirming sun just didn't shine. The length of millions of kilometers, as soon as it appeared, the entire asteroid belt was squeezed away. Countless meteorites were attracted by the huge gravitational force caused by their terrifying size, and they gathered towards its body. After touching its body, was shaken into cosmic dust. Advertisement, hey, is this the body of this evil god, really terrifying? While resisting the terrifying gravity of the giant octopus true god body, Ronan quickly retreated, looking at the terrifying figure of the other party. He was also shocked. Ronan can retreat, but Adelaide cannot. He knows that Ronan must retreat. It is very rare for a demigod to put pressure on the opponent in the previous battle. Several shots even made Gural incarnate. Panicking his hands and feet, he took the opportunity to pull back a few moves, but now that the Gural's mid-level god body is coming, it is obviously not a demigod that can deal with it. Adelaide looked savage. His promotion had reached the final juncture, and Gural could never be destroyed. It is impossible to prevent me from being promoted. Adelaide's avatar let out a low growl, and then rushed towards Gural's body. Blast. With a loud bang, the incarnation of the lower-level gods exploded. Even the middle-level god Galal was also blown off by such a terrifying spontaneous explosion. Damn it, Adelaide, I must kill you, Galal roared in pain, and then the broken shot grew again. He didn't have time to find Ronan, who had retreated. To him, this was just a demigod Ronan, really like a small bug, although it was disgusting before. He has been for a long time, but now the most important thing is Adelaide. He must prevent Adelaide from being promoted. Otherwise, a mid-level god of the same level will be born, and he will still be his mortal enemy. Is it absolutely not one to him? Good news, hoo-hoo. Guller waved his tentacles, and his huge figure flickered and moved quickly in one direction, and that direction was where the Adelaide Kingdom of God he had explored. In the starry sky, after losing the trace of Gural, Ronan's figure appeared. Seeing Guler's departure, Ronan smiled slightly. It was obvious that the other party did not put himself in such a small person. In my eyes, this is my own opportunity. He looked at the giant tentacles left by Gural below, and his expression changed. On this thing, can he sign in? This broken tentacle was very huge. Ronan quickly fell towards the tentacle. After landing on its surface, it was like standing on a huge land of flesh and blood, but the earth was shaking violently. A part of the divine body did not become dead flesh when it was broken, and even if this broken tentacle was given time, it might become a monster. System. Sign in. Ding. Congratulations to host. Sign in successfully. Get a reward. A fatal blow. Critical strike. The power of the highest god level, with only one blow, can kill any life below the highest god. The power of one blow, the highest god level, damn it, awesome. Ronan's eyes suddenly brightened, and the reward this time was so terrifying, but it was right, it was signed on top of the divine body of the middle god, and it was justified to have such a reward. Hey, with such a whole card, I won't be afraid of the middle god. Ronan smiled and turned his head and looked in the direction of Adelaide Kingdom of God. In Adelaide's divine country, Gural had already arrived, and with a bang, he directly hit the divine kingdom, almost smashing the entire divine kingdom to pieces. Adelaide, who was in the promotion state, was suddenly hit by this bombardment, and the promotion was interrupted. You know, the avatar blew up just now and he has been damaged. It was a last resort. It was necessary to delay the speed of Gural's arrival in the kingdom of God. Adelaide's body ultimately failed to reach the god in Gural. It was only half an hour before China was successfully promoted to a middle-level god. It was really only such a little time. For a god whose life is close to eternity, it took only half an hour to blink, but now he has become Adelaide. His biggest regret. Adelaide gritted his teeth and looked at the huge existence outside the gods. Even though his kingdom was extremely strong, he couldn't hold it when he was hit by such a huge true god's body. Advertisement thousands of tens of thousands of kingdoms of God are not as big as Gural's body, so how can it withstand the impact of each other? Just when Adelaide was desperate, a figure appeared behind Gural, Ronan. Ronan's figure, compared with Gural's body size comparable to a super large planet, was really the gap between the sea and a drop of water, but Gural still discovered Ronan's arrival. Damn worm, you still have the courage to show up, ha ha ha, Adelaide has been interrupted by me for promotion. You dare to appear in front of me without running away. Are you desperate? You know you can't escape. Want to kneel down and beg for mercy? I won't give you a chance to survive, so let me die. Gural's magnificent voice was proud. After all, he successfully interrupted Adelaide's promotion. He was still the strongest god in this starry sky. A demigod like Ronan was not released by him at all. In his eyes, but thinking of the obstacles he had caused to his avatar before, he was still preparing to kill Ronan. So, one of his tentacles lashed towards Ronan with the power of evil and darkness. Die. In response to Gural's attack, Ronan looked calm, but said a dead word lightly. Suddenly, the universe is silent. Boom. Gular's huge figure was eaten, and then it was blown into pieces of meat, covering the entire starry sky. Dead, dead. Adelaide, who had already closed his eyes in despair, suddenly noticed the disappearance of Gural's breath. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to find that Gural was dead, and the eyes of Ronan were suddenly filled with astonishment. At this moment, Ronan, after killing a middle god Gural, saw a godhead left behind by his death. He suddenly smiled, and after he caught it in his hand, the law was swallowed by flames. The power of the flame rules has been continuously improved, and the authority of the laws of the universe has been continuously improved. Ronan was officially promoted from a demigod to a true god. A flame system godhead was condensed by him. It's just the flame type godhead. I have to be promoted to immortal. The god spirit system and the sage body type go hand in hand. There is a long way to go. There are still many things to do in the future. As for now, go to the Adelaide Kingdom of God to sign it. Ronan, who became the next god, smiled confidently, and then fell into the Kingdom of God in Adelaide. System. Sign in. Ding. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to host. Get a reward. One supreme godhead. End of the book.